Okay, I think we are live also now on YouTube. Can someone go ahead and check on YouTube, make sure we're live? Happy birthday. Thank you. My birthday technically is in a couple hours, but um you let that dude speak too much. I got a migraine. Yeah, my sort of take on it, at least in the moment being in the debate is like I don't think it was a great look for him when he was like flailing and yapping on and on and on. Even Jake was getting annoyed. So I could have interrupted like every 2 seconds, but that would have just become us over talking each other repeatedly. And then I don't know that that would accomplish anything. I mean, the way he reacted to my cross examination and every single question I asked him, every single point I raised, I think was instructive as to how he felt. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a time and place to interrupt people. I feel like when, I mean, you guys can tell me, did he not just come off as like very obnoxious? I debated Matt Nuclear just now. We're about to react to it on the stream, so enjoy the 25. I am not 25. That's crazy. I'm turning 24 in 2 hours. I'm not even 25. Turning 24. Reminds me of the Trump Biden 2020. I should have said, "Will you shut up, man?" I should have pulled that Biden line on him. Or I should have said, "Quiet, piggy." I've been waiting to say that to a Trump supporter. It was 85% him talking. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Which, I mean, y'all are biased in my favor. Was that a good look for him? Was that a good look for him to just be yapping and yapping and yapping and not answering a single thing I say and bringing up 10 different points? Because in the moment I was like, I can interrupt him every 3 seconds when he interrupts me, but I don't know. That just seemed a little bit. Um, yeah, desperate is the word. Like he seemed very frantic, and his ego was already boosted, so that's not a concern to me. Um, we watched the debate on stream. You cooked. Thank you, Evan. None admitting religion being a failure. Oh shit! Thank you, official QZ for the galaxy. Let's get started watching this. Can someone head over to YouTube and make sure that I'm live on YouTube as well? Hold up. And I'm gonna be eating while we do this, so don't mind if I don't talk as much. He tried to little bro you with the MMA stuff. Oh man, if we can actually get that boxing match set up, that'd be awesome. Is my lighting a little bit weird right now? Hold on. This monitor is fucking annoying. I can't get my light out from like behind it. It's like very weird. Hold on, let's change the mode maybe. Is that a little bit better? I don't know why it's like there's highlight here and here. You see Naima's and Parker's 2v2 debate. I didn't finish it. YouTube is fine. I checked it. Yeah, don't abide. Dude, we'll get to this. We're going to watch it all. What did Dukhan? What's up, Nathan? Don't spam, please. Who is he? Like literally eating? Yes. Yes. I haven't watched it yet. We're going to watch it back right now, and I'm going to eat and just chill, and we'll do some commentary, and then I'm going to hop off. So it should be chill stream for today. But in case anyone missed it, you can now watch with me as we all suffer together. Bro's whole personality is being obsessed with Trump. This is my favorite thing when MAGA is like, why do you care so much about Trump? It's not like he's the president. Oh. Sorry you said you would honor it? Honor what? You did good tonight, thank you. A lot of the people complained about him over talking. That's what I'm saying. Like even Jake, the moderator, a couple times was like, hey Matt, you need to stop talking. So and this is maybe just my default in like heated situations where people are like start screaming and talking really fast, my like instinct is to just chill out and calm down, because sometimes I feel like the audience picks up on energy as well, and if they see someone frantically screaming and just repeatedly over talking other people and the other person is more relaxed, I feel like that gives across different levels of confidence. But I don't know. Did Matt remind you of Ben Shapiro? No, Ben Shapiro is way smarter than Matt. But let's get started. Fallacy of decorum. I don't think it's a fallacy. I think there's different ways you can engage. Because honestly, the waste of energy it would have been for me on every single point to be like, actually, like at a certain point you can see me just rolling my eyes and laughing, because it's like with him, he just has a pre-prepared speech that is like not addressing anything I said. So my logic was, let me just wait him out, let him fucking run out of steam and then respond. But let's watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Rattlesnake TV debate night.
Audio all good? How old is Matt? I think 19.
We've got a great one for you today. We have got Adam Kahn representing the Democrat side and Matt Nuclear representing the Republican side. You may recognize these gentlemen from some recent Jubilee videos.
By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I don't have my YouTube chat pulled up. He started arguments in the opening statement. Yeah, hold on. Is there a way I can watch my YouTube live chat on my phone while I'm live on my laptop? I don't know. I got some OBS plugin and I can't see my chat on OBS. I guess this works. Okay, let's see what's happening. When's your birthday? Who did you debate in person? I did not debate in person. I debated on Jake Rattlesnake's channel. My birthday is in a couple hours. I watched the whole thing. Dude went on about nothing. Even the host seemed to hate the way he went about it. A lot of the older dudes in the chat constantly got annoyed with him. Him constantly talking over. He was literally the Kirk play. Yeah, let's watch though. Your TikTok freezes a bit. Is my TikTok freezing? Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to play, I'm going to eat, we're going to watch, and I'll pause intermittently when it makes sense to pause. And I have my YouTube chat pulled up on my phone. So that should work. Seems better now. It's fine now.
Okay. Have gone pretty viral, and they're going to be debating about political violence. Is it worse on the left or is it worse on the right? Is that right? Did I get that prompt right?
I think radicalism.
Or radicalism in general, but yeah.
Radicalism. Yeah. Is it worse on the left or is it worse on the right? Is it worse with the Republicans or is it worse with the Democrats? So we'll just quickly get you guys to introduce yourselves for those of you who haven't met you before, starting with Adam.
Sure. I'm Adam. I'm a progressive political commentator. I do news and debates as well. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else where people talk about that stuff.
And Matt?
Yeah, I'm a right-wing conservative political commentator. You can find me on TikTok. I do live debates pretty much daily. You can find me on X, Matt Nuclear. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, all of that.
Fantastic. Without further ado, we'll kick it over to Bruce.
And now, for the thousands in attendance, let's get...
You could have been more aggressive during the cross-exam, not gonna lie. I could have been. The thing with Matt is, like, that doesn't do much, right? Because you'll bring up a point to Matt, and then he'll be like, what about these other 10 things? And then if you try to address one of those 10 things, like, what about these other 20 things? So engaging with Matt's whatever rhetorical games he plays is like a lose-lose situation. So my logic was let him wear himself out and then just respond and sort of let him... There's a phrase, like, you let someone talk so much that they hang themselves with how much they're talking. Again, it's different when you're in the call itself versus if you're watching it as an audience. But in the call itself, I feel like he seemed really frantic. Like, that's the word I got to take away from this, is like very frantic.
Ready to rumble!
Okay, fellas, the rules of the debate are going to be 5-minute opening statements. Adam, you are going to start the opening statements. Matt, you will go second. And then when we're closing off the closing statements, Matt, you'll go first. And Adam, you'll get the last word. If at any point you guys feel as though you need to appeal to the moderator, if somebody is over-talking too much, or if you feel like your questions aren't getting answered, or if you feel like the conversation's getting derailed away from the point, then you can feel free to appeal.
Also, in the world of clips, like the how long is this? Almost 2-hour debate. I don't know how many people are going to watch this full 1 hour and 48-minute debate versus... just like clips I post on TikTok, or I'm sure he's going to post something too. I don't know.
To myself. And with that, Adam, you got 5 minutes on the clock.
Cool. So when we're talking about which party's radicalism poses a greater threat to this country, I think there's an obvious answer there. I can only think of one political party in this country that has put people in handcuffs for expressing opinions they don't like. I can only think of one political party in this country that has punished people for following the law and exalted people for breaking the law. It's the Republican Party. Under Donald Trump, the radicals are not the fringe. The radicals are not just a faction on the rise. The radicals are the establishment. These aren't people who want slightly different tax rates or modest reforms to existing programs. They're anti-American lunatics. People who see the Constitution as a roadblock rather than a roadmap. People who attempted a coup in 2020 and have plans to do it again. People who on a daily basis are desecrating what it means to be American. What Matt would call radicalism in the Democratic Party is still a relatively small group. This is a handful of elected officials in a sea of moderate and center-left politicians. And when they do come to power, like Bernie or AOC, their actual influence is watered down by the party. I appreciate all the birthday wishes. I'm technically still 23 for the next hour and 40 minutes. Party apparatus and the political process, which they actually abide by, unlike Trump. So slow down. Is this too fast? Is my brain rotted for thinking this is actually kind of slow? I can put it back to 1x speed if this is too fast for people. It's fine. Okay.
Even if I granted Matt's ridiculous premise that the Democratic radical ideology is somehow more dangerous than MAGA's ideology, only one of these groups actually has power. But I don't grant your premise, Matt. The radical elements of the Democratic Party have plenty of great ideas. Single-payer healthcare, paid leave for new parents, infrastructure projects. These are all good for our country. I know you were very eager to talk about Zoran Mamdani specifically, but even there, your claim holds no water. I noticed the right loves to speak out of both sides of their mouth here. Apparently, Mamdani is a dangerous radical who's going to change everything, but he also can't get anything done. You can't have both. And let's be honest, there is nothing dangerous or radical about increasing housing supply or raising taxes on the wealthy or reforming the permit process to help small businesses. At worst, a couple of his policies are what I would call suboptimal. Not radical, not dangerous, and certainly not anything near the insanity coming from the White House and the modern Republican Party.
Okay. My turn.
All right, that was 2 minutes, but if you cede your time, Matt, you've got 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, no, I mean, when it comes to political radicalism, we've seen obviously a 1,000% increase in violence against ICE in this country. We've seen people gearing up tactical gear and attacking ICE facilities. We obviously.
By the way, that's a lie. Thank you, Debate Doc. Technically not my birthday yet. I shouldn't have put that as a description, maybe. But there hasn't been a 1,000% increase in violence against ICE. The White House has asked where they got that number. They never substantiated it. And independent analyses show it's like 25%.
See, so the political assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was actually a study done recently by the CSIS. It came out. If we're talking about recency and radicalism, recency, leftism has been the most violent, right? And this is a record high. We're seeing what has been going on with the Antifa attacks, right? When it comes to Zoran Mamdani specifically, because you mentioned Zoran Mamdani, I mean, the ridiculousness when it comes to the contradiction of we are going to expand the housing market whilst also disincentivizing the building of new units makes absolutely no sense. If I am going to be rent stabilized, there's going to be a rent freeze. I have no incentive to build. Okay, the reason why I don't have an incentive to build is because I can't recoup the costs. This is the reason why a lot of landlords have vacancies in New York. You think it's intelligent to want to be a landlord that has a vacancy for no reason? The reason why it's vacant is because they can't afford to, one, renovate it, and then recoup the cost through rent. They just can't do it. Okay, you can't be pro-business and propose a $30 minimum wage. That's stupid. Okay, the issue with minimum wage is that leftists like to say, well, if we increase the minimum wage, people will be able to afford everything. Well, if I now have to pay a random crew member at McDonald's $30 an hour, guess what? I'm going to also have to probably increase prices or lay off workers. So is that really pro-business when prices increase with their wage? That doesn't really make much sense either. The government.
He's too excited. This is an opening statement. That's what I'm saying. Like, I was getting coked out energy from him here.
Own grocery store plan. It's pretty radical. It's been tried in the Soviet Union, Romania, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela. It absolutely sucks. Empty shelves. People running around with tasers. We saw it in Kansas City, Missouri. They allocated $17 million in city funds for a government-owned grocery store. Completely collapsed. And by the way, you can't be pro-business and support government-owned grocery stores. If I'm a small business and I have a profit margin of 1 or 2%, and I have a government-owned grocery store opening up next to me that pays no property taxes according to Zoran Mamdani, okay, and is selling items below market price, I lose customers. That's not pro-business. Okay, so all of Zoran Mamdani's policies are horrible. And the idea that if you increase taxes, it's going to inevitably lead to higher tax revenue is also economically illiterate. That's not proven true. There's something called the Laffer curve that was proven by Arthur Laffer. What ends up happening is tax rates at 0% obviously generate zero revenue, and tax rates at 100% generate zero revenue. And if you bring them even higher, 90, 80, 70%, guess what? That's going to disincentivize people making that sort of money. People can leave. We live in a free society. Okay, so radicalism has been very prominent when it comes to the left.
He's on the Vyvanse method. That's crazy.
We've seen what's been going on with ICE. We've seen what's been going on in Chicago and all these big cities. We're seeing the
true. I doubt he wrestles. Look at his build. I was surprised when he said that. I'm also kind of a lankier person, but in boxing, having a lankier build is there's a way to do that. But in wrestling, I feel like being built like that is just not workable. I don't know. But I mean, he said he wrestled, so fair play. Can I say something? You can say whatever you'd like.
The calling for the abolition of ICE because of what? Because they're enforcing immigration law and 8 U.S. Code 1325. You can't illegally enter this country. You guys haven't been assassinating political figures. Apparently Democrats are more likely to support political violence and political attacks. So yeah, the violence has been very much prominent with the left. And we can also talk about Epstein, so I know everyone wants to talk about it. What about Stacey Plaskett? Getting messages from Jeffrey Epstein during a House Oversight Committee hearing and taking instructions on how to, interrogate Michael Cohen, right? What about Hakeem Jeffries, the quote New York City's Obama, who tried to get a dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, his campaign tried to get him to have a dinner with Jeffrey Epstein, even 4 years after he was convicted of, soliciting, prostitution from a minor. I mean, we can really talk about all of those things. You guys have been the most violent recently. The simple fact, leftism and left political violence is higher than right wing right now. You guys are the one calling for political violence. You guys are the one attacking ICE, getting on top.
He's saying a lot. But is he really saying anything? It's so scattered and unorganized. It's like he's vomiting out talking points.
Roofs. Let me mention this last thing. There was a person in Texas about 2 months ago who got on top of a roof and tried to snipe at ICE agents. He killed, I believe, like 2 migrants or something. Okay, that is the political violence that we're seeing. These guys are so dumb and have such bad aim that they're killing migrants whilst trying to shoot at ICE agents. This is the political radicalism in this country. None of what we're proposing is radical. It's common sense, free market policy. Okay, let's go to all of your. And by the way, if you want to like have the single payer household, the single payer universal healthcare system that you want, let's just increase taxes on the middle income Americans by 30-40%. Because that's what happens in Scandinavian countries. They have something called a VAT tax, which disproportionately takes money from lower income people. So that's also something. But yeah.
Just before we carry on, I do want to get a sort of definition from both of you about what you consider radicalism to be. So maybe starting with you, Adam, what is radicalism?
Sure. So I actually think typically in colloquial,
You trying not to laugh. So, dude, the amount of times I was like holding back laughter or like just a little bit shocked at what I was seeing. I will say one of Matt's most like slept on traits is like it's very hard to take him seriously. Like as I'm debating him here, like 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, this is a not serious person. So if anything, that's like it almost makes you like less. It makes you want to be less aggressive, or you don't have that same like visceral rage or anger or whatever, because he's just not in any way threatening or imposing, or intelligent. But
terms, when we use the word radical, it has a negative connotation. I don't think radicalism necessarily has to be negative. I think radicalism is just going to be a big paradigm shift, a massive overhaul in the socio-political structures that are in place. So, for example, like during the abolition of slavery, I'm sure that was considered radical as well, but it was undoubtedly a good thing. So when we're talking about radicalism, we're talking about massive paradigm shifting change. And then the point of this debate, I think, is to talk about which parties, factions, which want paradigm shifting change are representing more of a threat to the country.
Okay, and Matt?
My definition of radical is going to be, one, you have to have a political strain, so left or right, in which you want to make drastic, unintelligent, anti-intellectual policy, right? So like the Khmer Rouge under Cambodia's communist regime, trying to have an agrarian society that killed over 250,000 people. Radicalism, whether it's left or right, falls into trying to have a drastically insane idea of how to have a society that is not
Drastically
functionable,
insane?
that is not proven to be adequate. I believe that is radicalism in general. And by the way, I don't believe that ending slavery, the abolition movement, was ever at all radical. I mean, the thing is, 9 out of 13 colonies actually banned slavery, and the majority of our founding fathers were actually very much anti-slavery. So the idea that it's radical is absolutely silly. It was never a radical
We did
idea.
fight a
Maybe in the
civil
South.
war about that, but okay.
All right, I think that's probably the best place to kick it off, just so you guys can actually agree on the definition of radicalism or come to some sort of a semantic agreement here, just so that we can move on with it. And we've got 60 minutes of open dialogue.
this is sped up to 1.25. By the way, if I'm like chewing too loud into the microphone, let me know.
If you can't get past this, that's fine, but maybe that's a good place to start it.
Sure. I mean, if you want to agree that radicalism is just massive socio-political change, we can do that, or do you not agree with that?
It can be massive social and political change, but that can be negative and positive. But
Sure. I
typically, the
agree.
radicalism that we're talking about is negative. Like the radical political change that the far right wants is very negative to you, and the radical political change that the Democrats, or at least the Democrat electorate that is young, currently wants is very much negative.
Right, I agree. The connotation of radicalism is typically negative. I'm just saying that when we're defining it, it doesn't necessarily have to be negative. I think the point of
has
this
to be.
debate is to talk about the radical elements of the opposite party representing a threat. So I don't know that we disagree on the definition, but
No, we don't really disagree on the definition. I think when you say representing a threat, I agree with that. It has to be representing some sort of an imminent threat that we see. It has to be policies that we know have been historically bad, given fascism, given communism, given the consequences of both political actions. So when we have any party try to have some sort of embodiment or acceptance of either or, that is going to be considered radicalism. Just like what Zoran Mamdani is proposing by seizing the means of production, right?
cool. Yeah, I think we generally agree.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Yeah,
I think that we can definitely work with those definitions. So with that, fellas, the floor is yours.
Matt, I'm really curious. When you talk about these like radical policies from Zoran Mamdani,
Sure.
even if I was to grant for a second your premise that these are horrible, evil, destructive policies, right now, these are just bullet points on his website. He's still the mayor-elect. And again, do you think he's going to be able to implement these things? Or
You know what you
is it
sound
just,
like? You know
the
what you sound
ideas
like
are
right now,
radical?
though? You know what you sound like? You sound like,
How about answering the
Democrat-
questions that
Oh, I'm going to answer your question.
Okay.
Right. So this is the whole game of, well, he's only elected.
Because I'm eating, I'm kind of just watching right now. If I feel like a very strong urge to comment on something, I will. If there's any point in this where you want me to pause and explain what's going on or answer for why you think I should have said something different, let me know in the chat. I'm watching the chat as well.
Right now, we can see what policies he's proposing and why they're evil and wrong. And let's not pretend that when me and you are both young, I think you're like 24, 23, I'm 19.
24
We know
tomorrow.
right. We know for a fact that he's very popular amongst our age group, right? And people have been supporting him like Bernie Sanders, AOC, Rashid Tlaib, all of these people. So he's very popular. And no, I don't.
Why'd he insult you? Dude, he called me like evil at one point. That's why I'm like, do I need to every 2 seconds remind the audience that he's unhinged?
want to do this whole thing where he's just a Democratic, like that means nothing to me. I don't care about him being the mayoral elect. What's important to me is his policies are horrible, and he wants to run the largest city in the country and the economics, capital of the world with horrible anti-business policy.
I didn't get an answer to my question. If his policies are so horrible, are you implying that all of them are going to be implemented?
I'm not implying that all of them are going to be implemented, but I think that's not necessarily like a good argument. Like, there can be a difference between what you are able to do and what you're proposing. Like, do you not think that Nick Fuentes is still bad, although he probably will never get into power? He is bad,
I do.
right? Like,
Well,
this
I
whole
think he
argument
probably
of,
will
like,
get into
well,
power, but
this whole right, he'll never get into power, obviously. But this whole argument of like, well, you know, he may not be able to like do all of his really bad policy doesn't like change from the fact that people
Well,
listen to his
I just
policies.
want to
and they
remind
think
you
are
of the
actually good.
prompt. I just want to remind you the prompt poses a greater threat to this country. When I talk about MAGA radicalism, I'm not just talking about
You're
things they've
scapegoating.
proposed. I'm talking about things that have taken place in this country.
You can't expect the audience to be reasonable. You have to capitalize on his absurdity. I disagree in the sense that the people that are watching who are not reasonable, there's going to be two groups of them. One group is people who are left-leaning. They're going to say, I won no matter what. One group is right-leaning who are going to say he won no matter what. Then there's a group of people who are just not super into this. And I think they just watch it with a somewhat open mind or not many preconceived notions. And in that regard, I do think that he came off as unhinged. But what are you eating? Popeyes.
With Mamdani,
Yeah, but it's
like,
taking
I
place in
don't
this
like the
country.
government grocery store idea. That's one thing where I think he's wrong. but I
$30,
don't think he's gonna be able to do
minimum
that.
wage. The minimum wage should be $0, right? So another thing, radicalism on our end is 1.6 million people self-deporting, getting $1,000 from the DHS for self-deporting.
No.
Self-deport, that's radicalism. Over
No.
400,000 people being removed from this country is apparently like radicalism to you.
No,
If you
radicalism on
illegally
your
enter
end
this
is people
country,
being
you are going to be
arrested
deported.
and put
None of
in
that is
handcuffs.
radicalism.
Hold on. Radicalism on your end is people being put in handcuffs for expressing opinions. That's
Like, are you
radicalism.
going to mention
on your
Mahmoud Khalil?
end. Mahmoud Khalil and Ramesh Ozturk, yeah.
Right, so when it comes to Mahmoud Khalil, are we going to talk about the fact that he was leading violent encampments where Jewish students were literally
He
being
was not.
attacked at
And, I
universities?
mean, you
Are
can-
we
you
going to talk
can-
about the organization that he worked for was proven to actually indirectly support Hamas and provide material support for Hamas? Listen, I forget the exact like U.S. code for this, but Secretary of State has the right to revoke a visa.
Nope.
No, he does. I can bring up the law. He
In-
has
in the
right to revoke a
situation
visa
of Mahmoud
under,
Khalil,
under certain
We don't
situations.
have to debate this. A Reagan-appointed judge, Bill Young, has adjudicated this case and said that the Trump administration purposefully launched a full-throated attack on the First Amendment and unconstitutionally curbed the free speech rights of pro-Palestinian activists, and it was done to strike fear and create a chilling effect. A
not
conservative
done to
federal
strike
judge
fear at all.
has already ruled this. First
Yeah, it's
Amendment
fine. And,
violation,
and, a judge,
clear as day.
and a judge also previously ruled that he was ought to be deported. So I mean, different judges can have different opinions on how
Deported on the
certain things-
basis of what?
Right, on the basis that he actually lied when it came to his application for a visa.
They wanted to
so
deport him
when
because
you
he was
have a visa-
pro-Palestinian.
well, hold on, let me finish. When you
Go ahead.
apply for a visa in this country, specifically when it comes to I want to study at this university and do this, and you lie about what your ambitions are, and you start up encampments and you start promoting terrorism and designated terrorist organizations in the Middle East, and you're attacking Jewish students having encampments in this country. Of course, you are going to like be deported, or at least the
Interesting.
Secretary of State is going to want to deport you. And by the way, I believe the Constitution should most apply to citizens. Do you think any of our founding fathers would give like 2 Fs about a guy named Mahmoud Khalil who is from Libya or Palestine, wherever?
I go
Change
based
where
off
he's
the
from consistently.
Constitution, not based on Matt Nuclear's conjecture of what the founding fathers would have thought.
It's
if
not
they
my
were here in
conjecture of what the founding
2025.
fathers would have thought. We're talking
And
about
again, a
original
judge has
intent.
adjudicated this, so you can, I guess,
Yeah,
debate
you
it.
can, and
bring
you
up
can differ. You
3
can
months old
disagree. You
talking
can
points
disagree
if
with
you
Hold on,
want.
hold on. That's you trying to do this whole like judge authority now is pretty silly because you can disagree with the opinions of judges. I mean, I'm pretty sure you disagree with the Supreme Court that is like majority conservative, right? 6-9 conservative. So you disagree
Depends on the
with
case.
Do you disagree with Roe v. Wade's overturning?
On a constitutional basis, I think it probably makes sense, but like on a political level, I don't like that it was overturned.
Right, exactly. There you go. The same way that I disagree with the judge's decision, specifically when it comes to Mahmoud Khalil, although I can still recognize that I believe he was a person that should be deported. If I was the king of America, I would
All
definitely
of these
have
things you
deported
just
him.
brought up about Mahmoud Khalil, he's like a terrorist, he's going after the Jewish people.
He was
Why
part
he
of an
not- he wasn't even
organization
charged
that
or
funded
accused.
Hamas and support
Hold on.
and provided
He
material
wasn't
support
charged
for
with
Hamas.
or accused of any crime. There's no secret here. There
So
was
this is what you're not
there were
understanding.
leaked memos from the State Department. This was done on the basis of political opinion.
No, I wasn't. Right. So
It was.
another important thing is people always mention the fact that he wasn't directly charged. Yeah, because there's gonna
See, like here, you see me just
Political
kind of
opinion.
laugh.
No, I wasn't. Right. So
It was.
another important thing is people always mention the fact that he was
Because it's like, if he says something and I say you're lying, and then he goes, nuh-uh, I don't know that I want to go back and forth with him then for 10 minutes and be like, actually, yeah. And he's like, nuh-uh. Like, at a certain point, there's diminishing returns.
he wasn't directly charged. Yeah, because you're gonna have to go through all sorts of like mounting evidence, and if you charge him and if you charge him with
That
something,
should
you
be
arrest him. Right.
necessary.
Hold on. There's something really simple because you guys don't tend to understand this. If you charge someone with something and you arrest them and they end up getting convicted in this country, they have to stay in this country. The goal was not to keep Mahmoud Khalil in the country. The goal was to recognize, okay, he was part of an organization which provided material support to Hamas.
I actually don't make a big habit of asking people, like, what's your source? Because I don't expect people to have, like, websites and stuff memorized. I just try to be educated enough or well-read enough such that if they bring up something that's not true, I can actually spot it and call it out.
Support this guy instead of like giving him charging him or potentially not getting a conviction because you have some sort of
Because he didn't do any crimes?
plausibility there.
What crimes did Mahmoud Khalil commit?
Did I mention a crime, or did I mention the fact that he was
You
associated
just said, oh, they
with an
couldn't go through the
organization?
actual process of convicting him and charging him, so they just sped it up and deported him instead. That
Yeah,
implies that
because,
there was
hold on,
some criminal
because
conduct.
when you arrest Mahmoud Khalil, just think about this for a second, right? He was part of an organization that indirectly supported Hamas. Okay,
Indirectly,
so
okay.
if you arrest him or try to get a conviction out of that, you may lose or you may win. What's a lot better
Isn't that
because,
relevant?
because the evidence is not complete, right? But what's a lot easier is
Like,
given the fact this guy.
Do you see here? I think this is where the gears started turning in my head, where maybe I decided to be like a little bit less combative. Does anyone take this seriously? Like, I just could do nothing but laugh here. He's like Mahmoud Khalil. He's running around. He's killing Jewish people. He's eating Zionists. Like, what? Are we in that place now where I have to fact check? Actually, no, he wasn't committing crimes and attacking people.
Supported Hamas. Okay,
Indirectly,
so
okay.
if you arrest him or try to get a conviction out of that, you may lose or you may win. What's a lot better
Isn't that
because,
relevant?
because the evidence is not complete, right? But what's a lot
Isn't that he's like, well, if they were criminal charges against him, maybe yeah, wouldn't that be relevant in determining whether he should be kicked out of the country? Hello, like,
easier is given the fact this guy's doing encampments, promoting things like globalizing Intifada, which is a terroristic slogan.
Lord.
Just get him deported instead of going through that whole fiasco process where you might not get a conviction because the evidence is not clear and he has this sort of plausibility attached to him.
It seems
yeah.
like
yeah, if the evidence isn't clear, then doesn't that matter? He's like, we have to circumvent this process, which requires evidence.
I don't-
you're saying
but again, it's funny
he
because you
didn't
guys
necessarily commit any crimes, but he was like kind of undesirable to be here, so we should just kind of kick him
starting
out.
encampments, starting violence on
on.
university campus, right, allowing
Wasn't he literally the
Jewish students
mediator
to be-
between the college administration and the protesters?
No, that
He was
actually
literally doing
a lot,
negotiations.
a lot of the time that goes beyond that when students are actually being assaulted for being Jewish. I mean, that's actually the truth about that, right?
You're just
And hold on. By the way, any constructive criticism, like, I don't care. You guys can let me know. Hold on, I want to respond to something. You should have pressed that point. I actually disagree. And I noticed this at one point, is that you can't press Matt on a point because if you truly corner him on an argument and ask him to answer, he'll flip-flop. He'll switch his opinion, right? So at one point he tells me that the Democrats that made that video saying that soldiers shouldn't follow unlawful orders, that's illegal. He said that's illegal. That should be like, they should go to jail for that, right? But then in cross-examination, you'll see this when I ask him, are you like saying that video was like illegal? Then he's like, no, I'm not saying it should be illegal. So I understand the criticism that I should have been more aggressive. It's just like being aggressive for the sake of being aggressive, I don't think is very useful. Was this live debate today? Yeah, this was like literally a couple hours ago. It ended. Or maybe 3 hours ago it ended. Why let him shift the premise? I mean, I can control what I say and I can control how I respond to him. But if he's here on autopilot, just filibustering, I'm trying to, like, for example, I have certain lines I have to get across. I have certain arguments I have to get across. I have to sustain energy for almost 2 hours. And the last thing I wanted was to burn a bunch of energy just yelling at him to tell him to stop talking, because that is like, and that's also on the moderator, right? And Jake, like, but yeah, the thing is, like, cornering someone is only useful if they are even somewhat consistent, right? But the fact that Matt goes from saying this should be illegal, it shouldn't be illegal, it is illegal, it isn't illegal, it doesn't matter how much I push him, he's just gonna switch what he says depending on the premise of what I'm asking him. And yeah, the mod had to stop him so many times. And I learned this on the set of Jubilee with him, right? Is there were a couple times where I was doing this, where people are saying you need to be more like strong or more like a cutthroat against him. I did that on Jubilee, and in the moment I'm like, damn, these are fire moments. But then you watch back the Jubilee video, and you guys can't even hear what I'm saying in those, because when I would interrupt him or say like, oh, you're lying, you're whatever, he would keep talking as well, and then all you hear on the actual audio from the video is like muffled whatever. Like, you don't even make out what anyone's saying, right? So another big thing for me here is like, I'd like for one person to be speaking at a time, because a lot of times in our Jubilee video, I made a point that in the moment I was like, damn, I just cooked him. And then I watched it back and I'm like, you can't even hear me saying this because he's like yelling at the same time. So
very vague allegations. Again,
not vague
the
allegations.
government
All
had
of
a
those
chance
things
to
are
argue
true.
this in court, and they lost. I know you're going to call into question the veracity of the judge's decision here, but I would point this.
Yeah,
is
you
like
can
some-
disagree
this
with
is-
certain judges.
I
don't
understand,
get
but
your
you have to
points.
disagree on the merits. You can't just say, "Oh, I disagree because I disagree."
Well,
This is a
the
conservative federal
the
judge.
merits in which, well, what about the judge that actually ruled that he actually did lie on his visa application, and that was actually the basis for his deportation also.
He didn't lie on his visa application. He didn't
He
mark
did.
down unpaid volunteering experience under job experience because unpaid volunteering is not a job.
Well, what about the fact that he didn't write down the fact that he was going to start encampments and start violence on university campuses? What about that?
Is that on your green card application? You have to talk about
Why
future
don't you
encampments you might
inform?
start?
Well, I'm pretty sure that Americans who have people coming from different countries who want to come to our Ivy League universities and enjoy the best education in the world probably don't want people to come in here who are going to start encampments that
Peacefully
promote
protest.
violence. Promote violence against university campuses. Speaking of universities, actually, there was a study done by the NCRI, I'm pretty sure, which showed that universities that take money from Qatar or the Emirates states have a 300% increase in anti-Semitism. Should we talk about that as well?
We can talk about that. It's a complete change of the topic. I can understand if you don't
It's
want
not
to
a complete change of the
Khalil.
topic. I'm talking
you
about
can complain
right.
that he used his First Amendment rights in ways that you don't like, but he still has First Amendment
Not
rights.
a U.S.
There's
citizen, by the way.
There's nothing in the First Amendment that says this only applies to citizens, by the way. It's not in there.
Right,
The
but
word citizen does not appear in the First Amendment.
Well, hold on. I'm pretty curious. Do you think that the First Amendment in the Constitution, the founding fathers, in reference to original intent, was more focused on American citizens, people who are actually naturalized here, people who are actually citizens, or people who are on like student visas from foreign countries who want to promote like, encampments and stuff like that? Like,
Fantastic question.
but I'm sorry, but if someone like Mahmoud Khalil, lived under the Seditious Acts and John Adams, or any of our former presidents or our founding fathers, he would have been immediately deported, starting encampments at universities where he's promoting designated terrorist organizations. The issue that we have with
There was something I wanted to say here that I don't know why I didn't say it. He was like, "Oh, if Mahmoud Khalil was around during the times of the founding fathers, they would have deported him." And I was gonna say, yeah, and if you were around at the time of the founding fathers, they would have enslaved you.
modern day America is we have people like you and the left, which doesn't know how to handle common sense policy. So we have to fight over people like Kilmar Abrego Garcia and Mahmoud Khalil and all these different people who are foreigners. When are you guys going to start fighting for America?
No, the issue is we have people like you who think we can pick and choose who has access to constitutional rights. You asked a very good question about, do you think the founding fathers would have wanted this to apply to non-citizens? There are parts of the Constitution that explicitly call out citizens. There are parts that don't. I think that's probably intentional. When
Right, what about
the
immigration
requirement to
law?
run for president says citizen, the First Amendment does not say citizen.
Right. So speaking of law, doesn't seem like your party, with all the respect, really understands a lot of it, because another core problem. I'm sorry, Adam, but you know this. Like we have people from your
It's
party,
okay,
like
forgive
Rashida Tlaib, coming out and saying, well, being in this country is,
See how hard it is to make out what someone says when two people are talking at once?
you know this. Like we have people from your
It's
party,
okay,
like
forgive
Rashida Tlaib,
He said, "I'm sorry, Adam." I said, "It's okay, I forgive you," but you can't even hear like what I
a
just
lot of
said
it,
there.
because another core problem. I'm sorry, Adam, but you know this. Like we have people from your
It's
party,
okay,
like
forgive
Rashida Tlaib, coming out and saying, well, being in this country is not illegal, right? Or illegally enter the country is not illegal. 8 U.S. 1325 is U.S. federal law which prohibits illegal entry. So is entering the country illegally a crime?
I mean, it's by the definition you just gave, obviously.
Right. Hold on. So why is it that we're hearing from all of these Democratic lawmakers who are blatantly lying to our faces?
I can explain. You don't have to straw man. I can explain to you the criticisms of ICE that are coming out right now. And it's, for example,
Not
that ICE
criticism, but lying about basic
You're
law.
right. I think not just criticism. It's a vicious attack against ICE verbally, as it should be, because ICE just in the 10 months that
physically.
Trump. I don't support the physical attacks, obviously.
Well, I'm saying
ICE,
they're
in just,
happening.
ICE
Yeah.
in just the 10 months that Trump has been in his second term has detained 170 U.S. citizens. Just to put that into
good.
perspective,
Wait, I didn't even catch that he said this. That's good.
detained 170 U.S. citizens. Just to put that
That's
into
good.
perspective,
I don't know how I didn't catch that. I think you should just call him out as it is, pivoting and jumping to others rather than play defense. I did call him out for that in the cross-examination. But the thing also is, like, when he does all this interrupting, like, in the moment, right, I'm thinking, do I bring up this argument about why Trump is bad? Do I respond to this argument about why Democrats are bad? Or do I zoom out and talk about the meta strategy that Matt is using in interrupting? There's, like, so many different avenues to go down. And the worst thing you can do with someone like this, in my opinion, there's different ways to do debates, is let them derail your substantive points by making you shift your focus from substance to like rhetorical games. What was the point of debating? I've only been listening for 5 minutes and he doesn't let you speak. I do get to speak in this video. I mean, again, this depends on what you think debates should be, right? I could have just come here and said, you're evil, you're horrible, you interrupt and you lie over and over and over again. I don't know that that would have done anything. I could have interrupted him when he interrupted me, and then you wouldn't have heard what I said or what he said. And And I could have spent the debate hyper fixated on the fact that he was pivoting and then had no time to actually get out my own talking points about Trump or my own talking points about Mamdani, right? So you have to be judicious with what you choose to say given time constraints. But I can see why people might have a different take on what's important there.
Just to put that into perspective, from 2015 to 2020, that entire 5-year period, that number was 121 total. In just 10 months, ICE has detained 170 U.S. citizens at least. Many of these people were detained for days. They were not allowed to call a lawyer. They were not allowed to call their family. Their family didn't even know where they were. So this is clear examples of constitutional rights and civil liberties being violated by ICE. This is not just
just to
law
make
and
something
order.
really simple. Just to make something really simple with this whole lying about like not being able to find anyone. There was the ICE detainer locator. If you know your family member's first and last name, you can definitely know exactly where they're located. So in date of birth. So the idea that you can't find out where your family member or whoever detained by ICE is just absolutely a blatant lie. But another core problem that you're failing to understand there is who actually had a record high of non-judicial removals. Do you know? It was under Obama. There was over 315,000 non-judicial removals. Also, just to clarify another thing, who had the record high of non-criminals being deported? Because Obama deported more non-criminals than he actually did criminals. It's funny when you guys
that's another big thing. They'd say he's under your skin if you took the time to call him out. There were a couple of times here where I was like pissed off that he was interrupting me, but I was like, if I just start like screaming about that right now, I again don't know what that would accomplish for me. The thing with a lot of these debates, this is the reality of debating here, debating on Jubilee. There is no one way to do a debate. There are different goals you can have in a debate. Your goal can be to embarrass someone. It can be to make yourself look like a more mature, more intelligent person. It can be to talk about some other issue that's outside of both of you as people. And the reality is there's like no right answer to that, right? Like even if you watch my debate lives on TikTok, I debate very differently than like Parker or Dean does, or Dan or Santana. We all have our own styles. We all have different things we prioritize in terms of rhetoric and substance. And what it ultimately comes down to is whatever goal you set for the debate, do you reach that goal? By definition, if you're working towards one goal in the debate, you're not going to be able to hit other ones. And again, talking through the interruption, I tried that on Jubilee. It just does not work.
Lie and say that, well, actually, if someone illegally enters the country, as long as they don't commit a crime, don't deport them. Well, it seems like Obama disagreed with that vehemently.
How many citizens did Obama?
Hold on. Let me.
What's the point of debates like this in general? For me, the point of this debate, honestly, was almost like personally cathartic. Like I just found him so obnoxious on the side of Jubilee, and I was like, I'd love to talk to him one-on-one and just make him squirm a little bit. And that's the thing is like from my perspective and my goal in this, I feel like he was squirming the entire time and he was just frantic the entire time. So in that regard, I was like very satisfied coming out of this. And then I like checked my Discord and stuff. And people were like, oh, you need to interrupt him more. And I was like, okay, that's like not the frame through which I was viewing this conversation. If it was, then like, yeah, I should have interrupted more. But this for me was just to see what Matt is kind of made of in a one-on-one setting. And to me, he just came off very frantic, unhinged, and like hyper, which kind of answered all my questions as to whether he's a good faith actor or whether he knows what he's talking about. I mean, to me, he was oozing fear the entire time. This is how you act when you're afraid. You interrupt, you scream, you change the topic, you like randomly interject even when the other person's talking. In like interpersonal dynamics, if I see someone doing that in a debate, I feel like they're intimidated and they're afraid. Whereas like I feel like my sort of stance here was like stay grounded, like keep your feet planted, stay on the points you want to make. If he makes 10 points, write them all down and address them later on. But again, there is no one way to do this.
Let me finish real quick, okay?
Yeah.
So in reference to detaining citizens, it can be also an indicator that ICE is working more thoroughly, or at least is more engaged. It's going to make sense that if you are increasing funding for ICE and they are trying to get as many illegal aliens out of the country and they're patrolling certain areas more, that probably a lot of U.S. citizens are going to be not deported but detained.
Write them all down. That's his goal, is to slow and distract you. The thing is, no matter what tact you take, you can make the argument, right? So number one, if every single time he interrupted me, I went off on a tangent about how he interrupts so much, then he's also slowed and distracted me from making my substantive points. If I don't respond to his gish galloping, where he makes Rattlesnake TV, you can find this on YouTube. If I don't respond to the 10 points he makes, then let's say I respond to 5 of them, then he almost like wins the other 5 that I didn't address by default, right? And my main point here was like I had points that I wanted to bring up. There's nothing really there with Matt to respond to, right? I wanted to bring up citizens being detained, Constitution being violated. I kept bringing it back throughout this entire debate to Matt does not believe in the First Amendment. Matt does not believe in due process. And that was what I cared about here, right? So I could have been like, actually, what about this? What about that? But then it just becomes a sprawling road to nowhere.
Or at least question. That's going to make sense if you have an organization that is working way harder to deport illegal aliens. We're on par to have like 2 million
I
deportations.
can see your perspective now. You got to be unfazed, stick to the topic. And here's the thing also, like, this is so important. People ask me also, like, why do you do Jubilee debates? There are different... QWERTY says you got bodied. He's not a guest request. Interesting. When you do these types of debates, like, very, very rarely, almost never when they're on a big platform, are these, like, good faith discussions on a disagreement where you're trying to arrive at consensus. That is technically what a debate is supposed to be. That's never what a debate is on Jubilee, on YouTube, on TikTok. These are performances. That's what they are. You're trying to posture. That's what people don't admit that. They think it in here. They don't admit it. That's how everyone sees this game, right? Is when someone clips this, do I have a witty one-liner? Or did I cut someone off? Or did I make a very cogent point? And that, to me, I didn't match the energy on purpose. That's what I'm saying here. So the goal here for me is not to convince Matt or to point out good faith criticisms of what he's doing. It's to kind of expose him as being a joke, which I guess is up to the interpretation of the viewer.
Already, then of course it's going to make absolute sense that more U.S. citizens are going to be detained. But again, what happens is really simple. You get detained, you show your ID, I'm a U.S. citizen, okay? And boom, you're done, you're good. Now, if there's complications with your documentation or papers or anything like that, then that's something different. But you guys are trying to harm ICE. We have leftists coming out and saying that they want to, find out where the children of ICE are living.
The goal is to steamroll. I seriously disagree with that. Steamrolling can work sometimes. Other times, steamrolling makes you look like an unhinged person. Yeah, no. There's different ways to address this. Like, for example, oh my gosh, the 2020 debates, right, between Trump and Biden. There was one debate that was similar to this in that Trump like literally kept interrupting Biden every 2 seconds, right? But overwhelmingly, people thought Biden won that debate because he just kind of let Trump talk and look like a deranged, crazy person. And then he'd chime in every so often to be like, fact check, will you shut up, man? You're lying. And just sprinkling those in here and there while the other person just word vomits. In my mind, that works sometimes, right? That worked very well for Biden in 2020 when he was still able to speak.
And you have these like leftists saying that ICE shouldn't be masked. Can we agree that ICE should be masked so they don't have issues with doxing or they don't have issues? Really? Right, see, this is your indirect support of political violence.
No, there's been an... Did my stream just freeze? Because on this live studio app, it said it froze.
And you have these like leftists saying that ICE shouldn't be masked. Can we agree that ICE should be masked so they don't have issues with doxing or they don't have issues? Really? Right, see, this is your indirect support of political violence.
No, there's been an uptake in kidnappings and robberies from people wearing masks impersonating ICE. I think law enforcement.
No, that's literally never happened. It's literally hardly ever happened. But even it's literally hardly ever happened. But let's take it that it is true. There's also like people who dress up to and pretend to be LAPD. There's people who dress up to be police. Well, not necessarily wearing a mask, but dressing up to be law enforcement officers. But ICE
can identify the person as a
Hold on,
perpetrator. It makes a pretty big difference.
ICE is under the DHS, and they are law enforcement. With all due respect, they are law enforcement enforcing immigration law.
See that? How he just said ICE is under like a million times. If I try to interrupt him, he's gonna say ICE is under 10,000 more times, and you're not gonna hear what I say. It's just gonna be jumbled garbage coming out of your speaker.
ICE is under the DHS, and they are law enforcement. With all due respect, they are law enforcement enforcing immigration law. So again, there's people who pretend to be police officers. That is not a reason for why we should get rid of people being police officers. There may be
a lot
people,
easier to impersonate an ICE agent because they wear masks.
There may be people who pretend the wearing masks part isn't going to change anything. By the way, in reference to isn't going to make any case better. People can pretend to be ICE whilst wearing masks. I don't get the point, or not whilst not wearing masks. Again, the point still stands. Whether you're police, whether you're ICE or whatever, people are going to impersonate. People have been
So that both of you were heard. I mean, Jake does variable formats. He wanted to first do structured cross-examination, and then Matt hopped on and he was like, I want to do an open debate. And then Jake was like, are you okay with that, Adam? And I was like, I'm okay with anything. Like, I don't really give a fuck. What's your religion? I don't talk about that on public settings. Matt fatigue? Exactly. If you're... I'll say this, right? If you're watching this debate and you're an hour into it and you notice Matt keeps interrupting me talking more and you're agreeing with Matt, there's probably nothing I could have said to win that person over. Because I think that the average normal person watches this and they're like, can this guy shut the fuck up? Like, can he stop talking?
Can we agree
impersonating
that
police. Hold on,
criminals don't
hold
wanna show their face?
hold on.
Yeah.
No, we agree that you should cover up your face so you don't possibly get killed. I mean, what are you talking about? The left will post your face. If you're an ICE, if you're working for a DHS and you're Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement, and you have to tackle someone because they're running away from you, and a left takes a high-resolution picture of your face and they start posting it online, and someone notices you, someone notices where you live, and now you have people protesting. Someone may try to find you and kill you to prove a point. That is the dangers of trying to enforce basic immigration law. Of course, ICE agents should wear masks to protect their identities, not just themselves, but their families, their homes, their parents, all of those things, right? And not to mention, it's enforced by the DHS.
Hold on a
You
second,
must wear
fellas.
a mask.
Just one sec. Matt, you made a lot of points there. Which one particularly do you want Adam to respond to?
See, even Jake with the passive aggressive follow up, you made a lot. Which one do you want to respond to? It's like when someone is going this overboard with cutting you off and yapping and filibustering, just let them hang themselves. Let them make themselves look stupid. Just let them make themselves seem obnoxious. Let them do it. You don't have to step in when they're doing that, right? When the right-wing moderator, who probably agrees more with Matt than me, is like, hey, Matt, you just said like 30 different things. Which one would you like him to respond to? I feel like, enough said. I don't need to necessarily call that out every 5 minutes.
Right. No,
I can respond to all of them.
I want Adam specifically to respond to the fact that ICE agents have to show a badge, and it is dangerous for themselves if they do not wear a mask to prevent someone from taking a high-resolution image that can possibly endanger their entire family members and their
All right.
potential future. Yeah.
Let's give Adam some space to air this out now.
ICE agents, like all federal police, are public servants. We don't answer to them. They answer to us. It is a bare minimum requirement to say that if you're conducting a law enforcement operation, you should be able to show your face and your badge as well. Obviously, I will condemn any sort of illegal violence. And it's funny that you bring up these ICE agents, their life is in danger. I don't believe that you actually care about the lives of federal police being put in danger when Trump a couple days ago just pardoned someone who threatened to kill an FBI agent. So
This here, I think, is indicative of what my strategy was, right? That entire word vomit that came from Matt, is there anything anyone here can single out from that entire spiel which would make a good clip for TikTok or would be convincing to anyone? No. Meanwhile, after his, word vomit, word diarrhea,
legal violence. And it's funny that
I can step in with like 4 or 5 lines that are very condensed, very potent, and very fine-tuned to respond to what he just said. And in my mind, this exchange, even if it's 15 minutes of Matt yapping and 3 minutes of me responding, if there is no through line in his yap and he's acting frantic and crazy and I'm calm and composed and substantive, when it's all said and done, the time you fill up by moving your mouth and making noises isn't automatically you winning.
you should be able to show your face and your badge as well. Obviously, I will. ICE agents, like all federal police, are public servants. We don't answer to them. They answer to us. It is a bare minimum requirement to say that if you're conducting a law enforcement operation, you should be able to show your face and your badge as well. Obviously, I will condemn any sort of illegal violence. And it's funny that you bring up these ICE agents, their life is in danger. I don't believe that you actually care about the lives of federal police being put in danger when Trump a couple days ago just pardoned someone who threatened to kill an FBI agent. So we can talk about which party is endorsing how's that a red herring?
Because we're talking about ICE right now. We're not talking about the pardoning of certain
And
people.
what was your point
under
in talking about
legality?
ICE?
So
It
hold
was
on, let me
the rest
respond to
of
this. Let me respond to this really quickly. So,
Yeah.
of course, they serve us, but serving us does not require. I mean, are you requiring that all SWAT units also show their faces? I mean, are you requiring that people who work for the FBI who are
Where
under
can we
certain
watch
specific
this video? Go to Rattlesnake TV on YouTube and go to his live tab. It just finished like a few hours ago.
circumstances and certain behavior that they should all show their faces at all time? Of course not. You can work for us.
See,
whilst
bro is like struggling to swallow and breathe from how fast he's talking.
requiring that all SWAT units also show their faces? I mean, are you requiring that people who work for the FBI who are under certain specific circumstances and certain behavior that they should all show their faces at all
Like,
time?
bro,
Of course not.
relax.
You can work for us whilst also trying to protect yourself. It's like saying because police
have
officers work for
weapons.
us. Hold on. It's like saying that because police officers work for us, they are never they never should wear
Why did it say 11/13/2025 on your screen? Oh, I didn't realize this was still there. Oops.
bulletproof vests, for example. Like, no, they not only serve us, but we should also take into consideration their livelihood and their well-being, right? The fact that why do we always talk about sending American troops across, the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean or their safety? Because we care about American troops. We care about their
See,
safety.
like, what is this? We're talking about people crossing
now,
the
obviously,
ocean.
they
Okay.
serve us in terms of the country and the nation, but we also care about their safety and their livelihood. We talk about the VA and veteran assistance and all of these things. Why? Because not only are you just someone who serves this country, but you are also someone who should demand at least respect in this country and due diligence in this country in terms of we also respect you back. We also care about the safety of your livelihood and your family whilst you're doing the hardest jobs. So it's both.
Yeah, just to clarify, I'm not arguing against bulletproof vests. I'm not arguing that people who threaten law enforcement shouldn't face legal consequences. I'm just saying they should have to show their face so that when there's abuses of power, as have been taking place for the past 10 months, where again, I never really got a substantive response to my point of citizens not just being detained, but not being allowed to
here's
call their
another thing I like to do, right? I'll ask him a question, and he'll filibuster for 10 minutes. Now, you might be saying, why don't you interrupt him during that 10 minutes? But then after his 10-minute word diarrhea, I say, hey, Matt, I never got an answer to my question. And just in saying that, after he said a whole lot of nothing, I feel like makes him look even more unhinged because the audience is like, wait, he just took up so much time talking and he didn't even address the subject at hand.
Consequences. I'm just saying they should have to show their face so that when there's abuses of power, as have been taking place for the past 10 months, where again, I never really got a substantive response to my point of citizens not just being detained, but not being allowed to call their lawyers.
Right. You didn't even respond. So we're not even away from this.
See
ICE
there
mass-
again. I could have said not allowed to call their lawyers, and ICE is also doing this, and Trump is also doing this. If I brought up 3-4 points after I said that, would he have addressed the lawyer's point? Would he have addressed anything I said about citizens being detained? And I don't overestimate the intelligence of some people watching this debate. If you watch this debate and you think Matt won, then there's no way this debate could have gone where you'd think I won. Unless Matt literally said like, oh, I concede, I'm running away or whatever, right? Like if you have certain cognitive biases, I'm not going to override those with like a witty one-liner, most likely. So I'm trying to appeal to reasonable people that watch this. But if by your logic, you not addressing a point is him winning, then vice versa. It depends on how it's structured. What do you mean? Like when I'm talking about for the detaining citizens, right? And how they can't see their lawyers, that's me landing on one point and letting that point breathe and be like, okay, the argument this guy is making is that ICE is detaining citizens, not letting them call lawyers. And I repeat that over and over, right? And then in the midst of that conversation, Matt is talking about, we send people across the Pacific Ocean. What about SWAT teams? Like all this random stuff. So for me to respond to all those points that Matt is bringing up undermines the frame that I'm trying to set, right? Because then I'm actually ceding the context of what we're talking about. If I maintain the context of what we're talking about, and then he goes on his yap session, I'm like, hey, that has nothing to do with this. In my mind, that's more effective. But I don't know what exactly you mean in terms of the vice versa thing.
Argument again, because you haven't really substantiated as to why ICE should show their face.
Yeah, the whole debate is on YouTube. Yeah,
saying that, well, when these certain situations happened, DHS is not aware of who's responsible or who is engaged in this specific incident. How do you
DHS
know?
knows. The media should also know.
Well, the DHS knows exactly. The DHS knows, so DHS is going to regulate that. DHS is going to. Well, you don't trust DHS because it's under this administration. That's why you don't trust the DHS, right?
Yes, because this administration is doing it very differently than any previous one. So yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. 315,000 record high non-judicial removals under Obama say otherwise. But again, the point still stands. If you are ICE, you don't want to show your face, not because you're not identified. And the media has no right to identify who these ICE agents are, by the way. Unless these ICE agents are actually arrested or convicted and there's a mugshot out of them, the media has no right to know who they are. I'm sorry, but I don't trust the modern leftist media to have pictures and names and date of birth of ICE agents. Because of doxing, because of how people are right now, we just have...
See, like, this argument here, does any normal person hear Matt say this and think, like, oh, yeah, true?
Media to have pictures and names and date of birth of ICE agents. Because of...
I feel like everyone agrees that ICE agents should show their face, and for him to be like, I don't trust the leftist media with their names and their birthdays. Okay, bro. Just look at the camera and smile. Like, this is something I believe actually a lot as well about debating MAGA people in general. Sometimes I just want them to say things in plainer terms, right? And I got him to do that here. I got him to say, oh yeah, maybe these people should be arrested for saying stuff. Okay, just let that stand. Let the audience watch that and come up with their own conclusions here, right? Like, this does not fly in like a general election or in front of an audience of like uninformed or apolitical people. It flies if it's like political junkies watching it or people that are politically already radicalized or super biased. So like, for example, if Matt was to say, oh, this person should be arrested for insulting Trump, for example, right? In many cases, I'm just going to say, okay, thanks for sharing that. Thank you for telling us what you honestly believe. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the right. This is what they want.
Doxing, because of how people are right now. We just had a Chris, I forget his name, his last name. It's like an Italian last name. calling for all ICE agents to be rounded up. We have people calling for the abolition of ICE. These people aren't going to work for ICE forever. I mean, ICE is a job for people who are like maybe 40 and under and stuff like that. So
I just find it
these
interesting.
people want to
You're
hold
more
on. These people
concerned
want to
with
hold
ICE agents
jobs.
than
These people want to
actual
hold
citizens
jobs
who are
in the future.
civilians.
These people want to hold jobs in the future, and none of that should be negated by the fact that we live in a very incoherent society with people who don't want to enforce immigration laws. So I 100,000% support ICE wearing masks to protect their identity, to protect their families while enforcing immigration laws. And those people who are saying, well, I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. The DHS knows exactly who they are. If there are cases filed against them, those things will come out. But if there isn't, you have no right to know their identities, because although they're serving us, we should also give them the bare minimum.
Person with random numbers in their username and no profile picture saying unhinged stuff in the chat. Is anyone shocked? No, Matt didn't want a genuine debate. Matt had pre-planned talking points that he wanted to get across, and he got frantic during the debate and just started yapping about whatever. Yeah, I mean, again, this debate for me, if you watched my initial video on this, was purely for personal enjoyment. Like, maybe I should have been more, like, meta about it, but, yeah, to me, you know, I understand that there's different takes on this as we're watching it back. To me, in the moment, this was deeply satisfying to just see him run and scream and yap and verbal diarrhea. It's like if you give someone a slight push and they like fall to the ground, start screaming, crying, throwing up, flailing their arms and legs. And then I'm like, oh, like, yeah, I guess you're doing more, like you're doing too much, right? This is the definition of doing too much. That's my spark notes for this.
Of allowing them to be at peace.
CC certainly says Matt cooked you wow, and of course she's not, or he's not in the requests. Is anyone shocked?
Okay.
The bare minimum is saying if you assault or threaten an ICE officer, any federal officer, you should face criminal charges, and they can
How
wear
do you prevent
bulletproof vests.
assaults?
Matt,
A
you
good
have
way
to
to
let
Hold on a
assault.
second, Matt, you got to let him respond.
See, dude, this is like the second or third time where Jake is like, hey, Matt, shut the fuck up. So, like, I understand that it's like, oh, you shouldn't have let him talk so much. I don't think it was a good look that he talked so much. I really don't. I feel like anyone who watched this that came in blind with no preconceived notions is just like, yo, shut up. I don't debate, really. Matt does, though. And oof, you got cooked. You know it's a strong point when there's substance there. What's the reason I got cooked? Oh, because you said I got cooked? Okay, makes sense.
It's
You must have
interesting
went
to me
to
that
the
you're more
Matt
concerned
Nuclear
with the
School of
safety of
Debate.
ICE agents than the American citizens who are civilians that have been brutalized by ICE. I mean, there are many cases. You can look up these videos of people who are peacefully protesting, not radical left lunatics. It's interesting to me that you're more concerned with the safety of ICE agents than the American citizens who are civilians that have been brutalized by ICE. I mean, there are many cases. You can look up these videos of people who are peacefully protesting, not radical left lunatics. There's a priest who's giving a sermon. There's a woman who's yelling in the face of an ICE agent. They get shot in the face with a pepper ball or with pepper spray. I would like to have accountability. That's why I want transparency. If ICE agents want to wear bulletproof vests, I have no issue with that. I'm not in favor of anyone physically attacking ICE. I think we have a legal process for a reason. And the idea that ICE is comfort and that we need to get...
Don't get upset. It's okay. Just be better, I guess. Thank you. That means a lot. You should make a video about this. So this is streaming right now on YouTube. I'm just going to upload the VOD for this. Maybe I'll clip it up into different sections and I'll upload the happy birthday. Thank you. Although it's still 51 minutes left, but almost. Notice this again, right? This is another instance of what I'm saying. So notice how before I said this, Matt is yapping and yapping and yapping and yapping.
Also give them the
And
bare
then I
minimum.
respond-
or threaten an ICE officer, any federal officer.
Be at peace. Okay.
The bare minimum is saying if you assault or threaten an ICE officer, any federal officer, you should face criminal charges, and they can
How
wear
do you
bulletproof
prevent
vests.
assaults?
Matt,
A
you
good
have
way
to
to
let
Hold
prevent
on a
assault.
second, Matt, you got to let him respond.
It's interesting to me that you're more concerned with the safety of ICE agents than the American citizens who are civilians that have been brutalized by ICE. I mean, there are many cases. You can look up these videos of people who are peacefully protesting, not radical left lunatics.
Notice how the last 3 or 4 times that Matt has went on his word diarrhea, and then Jake's like, hey man, stop talking, and then I pitch in. Every single one of those times I've made the same point. US citizens are having their rights violated. And I give different examples each time. If someone watches this, even if the speaking ratio between me and Matt is like 70-30, I don't think anyone here can even tell me what Matt just said. Because it was so frantic, it was so scattered, it was so devoid of a constant through line that there was nothing really conveyed or communicated there efficiently or intelligently. Whereas I've gotten across no one who's watching this is confused about my argument. They know what I'm saying. They know specific examples I've brought up. And I guess they know that Matt is excited and he's energized. That's all they really know about Matt right now.
There's a priest who's giving a sermon. There's a woman who's yelling in the face of an ICE agent. They get shot in the face with a pepper ball, with pepper spray.
Fat GPT. Crazy cope after being cooked. But you're not in the guest requests. So this is how much I value what you're saying.
I would like to have accountability. That's why I want transparency. If ICE agents want to wear bulletproof vests, I have no issue with that. I'm not in favor of anyone physically attacking ICE. I think we have a legal process.
By
for
the
a
way,
reason.
actually,
and
this is the same strategy I took with Ben Shapiro. If you watch my debate with Ben Shapiro, he gish galloped a lot. He went on random rants about whatever that were not responding to what I was saying. But then every time he'd finish his unrelated rant, I would just repeat that same point that I had made before. And then watching it back, I feel like it made him look unhinged. Because it's like you're saying a lot of nothing.
the face with a pepper ball, with pepper spray. I would like to have accountability. That's why I want transparency. If ICE agents want to wear bulletproof vests, I have no issue with that. I'm not in favor of anyone physically attacking ICE. I think we have a legal process for a reason. And the idea that ICE's comfort and that we need to give them the safety and the mental peace to go around brutalizing people, God forbid someone see their face and take a picture or a video of them engaging in civil rights violations, your priorities are just seem out of whack to me.
Right. So again, what you guys consider evil is not very well known. If someone runs away from ICE and they're caught and they're
Like,
detained,
what does that even mean? What you
guys consider evil is not very well known. If someone
What does this even mean? Can anyone explain what that means? What you guys consider evil is not very well known? What? Okay. He's just filling up time with words. He's doing the Trump. He's doing the Trump. You give him a mic and he just vomits out whatever comes into his
someone
head.
runs away from ICE and they're caught and they're detained, you guys consider that like vile or evil, and so do the people who are screaming at ICE. You shouldn't be screaming at immigration. You shouldn't be screaming at immigration, customs and enforcement in their face at all. That's not your duty. If you want to protest from,
Are you not a First
100 feet,
Amendment guy,
if
Matt?
you want,
I'm
if you want to
getting
protest
a
from
theme here.
100 feet away, yeah, there's a difference between obstruction of justice and the First Amendment. There's a reason why obstruction of justice is a thing. And a lot of these people, they aren't trying to just express their First Amendment right. They are trying to obstruct justice. There's a difference, Adam. There's a difference between.
I don't know who a
obstructing
lot of
justice.
these people is.
Hold
I
on,
brought you
let me
specific
finish. Let me
examples.
finish. There's a difference between obstructing justice and the First Amendment. This is something that you're really failing to understand and grasp here. That's something very important. And again, you're talking about, ICE agents being possibly assaulted and how you want people to be convicted for that. That's fine. But how do we prevent more assaults? How do we prevent a situation where an ICE agent is doxxed and is attacked at his home by a bunch of like far left Antifa lunatics by allowing them to conceal their identities? That's how we protect them to a higher degree. Not with this like proposal that you have that is really vague, but going deeper. If people don't know their names, their date of birth, and their faces, they don't even have the prerequisite to actually.
Matt reminds me a lot of how I used to be when I was an 18-year-old Ben Shapiro fan. Very like it's like there is no actual like when I was I was like argumentative for the sake of being argumentative. Just whatever a liberal says, I'm like, oh, actually no. What about this? It's like you say so much, but you actually say nothing. And one piece of advice I'd give to Matt, as someone who I think is new to this space, is be more efficient with your words. You could have gotten across 20 times more pieces of information in that same span of time if you were efficient with your words. Yet another straw man of Matt's argument from another person who's not in the guest requests and is crying in the comments. Define efficient: getting across a lot with less words. Like again, we are, how far into this are we? We're 33 minutes in, and Matt has talked about everything under the sun to the point where none of it means anything. And I've been saying the same thing. They're arresting U.S. citizens for no reason. They can't call their lawyer. They're arresting them for free speech. People should have free. It's like very much focused on violations of the Constitution over and over and over again.
Actually be able to identify them and attack them. That's how we protect ICE agents.
I keep running into a constant theme with you here where your priority is how do we protect the federal police and not how do we protect American citizens who are civilians. Requiring people to show their face is basic transparency and has no real bearing on like the legality of attacking an ICE agent. You can continue to say a lot of these people did this, a lot of these people did that. I gave you specific examples of people who are using their First Amendment rights to peacefully protest and they were shot with pepper spray or shot with pepper balls. You can say, okay,
like here also, for example, right? After his 5-minute rant, at the end I just say,
people who are using, you can continue to say a lot of these people did this, a lot of these people did that. I gave you specific examples of people who are using.
I'm number one pointing out that he's been saying a whole lot of nothing, yapping about these vague, they did this, the left, I don't know who he's referring to there, and then he doesn't actually address what I said.
their First Amendment rights to peacefully protest, and they were shot with pepper spray or shot with pepper balls, you can say, okay, Lib, but what about a lot of these people? I don't exactly know what that means. I don't know why you refuse to engage with the specific examples I brought up. And I'm noticing a common theme here, Matt, where first you said Mahmoud Khalil, not free speech rights, who cares? People who protest ICE, free speech rights, who cares? And what actually matters is the discretion of the Trump administration and the discretion of these ICE agents to just do whatever they want and fuck the courts, fuck the people, fuck the media. How dare they question that these people are marching around,
how dare
brutalizing
you
people
obstruct
and violating
immigration
their
law?
rights? I mean,
There's
the
a difference,
just
Adam.
dropped. Matt, you have to
You're
let
not
me
getting it
respond.
yet. You're not
You've
getting
been
it.
filibustering for like the past 15 minutes.
That's what
I've
you've
let
been doing. You
do it.
didn't respond
have
to what I
let
just
me
said.
respond.
Yeah, we'll
I
let
responded to
Adam
everything
finish the
you just
thought,
said.
then Matt, you'll jump in
See,
straight away and
this is the third or fourth time that Jake has been like, "Hey Matt, shut the fuck up. You're talking a lot." I called out explicitly, "Hey, you've been filibustering for 15 minutes and you still haven't answered a single one of my questions." In my mind, that is the better way to go about it. Is yeah, talk for 20 minutes. Notice how you didn't respond to anything?
People, fuck the media. How dare
Exactly.
they
And Jake Rattlesnake is a right winger. And even he was starting to get a little bit annoyed by Matt, like, "Yo, bro, stop talking, please. Shut the fuck up."
that these people are marching around,
How dare
brutalizing
you
people
obstruct
and violating
immigration
their
law?
rights? I mean,
There's
the
a difference,
just
Adam.
dropped. Matt, you have to
You're
let
not
me
getting it
respond.
yet. You're not
You've
getting
been
it.
filibustering for like the past 15 minutes.
That's what
I've
you've
let
been doing.
do
You
it.
didn't respond
have
to what I
let
just
me
said.
respond.
Yeah, we'll let Adam
everything
finish the
you just
thought,
said.
then Matt, you'll jump in straight away and respond to his point.
And while I will say that obviously I will condemn any act of political violence, I can't say the same from the MAGA side, who don't condemn political violence, who encourage political violence. So if you want to talk about this topic, it's very interesting. I'm going to bring up again that Trump just pardoned someone a couple days ago who was being investigated and was indicted for threatening to kill an FBI agent. The only reason Trump pardoned this person is because
Third time I've brought up this example. This is how you get stuff to stick in people's head, right? Third time I've brought up that Trump is pardoning people who want to kill FBI agents. Fourth time I've brought up that U.S. citizens are being detained for nothing by ICE at a very high rate. 3 or 4 times I've brought up that people are being arrested for free speech. And I think that that is going to stick more in people's heads than, like, I'm not even being sarcastic here. I really don't know what point Matt has been making for the last 35 minutes. I don't think there is a point. It's been like 30 different talking points from Fox News.
because they were a January 6th rioter. So, of course, for threatening to kill up again that political violence, who encourage political violence. So
we'll let Adam finish the thought, then Matt, you'll jump in straight away and respond to his point.
And while I will say that obviously I will condemn any act of political violence, I can't say the same from the MAGA side, who don't condemn political violence, who encourage political violence. So if you want to talk about this topic, it's very interesting. I'm going to bring up again that Trump just pardoned someone a couple days ago who was being investigated and was indicted for threatening to kill an FBI agent. The only reason Trump pardoned this person is because they were a January 6th rioter. So, of course, he has to give them a little wink and nod to say, "Don't worry, I got you covered." This idea that you're so concerned with the safety of federal agents and not the American people that they're meant to serve, you're so concerned with the idea of radicalism, but you're not concerned with the First Amendment or the idea of due process is ridiculous. All I've gotten from you so far is platitudes and Fox News talking points. Every single individual example I've given you, whether it's the number of citizens who have been detained, whether it's specific examples of First Amendment rights being violated, people not being allowed to call their lawyers, you don't even know the cases I'm talking about, but you're so obsessed with defending Trump that without knowing those cases, you say, "Oh, there must be a good explanation for this."
Okay, great. So let me respond. So again, I already told you earlier that there was a specific difference between obstruction of justice and protesting. When we have people getting in the face of ICE agents and an ICE
Still, he doesn't address anything I said. Still, he doesn't. He's just talking about whatever the fuck he's talking about. And let's try to pay attention and see if Matt makes any point more than once, or if he just scattershot for the entire conversation.
agent, I'm going to give you a specific case where this black ICE agent says, step back, like 5 different times. The guy doesn't step back and he gets tackled. That's what happens. ICE agents don't want you in their faces. If you want to protest, go ahead and do it from 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 feet away. That's protesting. But they don't want to protest. What they want to do is obstruct justice. You guys are not for immigration law. And it's funny. It's like every single time, like the liberals wake up, it's like they check their phones and it's January 6, 2021. Like, no, we live in 2025. I don't know why you still bring up January 6th. I don't know why you still bring up.
Tell Trump that.
So because you're well, no, tell the rest of the Democratic Party that because you guys bring up January 6th consistently and over and over.
Sorry,
again.
we care about
And
it.
again, hold on. You're talking about. It's funny how you guys say that you care about due process. Please tell me, why did Obama have a record high 315,000 people that were deported under
Fat GPT, what was a slam dunk? I must have missed that. Hold on. Y'all turn to your partner right now and find out what Matt is talking about. When he was talking about protesting.
expedited removal.
Let's see.
2021. Like, no, we live in 2025. I don't know why you still bring up January 6th. I don't know why you still bring up.
Tell Trump that.
So because you're Well, no, tell the rest of the Democratic Party that because you guys bring up January 6th consistently and over and over.
Sorry,
again.
we care about
But
an
again. Hold
attempted
on.
coup.
You're talking about. It's funny how you guys say that you care about due process.
Did I miss the point, Fat GPT?
Please tell me, why did Obama have a record high 315,000 people that were deported under expedited removal? Right. So tell me that. Why haven't you guys come out?
Expedited
and
removal
condemned him?
involves due process. What are you
Well,
talking
expedited removal. It's in reference to.
This point is expedited removal now. You said you had a point about protests. And notice how I brought up, hey Matt, I'm giving you specific examples of people who were just standing there talking and ICE shot them with pepper spray or with pepper ball. And then his response is, there's a difference between free speech and obstruction. Okay, that's not what I said though, right? Like the examples that I gave are not that. So
to non-judicial removal, so they
Right.
don't have to go before an
It's-
immigration judge. They don't have to go
yes.
before an immigration judge before they are deported, and an NTA is not required, right? And you guys,
Yeah, I'm
you
not
guys
against
actually,
the
you guys,
idea
a
of
lot of you
expedited
Democrats
removal.
actually, a lot of you Democrats are actually very much against expedited removal completely.
No,
but that's
we're
something-
against
Both
the
are
abuse of
slam
expedited
dunks,
removal,
so
where ICE
true.
agents are
There's no
camping out.
abuse. There-
Yeah,
there's-
let me
there's-
respond. We're
Hold on,
against the
what do you mean?
abuse.
You went on for a bit.
We're
Hold on.
against
You
the
went on for a
abuse
bit
of
there. You went on
expedited removal.
you went on for a bit. You can't go on forever. Now there
No,
are
I feel like you've
specific
talked way more than I
circumstances
have over the
where
past
there-
15 minutes.
there are specific circumstances under expedited removal, Adam. I think we have to go through this with you, okay? So expedited removals typically for people who are arrested near the southern border. But it can also expand on under certain and specific circumstances. You guys continuously want to defend illegal criminals who have illegally entered this country. Okay, the majority of people, and hold on, under Trump's administration, have the majority of people that have actually deported in a way, have they self-deported or have been removed? The majority of them have self-deported. How many? Adam, do you remember?
You can just finish your point. I'm gonna respond then to
1.6
everything
million
you've been cutting me
people.
off.
Fat GPT, you're gonna have to point out what the slam dunks are because like Matt will like burp and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, slam dunk." What is the slam dunk? Check Discord later for Matt's CSIS source who's purposely taking out of context. I brought that up.
Have already self-deported.
in the
And
closing
what are
statement.
they given from the DHS for self-deporting? $1,000. Okay, you're given $1,000 self-deport because you are here illegally. It's really easy. It's not complex. It's not hard. And there are people who refuse to self-deport who are here in this country illegally and pretend to be victims because ICE is enforcing immigration law. I'm sorry, but that's just totally different. And if you're talking about the encouragement, because you talked about the encouragement of political violence, why is it that left-wingers are like 9 times more likely to support the political assassinations of their opponents? Right? Like, why is that the case? If you're talking about the encouragement, how about all of those people who are faculty members or professors at universities and people who worked in certain companies who were let go because they violated their company's code of conduct by celebrating a political assassination? So we all know who celebrates political assassinations the most here, and it's obviously, undeniably, the left.
Okay, I'm going to respond to both of those points you brought up. Let me just write them down. So I'm not against the idea of expedited removal in a vacuum. I'm against the abuse of expedited removal, where people who have passed a credible fear interview, they've been scheduled for an immigration court date, they show up to immigration court following all the rules as they should. They are documented asylum seekers, and ICE is waiting for them at immigration court.
Wait, is Fat GPT just Matt's like burner account? They're not getting 1K. What does CK have to do with this? He's just saying shit. Matt, nuclear is a joke. A lot more than 1,000 and moved to another country. Matt is just talking to talk. Yeah.
They show up, they call the immigration judge and say, hey, we as the DHS are actually just dropping this case now. Now this person's in legal limbo despite the fact that they followed all the rules, and now we're going to put them in for expedited removal. I'm against the abuse of expedited removal when it's used within the normal confines of people who have been apprehended near the border, have been here for less than 2 years. I have no issue with that. I just want people to follow the law. When you talk about the endorsement of violence, you can talk about all these people, the left, the people on Twitter, I guess. When we're talking about the actual political parties, Democrats versus Republicans, after Charlie Kirk was shot, every single predominant Democrat politician I can think of, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, Zoran Mamdani, Cory Booker, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, every single one immediately said this is tragic and we condemn any act
After
of
calling
political
Trump a
violence.
fascist.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is out here pardoning people who assaulted police officers and were convicted of seditious conspiracy. So we can go back and forth. and
hold on.
Matt, you have to let me
Those
finish.
people-
here.
those-
We can
those
go
people
back
Yeah,
and forth.
just we'll finish both the points and then land the plane at him and then kick it back.
What is this? 5th time that Jake has had to tell Matt to shut the fuck up? Oh, Lord. How much battery? 30% left. Hold on.
Who assaulted police officers and were convicted of seditious conspiracy. So we can go back and forth. and
hold on.
Matt, you have to let me
Those
finish.
people-
here.
those-
We can
those
go
people-
back
Yeah,
and forth.
just we'll finish both the points and then land the plane at him and then kick it back.
We can go back and forth and like, oh, did you see this one right-wing person said this and this one left-wing person said that? I'm talking about the actual elected officials here, and there is no equivalency between the Democratic Party, which has time and time again condemned all political violence, and the Republican Party, which has time and time again allowed Trump to pardon people who are convicted of political violence.
Allowed? It's called, okay, so it's no one's allowing Trump to do it. You are allowed as a president to pardon people that have committed federal offenses. So I don't know
Is this
why
true?
you're using. I don't know why you're
Rhetorically,
misusing
not
terms like,
condemning
hold on.
him.
You're misusing terms like allow. No one's allowing him to do anything. So that's just completely wrong. And again, what you're failing to understand is that, yeah, those people may have come out and condemn the political assassination of Charlie Kirk, but they were responsible for why it happened in the first place. When you misuse terms like fascist or Nazi or far right and all of these sorts of things to people who are like people like Charlie Kirk, who are moderate libertarians, who are obviously conservative in the aspect of Christian values and two-parent
Charlie Kirk is not a fucking moderate libertarian talking about Joe Biden should be publicly executed. Okay.
moderate libertarians
Okay.
who are obviously conservative in the aspect of Christian values and two-parent households and the nuclear family, and you call them fascist, you give a leeway to people like Tyler Robinson, who have a trans partner who
The faces I was making throughout this debate, he might as well have just been telling me my mom's kind of homeless. That's how it felt to hear him talk.
who engrave on the bullet casings, "Hey, fascist, catch this." Who's telling people like Tyler Robinson that Charlie Kirk was a fascist? 'Cause I know you don't believe he was a fascist. Well, people like Joe Biden, people like Kamala Harris are endorsing, have said this about Donald Trump, have said this about a lot.
I
of
don't believe you
right-wing
believe this.
commentators. No, I do believe this. Absolutely.
Were you
Kamala-
complaining
hold
when
on,
Donald
Kamala
Trump
Harris,
called his
Kamala
political
Harris,
opponents
when
fascist and
Kamala
scum?
Harris called Donald Trump a fascist, right? When she has called people who are obviously not fascist at all fascists, and she has kind of done this whole fear mongering thing, it gives people this sense of fear of, oh, we are under attack. Oh, the right wing is super violent and they're going to overthrow our democracy. And then it gives leeway to people like Tyler Robinson, who are violent radical terrorists.
There are
go out
scholars
there
of
and try
fascism
to
who
shoot
would
at
say that
people for
Trump
it.
represents
You guys
fascistic
call
ideas.
ICE. You guys call ICE the Gestapo, and what happens to ICE? You have a guy who gets on top of a roof, who is a radical left person, who attempts to shoot at ICE, kills the illegal immigrants that he was trying to save. Okay, that you guys so much love more than Americans, and what caused that? What causes someone who's 19, 20, 21?
Is there someone
to
else
get on
here who
top
I'm
of
not
a-
aware of who loves attacking police? Because it seems
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking
You
yourself.
guys
That's not
under
the position
PLN in
that I hold.
2020, when you guys did over $2 billion worth of damage in 2020, when you guys
guys.
burned down an entire city, killed over 30
This is
people,
what raises the
looted from
political
small
temperature, when
businesses.
you
Hold
say
on,
you
hold on,
guys are
hold on,
doing something.
hold on. It's not you guys. I'm talking about the left. It's not a race. I'm talking about the left. You guys
I
are
never said it
all the
was a
same. I don't care if I'm dealing with a radical leftist who is white, black, brown, Indian, whatever. I don't care. You're all you're
See,
part of
what is he talking about, bro? Wait.
Police because it seems
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking
You get
yourself.
someone who's 19, 20, 21.
Is there someone
to
else
get on
here who
top
I'm
of
not
a-
aware of who loves attacking police? Because it seems
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking
You
yourself.
guys
That's
under
not the position
PLN in
that I hold.
2020, when you guys did over $2 billion worth of damage in 2020, when you guys
guys.
burned down an entire city, killed over 30
This is
people,
what raises the
looted from
political
small
temperature, when
businesses.
you
Hold
say
on,
you
hold on,
guys are
hold on,
doing something.
hold on. It's not you guys. I'm talking about the left. It's not a race. I'm talking.
Who said anything about race, bro? Like, what is he on?
What raises the
looted from
political
small
temperature
businesses.
when you
Hold
say
on,
you
hold on,
guys are
hold on,
doing something?
hold on. It's not you guys. I'm talking about the left. It's not a race. I'm talking about the left. You guys
I
are all
never
the
said it
same.
was a race.
I don't care if I'm dealing with a radical leftist who is white, black, brown, Indian, whatever. I don't care.
I don't even understand what he's talking about right now. Can someone explain to me what this is even supposed to mean? Like steel manning his position, what this is?
2020, when you guys did over $2 billion worth of damage in 2020, when you guys
guys.
burned down an entire city, killed over 30
This
people.
is what raises the
looted
He says you guys burned down an entire city. Apparently I burned down I didn't know this, that I burned down a city.
from
political
small
temperature
businesses.
when you
Hold
say
on,
you
hold on,
guys are
hold on,
doing something.
hold on. It's not you guys. I'm talking about the left. It's not a race. I'm talking about the left. You guys
I
are all
never
the
said
same.
it was a race.
I don't care if I'm dealing with a radical leftist who is white, black, brown, Indian.
Yes, you just aren't at his level. That's why you can't understand. If only we could be 10,000 IQ like Matt Nucleotide.
Whatever. I don't care. You're part of the left and you are evil. Simple. But again, when you guys
Okay,
under BLM
now I'm pretty sure Fat GPT is just trolling, in which case you're doing a good job at trolling.
and the $2 billion worth of damages and looted from small businesses, I mean, talk about the response to Charlie Kirk. Obviously, the
I don't think Fat GPT is actually a Matt fan. I think this is someone who watches me and is just trolling.
right loved Charlie Kirk. When he was politically assassinated, you saw peaceful vigils. You saw memorials for him. They were actually vandalized by leftists and radicals. And guess what? Not a single store was looted, right? Not a single Adidas store, not a single Apple store was looted. There were no billions of dollars worth of damages. No one burned down any city. You guys burned down an entire city over a multiple times convicted felon who was a failed porn star who put a gun up to a pregnant woman's stomach because he couldn't get in a car. You guys burned down an entire city and killed
Every
officers.
time I've seen Matt bring up George Floyd, he always says he was a failed porn star. I don't know why this is so important to Matt to bring up. Like, I don't even know what the bearing of that would be on anything. I don't know why Matt is like familiar with his body of work and maybe he was like disappointed with it. This is what I mean, dude. Like, yeah, he talked more than me, but what the fuck is he talking about?
Entire city over a multiple times convicted felon who was a failed porn star who put a gun up to a pregnant woman's stomach because he couldn't get in a car. You guys burned down an entire city and killed officers and attacked police departments. Please don't talk about who's violence, okay?
I think
I'm
this is
going
an
to talk
interesting
about it,
point.
actually.
This is an interesting point to go on, fellas, because now we're getting towards the more sort of extreme sides of the aisle here. So, Adam, you were talking before about fascism and how you think Trump represents fascism. Matt, you're talking here about BLM and these sorts of groups that you'd probably consider terrorist organizations. So I think that's a good direction to go.
Yeah, I just want to go off real quick off of what Matt said. I just don't buy that you're so concerned about people raising the temperature with their rhetoric when the guy you support is the one who popularized the chant "lock her up." Who again, you're saying, "Oh, how dare Kamala Harris call Donald Trump a fascist?" Donald Trump called her a fascist. He called Joe Biden a fascist.
Wrong.
He called them communists. He called them scum. He called everyone who doesn't vote for him the enemy from within. And you are doing the exact same thing when you keep saying you guys support violence. You guys do this. Anytime you paint the left with broad strokes, which I don't really do about the right, I specifically specify ICE agents, DHS, the Trump administration. I have no hate in my heart towards people that voted for Trump. I think in many cases they were actually conned by Trump because he has a way with words. He has a charisma to him, and he took advantage of working class people in this country facing serious issues and lied to them and brainwashed them in some cases. I don't hate these people, whereas Trump does hate his political opponents. He calls them the enemy from within, and he said he wants to use the National Guard and the military against the enemy from within, including Nancy Pelosi and Adam Schiff and all these different Democrats. And again, you can act like you care about the temperature of political rhetoric, but if that was the case, I'd take you more seriously if you at least also called out Donald Trump for it. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to condemn, rhetoric that's not accurate, but calling Donald Trump a fascist is not that crazy. I would say right-wing authoritarian when there are scholars of fascism who literally
A way with words? I mean, yeah, I do think that Trump has a way with words. I don't know if it's a very intelligent way with words. He does have a way of speaking that people like. I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, he has a certain it factor that no other Republican has. I mean, I like Trump. If you watch my stuff, I've called him a right-wing authoritarian at every turn. But the point that I'm actually making here, again, I think makes Matt look more unhinged and makes me look more like a normal person, where I'm like, I don't hate anyone that voted for Trump. I hate the people that are lying to these people. I hate the Trump administration. I hate ICE. I hate the people with power. Not the people that have been conned into voting for them. Meanwhile, the guy you support says that I'm the enemy from within and I'm scum and I'm fascist.
left the country and said what he represents is a right-wing authoritarianism, and we can talk about whether or not Trump...
Matt won't debate you ever again. Dude, even getting him to do this debate, I think he only agreed because I told him that the moderator was like a right-winger with 900K subscribers. So maybe he was like, oh, this is like a big platform, or it's like a biased in my favor. I think if I just asked him to debate on TikTok Live or just like one-on-one with no moderator, I don't think he would have agreed.
Represents a right-wing authoritarianism. I don't think you want to have that conversation because it's not a conversation that looks at fascism, who lives seriously if you at least also called out Donald Trump for it. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to condemn, rhetoric that's not accurate, but calling Donald Trump a fascist is not that crazy. I would say right-wing authoritarian when there are scholars of fascism who literally left the country and said what he represents is a right-wing authoritarianism, and we can talk about whether or not Trump represents a right-wing authoritarianism. I don't think you want to have that conversation because it's not a conversation that looks good for you. And again, are you super angry that Trump called Biden and Harris fascist? Are you angry he called them the enemy from within and said we have to use the military against them? Or is it only a problem when Democrats do it?
So let me make this really simple. So one, Trump has not authorized the National Guard to go after any sort of political opponent. Trump has
Just ignore
authorized national. Hold on, let me finish. Trump has authorized the National Guard specifically to protect ICE agents because guess what? We have people like Brandon Johnson coming out and saying that, yeah, we will not cooperate with ICE, right? You have people like Zoran Mondani who screamed at Tom Homan and said, we would not, cooperate with ICE at all. And he was screaming at him saying that he's anti-American, he doesn't like the First Amendment, all because he's enforcing immigration. By the way, who was Tom Homan appointed by originally? Oh, yeah, Obama, yeah. And who was Tom Homan actually given an award from, by the way? Oh, yeah, Obama. So, yeah, because he does the job good, and Obama knows that. So go ahead and talk to Obama about that specifically. But again, when it comes to National Guard, yeah, 100,000%, the Insurrection Act of 1807 allows the president to federalize National Guard troops to fight against civil rebellions. When it comes to protecting these National Guard, when they're being deployed to certain cities like Chicago, aren't there to do police's job. They are there to protect ICE agents, okay? Because guess what? In cities like Chicago, which are ran by left-wing lunatics like Brandon Johnson, who only wants to hire people of color to be part of his cabinet, and yeah, go look all this stuff up.
I'm just writing down all your points so I can respond.
Okay, it's fine. What's going to happen is the Trump's administration is going to prefer to send National Guard troops to protect these agents. And no National Guard troops have been used against Nancy Pelosi. It's just more fear-mongering coming from you. And all we have to look at is recency. Again, I brought up the CSIS earlier, Center for Strategic and International Studies, which shows that left-wing terrorist attacks, and they go over a plot and all of this stuff, has been the highest in 2025 in consideration to the right. You guys have more political violence right now than you guys have ever had. That's just plain fact true. We've seen what's going on with Antifa. By the way, it's funny. You guys always talk about how, ICE should cover themselves and wear masks. Why doesn't Antifa, remove the face mask? Oh, they want to protect their identities. I'm curious. Are you for Antifa also, removing their masks? I'm assuming you're not because you're
I'm against all lawless action.
Well, that's
now,
not what I
asked respond because you made 4 or 5 different points there. I don't know why you pivoted from talking about political rhetoric. And the reason this happened is because Democrats say all these mean things about Republicans, and then I bring up a very
it's not mean to call someone a fascist. I mean, they're calling him a fascist, right?
It's not nice either. I mean, it's definitely not a positive thing to say about someone. That was kind of the point you were making, is that the reason that all this political violence is happening is because the Democratic Party is using all this rhetoric and raising the temperature and painting all these right-wingers as fascists and authoritarians. But you don't hold that same standard for Donald Trump, who again, you're saying, Trump didn't actually use the National Guard on anyone. Okay, now we're pivoting from rhetoric, which raises the temperature to action, which is, we can talk about that afterwards, but don't pivot from the actual conversation we were just having, which is that,
I mean, personally, I
the
believe
reason that
Brandon
Charlie
Johnson
Kirk was
should be
shot,
arrested,
the
but-
reason that Trump was shot is because the left has been calling these people fascist and evil, so of course it's going to happen. Well, Trump has also been calling these people fascist and evil and the enemy from within. Literally
But who's been
today,
shooting the shots?
literally today, Donald Trump said, I don't know if you saw the video of all the Democrats saying that if you're in the military, you should refuse illegal orders. Donald Trump just said a few hours ago that the Democrats in that video, Alyssa Slotkin and others, should be killed. They should be hung for saying that. What did they say?
Yeah,
that's
they
so
should go
egregious
through. They should go
and so
through.
horrible?
They should go through
What
a
is the egregious,
tribunal
horrible thing
and
they
be
said?
and be convicted of
Matt,
death.
Matt, you gotta let me finish. What is the egregious, horrible thing they said? Oh, if you're in the military, you
Pay attention here.
the egregious,
Tribunal.
horrible thing
And-
be killed. They should be hung for saying that. What did they
Yeah,
say
they
that's
should
so
go
egregious
through. They should go
and so
through.
horrible?
They should go through
What
a
is the egregious,
tribunal
horrible thing they said?
and be convicted of
Matt,
death.
Matt,
They should go through a tribunal and be put to death. That's what Matt Nuclear just said about making a video saying, hey, soldiers, don't follow unlawful orders. They should be put through a tribunal and put to death. Okay?
you gotta let me finish. What is the egregious, horrible thing they said? Oh, if you're in the military, you should.
Notice how he's going to change that, right? So everyone here, just bear in mind, right? The first time I bring it up, Matt says they should be put through a tribunal and put to death. That's Matt's first position on this. How many more positions is Matt going to take on this?
Refuse illegal orders. If
But they're
Trump
not illegal
had a
orders.
single brain cell, he could say, I'm not giving them illegal orders. Obviously, illegal
Right,
orders
they're
should
not
be
illegal
refused. Instead, he says, you should be hanged. So if you want to talk about who is raising the temperature,
Can I
who
respond
is
to that?
putting people's lives at risk, I would say it's the guy who routinely calls the other side scum and the enemy from within, and then pardons people who commit violence in his name.
Right.
And
so
just
let me
by the
talk
way,
about
on the National Guard thing, real quick, judges have blocked every single deployment except the DC one. So, time
Well, I
to
mean,
on that one.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that as well, but I mean, there's something core here, right? Specifically when it comes to the deployment of National Guard. But again, I can agree with certain decisions that judges have, and I can disagree with certain other decisions. I mean, there was a time when they authorized them and it was revoked, when there was an injunction, and so on. We can have that sort of conversation. But specifically, when you're referencing criminality in these aspects, when you're referencing rhetoric from whichever party, yeah, that is mostly coming from you guys. You guys called Destiny a fascist. I hate Destiny. I think he may be a pedophile, given the circumstances around him messaging minors for sex and all things like that. But again, you guys called that guy a fascist. He's definitely not a fascist. If anything, he's like a radical liberal, I would say, but he's definitely not a fascist. You guys like don't use terms correctly. And you fearmonger people, and you call the wrong people Nazis, which gets people killed. And this is exactly what we've seen recently. Where are the Proud Boy members
Where can I watch it? You can watch it on Rattlesnake TV on YouTube. Go to his channel, go to his live tab.
that have been going around to democratic institutions and killing people with rifles and having gear? You don't see this at all. Why don't you see this? Because it's not being something that's very much advocated by the right. And again, when you talk about no Congress member, no member of the House of Representatives has a right to tell people who are service members what they should not and should abide by. That's not under their authority. If you are trying to tell, because that's what they're actually, let me tell you what they're actually saying. What they're actually saying is refuse lawful orders. Yeah, that is dangerous. You should not be telling
What did you just say?
refuse. If you are trying to tell, because that's what they're actually, let me tell you what they're actually saying. What they're actually saying is refuse lawful orders. Yeah, that is dangerous.
He's claiming that they said to refuse lawful orders.
You should not be telling service members that they should refuse lawful orders. Okay? You should
You're
not be
literally
telling them
lying.
that. They are not the commander of chief. Who is the
You're
commander
literally
in chief?
lying.
Hold on. Who is the commander in chief?
Donald Trump, but you're
There you go.
literally
Exactly.
lying
So
to
why
your
would
teeth
random,
right now.
why would
That's just a
mem-
lie.
why would random members of Congress try to tell service members refuse unlawful orders? Now I know
Unlawful
I know
orders.
you guys
Okay,
like
you
to play-
changed it.
I know
You
you guys
changed
like
it.
to, no, it's
You
not
realized
that
you were
I'm changing it. I'm
lying
telling
and
you what
you
they're hold on,
changed it.
I
Okay.
wasn't lying. It's not that I'm changing it. I'm telling you what they're actually saying. What they're actually
Oh,
saying is
Matt gets
refuse
to decide
lawful.
what
Hold
they're
on.
actually saying.
What
Matt gets to decide if
they're
they have free
actually
speech.
what
Okay.
they are actually saying is refuse lawful orders, not unlawful. The reason why they put unlawful on there is
Listen, libs, you don't get it. When they say don't follow unlawful orders, what they actually mean is don't follow lawful orders. Obviously. Okay.
it's the same reason why Antifa calls itself anti-fascist and then goes on and says, well, if you're anti-me and not anti-fascist, you're actually just, against, people who are anti-fascist. It's that same sort of like language terminology game. The truth is they're telling service members to refuse lawful orders when they're not the commander in chief. I'm sorry, but yeah, that may be, that may be warranted for certain behaviors. That's a very bad way to behave and a very unconstitutional right to behave. Now,
It is
Congress has a
fascinating
right-
to me that
Congress
you
has
care
a right,
more.
Congress has a right to declare war. Hold on. Congress has a right to declare war, but Congress members individually have no right to tell service members what to abide and not abide by. That is completely not, they're not their commanders. They're not a military commander. They're not the commander in chief. They're not Pete Hegseth. They're none of those people. They have no authority. So if you are trying to tell service members individually as a person what they should and shouldn't abide by, I'm sorry, but that may warrant severe legal punishments. Maybe not death like Trump is saying, but severe punishments.
You
All right, Adam,
seem
I
to
reckon, respond to this point, and then I want
Sure.
to get into a little bit of cross-examination after this because I think that might
Sure.
be the best thing to do moving forward.
Sure. It seems like yet again, Matt, you are just against freedom of speech. Senators making a video saying, "Hey, we think you guys should not follow unlawful orders." In your mind, unlawful actually means lawful. This is the insane amount of times you have to twist yourself into a pretzel to make excuses for Trump. So Trump saying that these people should be killed, saying that Democrats are the enemy from within, that they're scum, that they're vermin, again, that they are fascists. Also, Trump has used the exact word of fascism as well. That to you is no big deal. But when Democrats make a video just politely saying, "Hey, we think you guys should refuse unlawful orders," you're like, "Oh, if you read between the lines, what they're actually saying is you should refuse lawful orders." You can just
No.
completely rewrite history if you want. And I'll ask you again, you can't point me to a single elected Democrat who is saying, "Let's pardon Tyler Robinson." That doesn't
I can
exist.
point you to a
What
single
you
elected
can do
Democrat
is
who
point
is
to
taking text
Republicans-
messages from
Matt,
Jeffrey
you gotta let me
Epstein
finish.
whilst
You
a
can't
hearing
point
is
to a
occurring.
single elected Democrat who wants to pardon Tyler Robinson. Meanwhile, the literal president of the United States, not Destiny, not some random guy on Twitter, the literal president of the United States is pardoning people who were convicted of seditious
I don't know why
conspiracy
you're still
and violence
crying
against
about-
police officers. The reason I keep bringing that up is because you claim to care about these values and principles, but you only use them as a political cudgel against Democrats. And when your own side is guilty of 1,000 times worse, you're weirdly silent about it. And any sort of words you don't like now are illegal. Apparently, these people you think can face legal
Right.
consequences for saying that the military should refuse unlawful orders. That's illegal to just say those words.
So I try to. You're not really tracking at all, Adam. In this conversation, I mentioned to you the terminology game. I can call myself anti-bad guy. You know the whole anti-bad guy, good guy club or whatever. It's
Yeah.
a joke on Antifa, right? If I call myself anti-bad guy, okay, and you're anti-me, are you now anti-bad?
What is bro talking? Like, what is this? He says you're not tracking, and then he just starts talking about something completely unrelated.
Bad guys? No, the
Okay.
same way that these leftists who are members of the House or Senate individually who are saying, actually, you should refuse unlawful orders. They don't determine whether or not the orders are lawful or unlawful. That is not under their
They didn't say they
jurisdiction.
do.
That would be well. So why are they talking? That would be under the jurisdiction of
Because Trump has
See, this is unhinged. Why are they talking? How dare they talk? Oh, okay.
say they
That
do
would be well. So why are they talking? That would be under the jurisdiction of
because Trump has tried to
commanders, the
unlawfully use
lieutenants.
the
Hold
National
on,
Guard.
hold on, and judges. I mean, are you not familiar with the three branches of government? You have legislative, judicial, and executive. You
Oh,
don't
Trump
have the right as a duly elected member of Congress to tell service members what they should and shouldn't abide by. You're not a judge. You're not a military commander. You're not a lieutenant.
It's not
You don't have
clocking to
any
you that he's
authority
standing
over
on
servicemen.
business.
I actually believe that's tyranny. That's tyrannical behavior to believe that you, as a member of the House, have the right to tell, service members, actually abide by this and don't abide by that, and just say, well, it's unlawful, and therefore, because you're playing the same game. You're saying that they said unlawful orders. So if I'm saying unlawful orders, I'm against, I'm for service members abiding by lawful.
Bro, breathe. Swallow. Like, what is this?
So if I'm against,
Calm
I'm saying
down.
unlawful orders. I'm against, I'm for service members.
He's so frantic and energetic to get across points that are complete non sequiturs to what we're talking about as well. At least if he was responding to what I was saying, I could understand the excitedness with which he speaks, but I think he just doesn't want me to talk. He's threatened by it or something.
Abiding by lawful orders, right? So you're really not getting the picture here. Okay.
All right,
You have
fellas.
to
I
understand
want
the
to.
picture.
Can I just
I
ask
want to move.
one super quick question?
You could do it in the cross exam because we're about to
Okay.
get into the cross examination. So
Sure.
you guys are going to have 10 minutes each here. And with the cross examination, it's basically you want to ask pointed questions and you want to be able to get responses. When it's your turn to cross examine, you can cut off at any time and you can move the conversation along at any time. You have the power. And then in the other person's cross examination, they'll have the exact same thing. So Adam, if you want to
Sure.
start off, you can cross examine Matt on his point. And Matt, if he interrupts, you have to cede to him.
Okay, I just want to be super, super clear, Matt. Is it your contention that the people?
Remember, everyone remembers, right, when he said that the people that were in that video, the Democrats that said, hey, military people, don't follow unlawful orders. You don't have to follow unlawful orders. And then Matt said, oh, they should be put through a tribunal and put to death. Everyone remember when he said that? That's his stated position, is that Democrats should be put to death for stating the obvious, which is that soldiers shouldn't follow unlawful orders. You're expecting the audience to be smarter than they actually. There is no one audience. There's a right audience, there's a left audience, there's a middle audience. Left audience is going to think I won. Right audience is going to think he won. Middle audience, I think, is also going to think I won. That's kind of the point.
Okay, I just want to be super, super clear, Matt. Is it your contention that the people that made that video saying you should refuse unlawful orders, that the making of that video and posting it is criminal?
Not necessarily. Well, I would believe it's not necessarily criminal. It wouldn't fall.
Everyone here remembers he said they should be put to death by tribunal. Now he's saying it's actually not criminal.
It's criminal?
Not necessarily. Well, I would believe it's not necessarily criminal. It wouldn't fall under criminal, but it would definitely fall under they have no authority to tell service members what they can.
Ah, yes. Statute 1345C, subsection D.
criminal. It wouldn't fall under criminal, but it would definitely fall under they have no authority.
The
to
they have no authority statute.
tell service.
Serious crime. If you get indicted for they don't have authority, you're cooked. You're going to jail.
It's not necessarily criminal. It wouldn't fall under criminal, but it would definitely fall under they have no authority to tell service members what they can and can't do.
I don't think they
And-
claimed the authority to give any like orders to the armed forces. It's just a
hold
PSA
on.
video.
They're claiming they're saying refuse lawful orders, and obviously these service members, any service member, I don't believe the majority of them would ever take any. I think the majority of our military is obviously conservative, but they're saying refuse unlawful orders, right? As if they have the right to tell.
Look at the flip flop.
Obviously, these service members, any service member, I don't believe the majority of them would ever take any. Refuse lawful orders,
Refuse lawful orders.
and obviously conservative, but they're saying refuse unlawful orders,
Refuse unlawful orders. Oh.
right? As if they have the right to tell them what they should and shouldn't refuse. That is not under their jurisdiction.
Matt, do
It
they have
just
the right to
isn't.
express opinions?
They have a right to express opinions, and they can say,
Fantastic.
I disagree with this decision by Pete Hegseth or by any member of the Pentagon or stuff like that. They can say that. But what they can't do is tell service members in this country who, swear allegiance to this country and obviously are under the commander-in-chief, they have no right to tell them what they should and shouldn't do. And
They
say,
do.
refuse unlawful orders. No, they have no rights.
They do. It's called the First Amendment.
Hold on. What legal? That's not the First. That's not having a right, right? In reference to telling people what they should and shouldn't do when that's not under their
Saying what
jurisdiction.
you think people should do is protected by the First Amendment. They're not invoking any legal
But
authority.
it's
They're
not
not
like
trying to give
it's
orders
not
to
even.
different
It's not
segments
like
of the military.
it's not a suggestion. It's an informal order.
It's an order.
It's an informal one. It's not one that is legally binding, of course.
It's an
But if I'm
informal
telling
order,
you, like,
guys.
for example, if you tell
The most dangerous kind of. What is he like? What is this, bro?
your son, let's say if you have kids. I mean, I'm 19, you're 23, turning 24. I'm pretty sure neither of us have kids. But if we tell our kids, don't go outside today or something like that, that's not legally binding per se, but that's still an order. The same way that these, Congress members, individual, are like, don't, go with this lawful order that I'm calling unlawful,
Pack it
which
up.
is not legally binding. It's not legally binding. They have no right to say things like that, right? They have no right to make those sort of propositions.
They
Now,
didn't
can
claim
they
it was legally binding.
They didn't have to claim it was legally binding. There's no.
You're just
reason
going to
why
read
you
into this.
Then why don't they?
and,
Why
come
don't
up
they
with what it actually
learn
means.
how
Okay.
to? Why don't they learn how to articulate themselves in a much more intelligent way? Because you always talk about how people are twisting themselves into pretzels.
Yes.
Why don't they instead just say, I disagree with this military command given by Pete Hegseth or Donald Trump. I don't agree.
Since we're doing cross-examination,
or why
do
don't they
you
just tell
hold-
Pete Hegseth? Why don't
It
they
is.
tell
It is
Pete Hegseth?
Adam's. It is Adam's cross exam. So Adam,
Yeah.
you get to ask questions.
We need to get a counter going for every time Jake tells Matt to shut the fuck up.
Do
Wow.
you hold Trump?
Pete Hegseth. Why don't
It
they
is.
tell
It is
Pete Hegseth?
Adam's. It is Adam's cross exam. So Adam,
Yeah.
you get to ask questions. Yeah.
Do you hold Trump to any of these same standards you hold Democrats to? God forbid they say the military shouldn't give unlawful orders. Like, no. What you have to say is, in my personal opinion, under the First Amendment, I happen to believe that military
didn't use the
people,
term
if they
shouldn't.
choose to, like, I mean, be consistent with your principles here. If you want to talk about the use of language to incite certain action, again, I know you're like really afraid of talking about January 6th, or you're like, oh, every time
Oh,
a
I'm
liberal
very
opens their phone and checks the date January 6th. No,
It
that's
is.
Trump. Trump's the guy who's like still pardoning these people, who's still complaining and crying about it to this day.
And how
you know
has
what?
that
I
negatively
do think
affected
that
Americans?
actually January 6th was pretty bad, considering that Trump knew he lost the election and then used illegal means to try to change
Should
the
we talk
results
about
of
the
the election.
BBC and how the BBC, speaking of inciting violence, obviously this
Oh, okay. Let's talk about that. Hold on. I'm gonna plug my laptop in real quick. Bear with me for 1 second. Maybe I can actually keep my mic plugged in while I grab this. Hold on. Okay. This is what I get for having to use a Windows laptop to do my lives on TikTok. The battery runs out after 2 minutes. Do you make a living off social media? Yes. Yes, I do. Remember when Trump did the same thing to the insurrectionists on January 6th? Trump pardoned the same January 6th twice this year. I brought that up. He pardoned one of them who was later indicted for threatening to kill an FBI agent. No one cares about the BBC situation. LMAO. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if anyone's going to... 1 second. I don't know if anyone's going to hear this exchange and come out thinking that the most important point we brought up was, what the? This shit is annoying, bro. I don't think anyone's going to watch this exchange and come out thinking, oh, the BBC people, that's super important, actually. That's what this is all about. What the Hold on. My wires got tangled. How old is Matt? I think he's 19. What was the BBC situation? He's about to explain it to us. This man doesn't know the definition of jurisdiction. They never know the definition of jurisdiction. They never know the definition of anything.
Recently came out from the BBC where 2 officials that were connected to the BBC, I think one director or something, resigned. Now, why did he resign? Well, when Trump gave his speech on January 6th, where he told people to be peaceful, and there was like a 50-minute time differential between when he said to be peaceful and when he said fight like hell, they try to merge it together and act as if it was said simultaneously.
Go to Jake Rattlesnake's YouTube channel. It's called Rattlesnake TV. Go to the live tab on his channel. It's the most recent live that just happened a few hours ago.
And guess what? 2 BBC officials had to resign because of that specific action. They resigned because of that action. They literally admitted guilt by resigning after that, right? And Trump is now suing the BBC. So if you want to talk about January 6th, am I someone who's in favor of the actions on January 6th necessarily? Obviously, it was a riot. You can disagree with the pardoning, but this isn't something that's negatively affecting Americans today. People like Zoran Mamdani, who are communist sympathizers, who are jihadist sympathizers, people who have been endorsed by someone who, in 1993 was an unindicted co-conspirator who defended 2 people who were convicted of terrorism for the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. Those are things more recent. People don't want to continuously talk about January 6th. I'm not even.
Is it freezing? Do I need to rewind a little bit? Connection seems fine on my end, but I don't know if I'm... Okay, I'll go back a bit, I guess.
Obviously, it was a riot. You can disagree with the pardoning, but this isn't something that's negatively affecting Americans today. People like Zoran Mamdani, who are communist sympathizers, who are jihadist sympathizers, people who have been endorsed by someone who, in 1993 was an unindicted co-conspirator who defended 2 people who were convicted of terrorism for the 1993 World Trade Center bombings. Those are things more recent. People don't want to continuously talk about January 6th. I'm not even mentioning Joe Biden yet. You notice I'm not continuously like if I want to go on.
Yeah, you'd rather
mention
mention Obama.
Well, right, in terms of favoring me, actually, because what Obama was doing was actually very much sensical when it came to immigration in a lot of ways.
I want to ask
right?
the question again.
Sensical. I love sensical policy. Who cares about sensible stuff? I like sensical. That's what I like.
And I'd really love to get an answer here. Do you hold Donald Trump to the same standard that you hold Destiny and people on Twitter and people on BBC? Does Donald Trump get held to that same standard?
No, I don't hold Donald Trump to their standard. But again, does Donald Trump have the...
Wait, why not?
You guys, well, I hold Donald Trump to a higher standard, actually, than those people, right?
It doesn't seem like it at all. You hold him to a much lower standard.
Actually, it does. But again, you talk about the freedom of speech. Donald Trump has the freedom of speech as well. The same way that you... Hold on. The same way that you believe that individuals, member of Congress, who have no legally binding, presentation and jurisprudence to tell people what they should and shouldn't do in the military, that are service members, is the exact same way that Donald Trump, not even in reference to his presidency, is someone who can do civil litigations and sue people when they try to defame his character and reputation and go through that in civil court, and has the right to say certain things that he wants. Right?
I want to use your favorite line
with it,
against
but
you
he
here.
also has the First Amendment, right?
You had a great line earlier that applies perfectly here. There's a difference between free speech and obstruction. And what Trump did on January 6th was not just free speech. He tried to obstruct an official proceeding, which he was indicted for. He had multiple false, his own team called them, I know MAGA likes to say that they were alternate electors. Trump's own legal team and leaked emails called them fake electors. And again, you can act like January 6th doesn't matter.
We are not in 2021 or 2025. Let's help Americans, right?
Tell Trump
let's help Americans
to do it again.
Let's talk about
All right, fellas, we got 3 more minutes on the clock for Adam, your cross-exam. What else would you like to ask?
2021, Matt,
no, it's not that I don't want to talk about it. It's just like we have all of these issues that are hurting the country right now, and you're still crying about January.
Let's talk about right now then.
Next
Would
question.
you oppose
Next
if
question.
Trump ends up signing his executive order that he drafted, which instructs the National Guard to go in and seize voting machines so the DNI can analyze the results and tell us the real winner? Would you be in favor of Trump doing that in 2026 and 2028? Yes or no?
I would have to specifically look deeper into that and see.
I can explain in detail. He has an executive order that's been drafted.
Hold on. I don't need Adam. I don't need you to specifically explain that to me. I think I can look at that myself because I know you like to lie and kind of like misconstrue what things actually are.
You're the only one who's
but we will worry about we can worry about that in 2026 and we can figure out the legality behind that. There's going to be judges are going to make decisions in reference to that. Obviously, there's no unilateral power there, but we definitely want to make sure that our elections are fair and actually free. We also want to make sure that hold on. We also want to make sure that if you are someone who wants to,
you see how terrified he is of me speaking at all? That despite taking up the majority of the speaking time, if I just like pitch in one word, he starts like tweaking out.
Go up to the ballot box. You should also be someone who is a U.S. citizen who shows ID, right, Adam?
Sure.
ID mandatory?
Yeah, make it free for everyone.
Hold on. Is that something popular in your party?
If you provide IDs to everyone, then yes.
No, is it popular in your party?
All right, you'll have time to
the
cross-examine next.
There
This is Adam's time to ask questions. You got 2 more minutes on the
ask
clock.
me that coming forward. I want to ask you again. You're saying, okay, well, the judge will figure it out. I'm just asking you, Mr. Nuclear, okay? If you are looking at this proposed executive order, which has been drafted, I'm just based on your own opinion, would you be in favor, based on how we know Trump responds to election results, which I assume you don't think that he won 2020, maybe you do, would you be in favor of Trump telling Pete Hegseth to federalize the National Guard in, let's say, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? The National Guard goes into polling places, they seize the voting machines, fly them to D.C., and then Tulsi Gabbard tells us, I'm going to analyze these voting machines and tell you guys who the real...
No, not once did the moderator have to tell me to stop talking. But I think we're now at 5 times he's had to tell Matt to shut up.
winners are. Would you be in favor of that?
Again, it would depend on the specific circumstances and the overreach. Obviously, if it's unilateral by Tulsi Gabbard, then that would be an issue. It shouldn't be unilateral. But obviously, if it's let's say bipartisanly like overseen, then
It's clearly
I would,
illegal.
hold on, then that would be okay, right? So that's specifically my position on that. But again, if we're talking about elections in the voting booth, this is something very important. Do you agree that it should be mandated right now before anything is made free, like having IDs?
And yeah, this is a valid criticism. I shouldn't have let him ask me a question here. This is one place where I should, because here it's still my cross-examination time, and I just got back into debate mode and I forgot that I had the like ultimate say, and I let him ask me a couple questions. So that is a fair. Someone brought that up earlier. This is where you should have not let him tell you to hold on. It was your time. Yeah. This last point about he asked me about voter ID. I should have made him wait to ask me about voter ID in his own cross-examination.
Have an ID when you go up there to vote.
I think you should make IDs free and then mandate it. Sure. Yeah,
It's not
mandate.
no. Should it be mandated right now before it's made free? Who can't afford an ID?
Free and accessible. It's not about affording.
who can't
People are
afford-
working
who can't
paycheck to
afford an ID
paycheck,
and can
40-hour
afford a-
weeks. Taking the time to go to the DMV and wait in line is like easier said than done. Again, I have no issue with requiring
To
voter
have,
ID.
hold on. How old are these
I have
people
no issue with
voting?
voter ID.
Hold on. Let's get into this a little bit. How old are these people voting?
I mean, anything over
Who
18?
can't go to the DMV and wait in line to get an ID? How old are they?
Wait, are you against giving them a free ID?
Hold on. Can you answer my question? How old are they?
It's Adam's question time still for 1 more minute, so.
Hold on. Shouldn't they? Shouldn't they? I'm sorry, but wouldn't the DMV?
Matt,
still
do
be
you
active?
support or
Hold on, hold on.
oppose everyone?
No,
getting a free
Adam
ID
gets
to
asked the
vote?
questions. Go for it, Adam.
What is this? The seventh time? The eighth time? Okay, honestly, when I saw people saying, "Oh, you let him talk too much," after I hopped off, I was like, "Oh no!" But now I'm watching it back, and I actually don't think so. I think every time I let Matt talk too much, it made him look really bad. And even the moderator, who again is a right winger, was like, "Hey, Matt, shut the fuck up."
I'm sorry, but wouldn't the DMV?
Matt,
still
do
be
you
active?
support or
Hold on, hold on.
oppose everyone?
No,
getting a free
Adam
ID
gets
to
asked the
vote?
questions. Go for it, Adam.
Matt, do you support or oppose everyone getting a free ID so they can vote? Easily accessible. They ship it to you. You can do it online.
No, I'm not necessarily in favor of that. I mean, it would
What's
decrease
the
city
issue with
funding.
that?
It would decrease city funding, obviously, because you know the
I'm
DMV
sure
is
it'd be
something that's
extremely
local. Well, I mean, things add up, so that's also a thing. And I believe every
Things
American
do
can
add
afford
up.
it. I'm sorry, but I believe every American can afford an ID. Like, I still want to ask. I know it's still like your time to cross.
You can
examine.
ask.
Things add up. I never thought about that. That things add up. I thought things multiply up and subtract up. Okay.
Because you know the
I'm
DMV
sure
is
it'd be
something that's
extremely
local. Well, I mean, things add up, so that's also a thing. And I believe every
Things
American
do
can
add
afford
up.
it. I'm sorry, but I believe every American can afford an ID. Like, I still want to ask. I know it's still like your time to cross.
You can
It's
ask this in
actually-
like a minute when you're. Or is this
We got 60 more seconds. Adam, if you got one last question, then we're going to move on, and then it's going to be Matt's turn to ask questions.
I'm just going to ask you. I mean, I haven't gotten a single
People are
answer to
still
that
gonna have
single
to wait in
question I've
line,
asked
but
you
the
for this
IDs are free,
entire
though.
cross-examination period. But I'm going to ask you again. What is the issue with just making
And
IDs
see,
easily
pointing that out as well, I think, is. I think everyone watching this can tell that he didn't answer a single question I asked him, and I think that makes him look pretty bad faith.
People are
for that
still gonna have to
single
wait in
question
line,
I've
but
asked
the
you for
IDs
this
are free,
entire
though.
cross-examination period. But I'm going to ask you again. What is the issue with just making IDs easily accessible to people?
It's not about making the IDs easily accessible. I don't think that IDs are going to become overwhelmingly easily accessible because, again, you're talking about people that are going to wait, have to go to the DMV and wait at the DMV. They're still going to have to wait if the IDs are made free. Actually, wouldn't it make the
Sure.
lines even longer? Because your excuse was if the reason why certain adults can't go to the DMV is because the lines are packed and they have work. Well, the lines are going to be even more packed if it's made free. Because
Not if you
it's
ship
free
it to
now,
people.
Because it's free now. Because it's free now. Well, I
Just
mean,
mail it to people.
well, do that in your democratic states then.
Sure. Do you
Right?
oppose that?
The DMV is a local. Well, the DMV is not a federal thing, so it wouldn't be.
Okay.
You wouldn't, so it would all be about states. It'd all be in reference to states. So do that in the
You care about state and federal differences in election law, but yet you're not.
hold on, don't pivot, don't
Interesting.
pivot, because you're not understanding the difference between a local government.
See, okay, here's an annoying thing where like I didn't realize that the mic didn't even fully pick up what I was saying here.
Yet you're not.
That's the annoying thing about over talking people. Like you really have to give people space to speak one at a time because I think this is a very good response from me, but I don't even think you can fully
You
hear
would,
it.
so it'd all be about states. It'd all be in reference to states. So do that in the
You
Demo-
care about state and federal differences in election law, but yet you're not.
Hold on, don't pivot, don't pivot.
You care about state and federal. What did I say?
Reference to states. So do
You
that in the Demo-
care about state and federal differences in election.
You care about state and federal differences in election law, but you're not sure if the National Guard can seize voting machines? Like he all of a sudden he cares so much about separation of powers and states and localities get to run their own elections. But when I asked you earlier about voting machines being seized, you're like, "Oh yeah, I think there's a case for that to be made."
Law, but yet you're
I didn't realize the mic did not pick that up. It's kind of annoying.
not sure if the National Guard can seize voting machines.
don't pivot, because you're not understanding the difference between a local government city government and federal government. You're not noticing the difference here, right? So again, is the DMV something that's locally done? Of course. So if your democratic states want this to happen, then do that.
I
Do
just
it
asked if you
locally.
support it or oppose it.
I don't mind. I personally oppose it. I personally oppose making you know, all of the IDs free.
See how in real time he's changing his answer to my question.
Then do that.
I
Do
just
it
asked if you
locally.
support it or oppose it.
See how I'm like very calmly being like, hey man, it's easy question. I've asked you 3 times now. And then he goes,
I don't mind.
I don't mind it.
I
Actually,
personally oppose it. I personally oppose.
I oppose it. Oh, is it midnight now? Damn, it is my birthday. That's crazy. I'd rather be nowhere else than watching Matt Nuclear verbal diarrhea on my laptop screen. This is the peak of life.
Do
Just
it
asked if you
locally.
support it or oppose it.
I don't mind. I personally oppose it.
I think here he was trying to thank you all for the birthday wishes. I think here he was trying to figure out what answer would look better for him. Because first he says he doesn't mind giving people free IDs that are easily accessible, but then he says he opposes it like literally 2 seconds later because maybe he sees the chat or something.
personally oppose making you know, all of the IDs free, and I don't think it'll fix your issue of people not being able to get IDs because your excuse
What about shipping
earlier-
them to them?
Hold on. Your excuse earlier for why people can't get IDs is because the lines would be too long. But your issue is that the lines would be even longer if the IDs become free.
There's no line outside my mailbox. I don't know what the issue would be with
So now
shipping
you're
IDs
changing
to
it to your
people.
mailbox. How long would it take?
I've been saying that for
How
like the
long
past
would it?
Speech? It's your speech about what? That it's my birthday?
Wouldn't it? Hold on.
All right, now
wouldn't it
let's transition.
be-
So
it would
Matt,
be-
now it's your turn to ask
Sure.
questions. You have interrupting rights, and you can ask the questions, and then Adam's going to answer them for the next 2
Okay,
minutes.
One thing I will say that I actually think I should have done differently. I should have interrupted the fuck out of Matt during his cross-examination. I remember there was one point where I literally stopped myself from saying something because I was like, wait, this is his cross-examination period, which in hindsight, my fatal flaw is I'm so good faith, guys. I'm such a good person. What can I say?
I'm sorry, but wouldn't it take you? I think it would be easier for me to go to my local DMV and
That's sarcasm, by the way, before someone starts commenting about liberal elitism or some
get
bullshit.
an ID. Let's say it takes me 2 hours or something. Then
Sure.
to have to wait like 3 to 5 business days until it reaches my mailbox. What? Is that
Sure,
not
you
true?
can choose if you want to go to the DMV or if you want to get it mailed to you. I just want to make it more
No,
accessible and more easy
I
to
think
get.
any functioning adult in modern society should just be able to go to their local DMV, wait a few hours, get an ID, and need that ID to vote. You agree?
Sure, and they can also get it mailed to them if they want. I think that's totally fine. I don't know what the issue
I'm pretty
is.
sure. I mean, it's all down to the state level. So I'm pretty sure some of them can get it mailed and some of them maybe can't get it mailed. I think it depends on how the state
And that's a
would
good thing.
operate it. That yeah, it's something that doesn't mind, but doesn't fix the issue.
Wait, I thought he said he opposes it. But now he's saying again he doesn't mind. First he said, I don't mind. I oppose it. I don't mind.
The
Come on, Matt. What am I supposed to respond to here? Which Matt am I debating?
problem is getting an ID is overwhelmingly accessible. So given that fact,
Thank you, Kyra or Kira, for the $20 for happy birthday. Thank you so much on Cash App. Appreciate that.
are you now proposing that people?
And actually, also, someone earlier sent me something. Thank you to Dyson CAD. Maybe you don't want me to say your last name. Thank you to Dyson for the what is this? Shit. For the 25 on PayPal as well. Thank you.
be mandated to have an ID when it comes to going.
I've
to
never
voting
been
booth.
against voter ID. I don't know where you're getting that idea from.
Right, but your party is the overwhelming majority of your party tries to
This is
undermine.
actually like not really true. If you ask Democrats about voter ID, the reason that they usually oppose it is because functionally speaking, it's pretty hard for some people to get access to an ID, and that's going to reduce voter turnout. I think if you ask Democrats, hey, if we could guarantee universally everyone access to a free ID that is very easy to obtain, then they wouldn't have any issue with voter ID. I can guarantee that. And by the way, I think voter ID is a good thing, but I think you have to have a holistic approach here and say if you're doing voter ID, thank you, Jonathan, for the trampoline teddy. If you're going to do voter ID, just make it so that everyone has easy and free access to an ID and that there's no friction there in obtaining an ID because you want to try to reduce as much as possible the roadblocks between a person and voting.
Polling on this,
the
it's not
overwhelming majority of your party, specifically when it comes to like AOC, undermines the importance of ID and says things like they disproportionately affect minority groups, almost calling minority groups dumb, by the way, saying that yeah, you're not intelligent enough to find out where your local DMV is and go get an ID.
I've never heard anyone on the left make this argument that they oppose voter ID because black people are not intelligent enough to find the DMV. What is he saying? Okay.
minority groups dumb, by the way, saying that, yeah, you're not even intelligent, you're not intelligent enough to find out where your local DMV is and go get an ID. I find that pretty disturbing in a way. It's like, it's another way, but let me get to the other things. So I really want to question you on Zoran Mamdani. Do you think it's of good moral character to take picture with someone who is an unindicted co-conspirator for the 1993 World Trade Center bombings? And although he was unindicted, Imam Mohaj openly stood as a character witness for the defense for someone who was the mastermind of the
Notice how when I'm talking to Matt, I'm like, hey, are you okay with people's First Amendment rights being violated? Are you okay with U.S. citizens being detained by ICE and not allowed to call a lawyer? Are you okay with due process rights being violated? Are you okay with ICE masking themselves and brutalizing people? Those are my critiques, right? His critique is, how do you feel about this person Mamdani took a picture with that one time? Okay. Don't know if those are really the same level of severity, but
1993 World Trade Center bombing. So he stood witness to someone for the defense side, and he also was a defense witness for someone else who was.
Were those people
of terrorism.
convicted that he was a witness for?
Both of them are convicted. The mastermind also. Do you think Zoran Mamdani taking a picture with this individual specifically, then going out later and still standing on those actions is a morally reprehensible thing?
I think it's not great. I don't think it's a big deal though.
You don't
I
think
wouldn't
it's a big,
take that
you don't think it's, you don't think it's a big deal to like
To take a picture with someone,
take
no.
a picture with take a picture and do an interview and all this stuff with Imam Wahaj, who was a 1990.
did Zoran Mamdani do an interview with this guy? I genuinely don't know, because when I follow politics, I normally don't follow useless, meaningless bullshit like who took a picture with who. I look more at like policy and campaign speeches, but is this true? Did Mamdani interview this guy? And then I saw someone saying either in my Discord or maybe in chat earlier that we didn't cover Epstein at all in this. Someone brought up earlier that Mamdani actually apologized for taking that picture. Is this true? Did Mamdani apologize for the picture as well?
93 World Trade Center bombing co-conspirator who served as a defense witness for the mastermind. You don't think
I
that
heard you
that's
the first
morally reprehensible?
To take a picture with that person, I don't think it's more. I think it's probably
And to
not
be
smart.
giggly with them, and to support them, and to be endorsed by them. After
giggly
knowing those
with them?
specific circumstances, that's not morally reprehensible?
See, like, what is this?
Here and do an interview and all
What's your Discord? Go to the link in my bio, the link tree in my TikTok bio. It has my Discord, YouTube, Instagram, everything else.
this stuff with Imam Wahaj, who was a 1993 World Trade Center bombing co-conspirator who served as a defense witness for the mastermind. You don't think
I
that
heard you
that's
the first
morally reprehensible?
To take a picture with that person, I don't think it's more. I think it's probably
And to
not
be
smart.
giggly with them, and to support them, and to be
He was giggly with. Is it? Who is Mamdani not giggly with? First of all, I'd be concerned if Mamdani wasn't giggly. That's not like him. This is so. See, places like here, I can do nothing but just laugh, because I know the audience has seen me ask him about serious civil rights violations, and then when the floor is his to ask me questions, he's asking about, do you condemn that Mamdani was giggly with someone in a picture?
To take a picture with that person, I don't think it's more. I think it's probably
and to
not
be
smart.
giggly with them, and to support them, and to be endorsed by them. After
giggly
knowing those
with them?
specific circumstances, that's not morally reprehensible?
It's probably not great to be giggly with someone who's an unindicted, would you say, co-conspirator in the World
the
Trade Center bombing.
1993
I just
for
don't
the-
think it's a big deal when we're evaluating Zoran Mamdani overall.
He stood as a character witness for the
I
defense.
understood that when you
And
said
the
it
guy
first time.
and the guy that he stood as a defense witness to was literally convicted as the mastermind behind 1993 World Trade
Okay,
Center bombing.
and that's bad.
That's morally reprehensible, and Zoran Mamdani shouldn't have taken a picture
Morally
with him.
reprehensible is
and then later
extreme
justified
word
that
for
picture,
that.
correct?
Morally reprehensible is not the word I would use. It's very extreme language for that.
It's extreme to do a 1993 to do a bombing of the World Trade Centers and to stand as
True.
a character witness for the defense.
Mamdani didn't do any bombings.
Mamdani didn't, but he supported and endorsed someone who did.
Endorsed him for what?
Right? Imam Wahaj endorsed Zoran Mamdani, but obviously he was very
Okay.
supportive of Imam Wahaj.
Yeah, I think taking that picture
Okay.
probably wasn't a good idea. This is
In the chat, whenever someone periodically asks where can I find this YouTube video, can one of y'all just let them know so I don't have to keep saying it?
someone who's been linked
No,
to
but
terrorism
after
before.
Zoran was asked
Not
about
good.
it, he still defended Imam Wahaj. Like even
What did he
after
say for his
knowing the
defense?
circumstances. Well, he said that he was unindicted and he doesn't really.
Is this even true? Did Mamdani apologize for taking a pic with Imam? What is it? Wahaj? Oh no, he didn't apologize for this. He said, Mamdani's response has been to accuse critics of Islamophobia, note that the Imam has been respected Community figure for decades, meeting with several high profile. Yeah, this guy wasn't indicted, right? He addressed it, but he didn't apologize. I don't understand why this even matters. But
really mind the fact that he stood as a character witness to those who were literally convicted of terrorism.
Nothing illegal there, right?
It's not illegal, but is it morally okay?
It's probably not great, no. But
It's not great at all, right?
The language is morally reprehensible.
Hold on.
It feels hyperbolic to me.
If I tell you that Hamas should disarm, would you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, great. Do you think if you want to serve as
see here, this is what I was talking about. See how I
disarm,
stopped
would you agree
myself?
with that?
Sure.
Okay, great. Do you think if you want to
I stopped myself here because I'm like, oh, it's Matt's time for cross-examination. That was a mistake. I should have interrupted him. I shouldn't have been so good faith during this section. I was going to ask him, if I told you that the IDF should disarm, would you agree with that? Because I'll say Hamas should disarm. Or do you think that the IDF should disarm and stop doing like a genocide and stuff? But
Hamas should disarm, would you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, great. Do you think
If
if you want to serve as the mayor of New York City and Zoran Mamdani fails to call for the disarmament of designated terrorist organizations, that speaks bad of his character?
Say it again.
If Zoran Mamdani refuses to call for the disarmament of designated terrorist organizations, is that good or bad?
I mean, he doesn't have any influence on foreign policy, so I don't really care.
It's not about It's not about just influence over foreign policy. It's about character in a way. And by
It's
the way,
just not significant to me in my evaluation of him as a mayoral candidate.
because you're talking about character, don't you guys always talk about how Trump said certain things in the past and he was racist and all these things? Why are those things brought up? Because you guys take the importance of character, not just policy prescription. So is it bad for someone's character when they fail to condemn a designated terrorist organization, which is only second in terms of terrorist attack significance to 9/11? Is that a bad thing?
I think refusing to condemn terrorism the way that Trump has also done before is a bad thing, yes.
Okay, there you go. See, I had to put Trump in there because you always have to run away to scapegoat him. But okay,
Should I do
those are
Obama
two things.
instead?
Those are two things. Hold on. Those are two things that Zoran Mamdani has done. One of them is really morally reprehensible, and the other one
like
is
he's complaining about like, why are you bringing up Trump? Like, bro, you've been bringing up other people this entire conversation. I'm glad I
Trump has also done before is a bad thing, yes.
okay. There you go. See, bad thing.
I think refusing to condemn terrorism the way that Trump has also done before is a bad thing, yes.
Okay, there you go. See, I had to put Trump in there because you always have to run away to scapegoat him. But okay,
Should I do
those are
Obama
two
instead?
things. Those are two things. Hold on. Those are two things that Zoran Mamdani has done. One of them is really morally reprehensible, and the other one is just straight up like a pretty silly thing. But I'm not surprised because he's very much endorsed jihad. Is it also morally reprehensible to lie about having an aunt who after 9/11 couldn't go on the subway train with the hijab because people would be in fear of her?
These are his questions. My questions to him were like, hey man, should people be put in jail for expressing their opinion? His questions to me are like, what about this picture? What about his aunt?
When one, it wasn't his aunt, because his aunt actually didn't live in New York and his aunt doesn't wear a hijab. And is it also pretty inappropriate to lie like that on 9/11? Where over
In South
2,000
Asian culture, you call people aunt even if they're like cousins of your parents. That's
yeah,
like
but he was
very
proven.
normal.
But he changed his wording after. At first, it was his aunt, and then he says, "Well, it's the cousin of my dad."
That's-
Right?
we would call that an aunt in Desi culture,
He
yes.
could have said, "Well, hold on. He could have actually said the truth." Right? And by the
That is the
way,
truth.
and by the way, that other person you're talking about hasn't been proven to actually live in New York at all either, and nor wears a hijab. So
Okay.
he's also
I
a
call
liar.
cousins if my
He's also,
parents
he's also a
aunt and
liar.
uncle. Like that's just how it is.
Yeah, but it's not about that. It's about the circumstance. The circumstances is apparently she was afraid to go on the subway train because she couldn't wear her hijab, and neither two of those women ever wore a hijab. So it's just a blatant lie. And is that very inappropriate when Americans jump to their death? Over 2,900 killed, and that's what you do. You lie about a story and misrepresent things. It just speaks about your bad character. Again, this guy wants to run New York City. He's in New York City, specifically where 9/11's most horrific attack happened, apart from like the Pentagon, and he's lying about his aunt and the circumstances around it, instead of like bringing actual victims' families and talking about the horrific results of Islamic terrorism, right? Like, and let's go about policy because his character is reprehensible. And by the way, let me ask you a question. This is really important. Do you think Zoran Mamdani sees himself as an American?
Yeah.
So who do you think knows more about Zoran Mamdani? Him or his mother? You or his mother?
Probably his mother.
So Zoran Mamdani's mother in an interview.
I know the
said that, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Into it. Zoran Mamdani's mom.
It's just
in an
not
interview-
that
hold on,
deep,
hold on.
okay.
Zoran Mamdani's. You know it, Adam. You know it. Zoran Mamdani's mother in an interview said that Zoran doesn't see himself as an American. He sees himself as a Ugandan and Indian. Now, I think, yeah, you can do Pikachu face all the time. That's what I do to all your allegations, right? But
Interesting self-report there.
Ugandan and Indian. Now, I think, yeah, you can do Pikachu face all the time. That's what I do to all your allegations, right?
True, Matt. That is all you do is you don't respond to anything I say. Thanks for telling us.
But I think that when you want to run the largest city in the country, you should see yourself as an American. And I think that's also another core problem with Zoran
I
Mamdani. Let's
think
talk
if you
about
asked him
policy.
that, he'd say, "I see myself as an American."
Oh yeah, he changed. Yeah, but I think his mother knows more about him.
Yeah, there's probably
apart from- and
context
I- and I-
surrounding
and I
that,
don't
like
like- and I- and I
culturally
don't- I don't
speaking,
think-
linguistically speaking. He probably feels connected to those cultures because he grew up there. That's fine.
Yeah, but he's very disconnected from this country. He's also lied continuously about multiple different things. He said that he wants to decriminalize prostitution now, but earlier he said he didn't want to do it. He's
called
openly
changing
lied
your
about
mind?
changing your mind or lying.
Well, Mamdani has seriously moderated compared to like 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So what about the fact that he also said that he doesn't want to work with Trump's administration? He wants to
Hold up,
Trump-proof
can you
the
guys
city.
hear the barking
And
in
also
the
tomorrow,
background or
hold
no?
on. He said that he wants to Trump-proof the city.
Bro, this man is tweaking. My dog was basically at my door barking. And I just asked, like, hey, by the way, can you guys hear the barking? Because I wanted to make sure the microphone wasn't picking it up. And Jay kind of tells me, like, it's chill. And Matt's like, hold on. Bro.
Want to work with Trump's administration. He wants to
Hold up,
Trump-proof
can you
the
guys
city.
hear the barking
And
in
also
the
tomorrow,
background or
hold
no?
on. He said that he wants to Trump.
Bro, relax. No one's taking the clock from you. You can talk.
Proof
all
the
you've been
city. He
doing.
wants to stop, mayoral connection between New York and the federal government. Although now he's meeting with Trump tomorrow, so he's really
Exciting.
flip-flopping, and he's actually hurting a lot of you guys in many ways. What about his attack on businesses, proposing
Like-
30
Can everyone else tell? Like, he's like on edge this entire debate. He's like so irritable and frantic.
$1 minimum wage by 2030, which is awful. Okay, and also proposing government-owned grocery stores.
Hold on.
Yeah, I don't like either of those policies, but he can't get them done, so I don't really care.
So are you going to just make the argument that if someone proposes horrible policy, if they can't get them done, that doesn't speak to anything?
It speaks to me disagreeing with their policy, but it doesn't really pose much of a threat if those policies aren't going to get implemented.
So you're talking about the effect of the policy, not even just the proposed action itself.
When we're talking about, again, the prompt, like the threat
Right.
this represents to the country, I think words don't represent a real threat. I know you're super against free speech.
So it's
it
not
seems like,
words, but I mean, policy prescriptions are a real thing, and it's not
Sure.
likely that he'll get these things done.
I can support
But there's
someone and
also-
disagree with them on a
but there's
couple.
Notice how we went from saying that Democrats saying that the military shouldn't follow unlawful orders is like extremely dangerous, but then
But I mean, policy prescriptions are a real thing, and it's not
here he has a totally different stance on the importance of words.
likely that he'll get these
Or
things.
rather, when I say that Trump wants to kill these people, he wants to send the National Guard after them, it's like, that's just words. Trump didn't actually send the National Guard after anyone. But then when we're talking about Mamdani's policies, which he can't even carry out, right? Like, Trump has federalized National Guard units and tried to deploy them. I don't think that
I know you're super against free
his
speech.
not
claims
words,
here
but I
of
mean-
Mamdani trying to do something are going to bear out if Mamdani doesn't have the authority to do it.
Policy prescriptions are a real thing, and it's not
Sure.
likely that he'll get these things done.
I can support
But there's
someone and
also-
disagree with them on a
but
couple things.
there's also a possibility that he gets some of
Jeez.
these things done, and this is popular amongst
Bro
the
has
Dem-
like
there's
an
also,
echo on his. He just says everything 3 times.
but there's also a possibility that he gets some of these things done, and this is popular amongst the Democratic electorate, is it not? These
Government run
policies-
grocery stores. I don't know. Raising minimum wage, yeah.
Raising minimum wage.
Last
and
minute-
government-owned grocery
last
stores
minute
is
here,
something
Matt.
that's very it's last minute. It's something that's very popular amongst the Democratic electorate, right?
Mhm.
Not to mention his horrible policies on building homes. You mentioned building homes. You know he can't build homes.
You know that clip from is it from The Punisher where he's like at the dinner table and he's like, wait. That was Matt this entire debate.
And also have rent freezes and rent stabilization that
you can.
disincentivizes new units building.
No, a
What's the
very,
incentive?
very small proportion of new housing starts are rent stabilized. Most rent stabilized units were built decades ago. They're not really building
But it
any new ones. This wouldn't
disincentivizes
affect
new
them.
units being built. That's
No, because
it's
not rent.
Matt, I feel like I've had to tell you this and other people before. Usually, if you cook someone, you shouldn't have to keep announcing that and doing this like weird self-soothing behavior where you're like, yes, you cooked him. Good job, Matt. I'm so smart. I did so well. Proud of you, buddy.
Economically
Non-rent
improve it.
stabilized units are not subject to the rent guidelines board. So that
Yeah, but
wouldn't affect
you're
them.
less. Yeah, but he assigns all 9 members of the rent
Let me know if you ever plan on responding to a single point I made in this debate instead of just filibustering and running.
guideline boards. And
Yeah.
what ends up happening, and this has been shown in multiple different cities, is that when rent freeze or rent stabilization is proposed,
Mhm.
new units being built is disty to those units. It may apply to those units eventually, and that discourages
may
new building.
apply
Another thing
eventually.
when it comes to communism, Leibniz is pointing out
Hypothetically, in a
100%,
video
very
game in
sorry.
GTA.
He's also proposed that when landlords who own certain buildings refuse to renovate or fix the property or repair damages,
Matt, you were yapping so much that we've been running a counter. Jake had to tell you to shut up like 7 times. Because I think you got frantic or panicked when I would ask you something and you'd start giving me a speech about we send soldiers across the Pacific Ocean and not answering anything I would say. You can just take a deep breath and go point by point next time.
he'll first go in there, repair. The city will repair all of the damages and send the landlords to build. The issue when you rent freeze is that you're not freezing the cost of plumbers, of engineers, of the renovation, or any of these things, which is why those landlords don't want to renovate in the first place. It's not like they're doing it for no reason. And he said if they don't agree to pay for the forced like repairment of those property,
How dare they?
the city will take over the entire building, which is seizing the means of production, which is a core tenet of communism, by the way. And it's
Like
funny
when
because
Trump
like,
nationalized
you're indirectly agreeing that like all of his policies are like basically bad.
Yeah, this is
No,
You're
most
not
of his
even-
policies-
you're not
This again is why I didn't talk over him a lot, is because if two people are talking at once, you can't hear either of them. They care so much about nationalizing the means of production. Trump's out here nationalizing Intel. I think he went to, was it Nvidia? Trump is taking stakes in private companies with the government, not even through legislation, through executive action. When
because
Trump nationalized Intel.
you're indirectly agreeing that like all of his policies are like basically
Palantir?
bad.
No, most of
You're not
his
even-
policies
you're not even
fantastic.
defending. You're not really
Reforming
defending any
zoning,
policy.
reforming permitting, increasing tax revenue. These are all amazing policies. And again, you're acting like
Hold
he's
on,
going to destroy
they're amazing
housing
now. You
supply.
said he could go-
His proposals for zoning
Hold on.
reform
I
increase
can
housing
interrupt. I
supply.
can interrupt during my. The thing is,
Last
you're
point, last
You're
point.
saying they're amazing. You're saying they're amazing. Yeah, you're also saying I don't really care because he can't get them done. So which one is it?
The ones he can get done are good ones, right? The things like government
He can't
grocery
increase
stores,
tax revenue.
30 is probably too high for the minimum wage.
He can't
Having a
increase tax.
city-
He can't increase tax revenue.
All right, guys. I think this is a good time to go on to the closing statements. You guys only have 2 minutes, give or
I don't know
take.
if anyone saw this. I think I saw an article recently that Hoko actually is considering that she will raise taxes to work with Mamdani. That would be interesting. Yeah, because raising, I think it is probably better to raise the taxes on a state level than, I know he wants to implement like an increase in the income tax for New York City specifically. City-based income taxes don't really work. I mean, if you want to tax locally, that's why we have property taxes and sometimes sale taxes as well. But if we're trying to tax income or corporations more, I think ideally federal level. But if you can get Hochul to work with him on that, that'd be really good because, I mean, broadly speaking, across this country, our tax rates are too low, especially on the wealthy. There's a lot more revenue we could be bringing in, and we'd have a lot less debt, a lot less deficit if we actually had money coming in.
Each to give your closing statements. If you go over 30 seconds or whatever, it doesn't really matter. And then, guys, we're going to get into some super chats as well. So whatever you guys have said, any questions that you've got for the debaters today, you can get into some super chats with them.
Matt says his policies are going to make NYC less affordable. Okay, but have you considered actually the even bigger problem, which is that he took a picture with someone that one time and that his aunt actually wasn't really his aunt if you use a very strict definition, and she was the cousin of his parents? Those are the things that keep me up at night when I'm thinking about the future of this country and American radicalism.
So, Matt, you've got 2 minutes on the clock. Closing statement.
I mean, I'd rather him go first.
No, he opened it up.
Okay.
So,
okay,
yeah.
okay, I mean, my closing statement generally refers to all of this is that it's been proven in reference to recency in 2025 that left-wingers commit the most amount of political violence. We've seen all the attacks on ICE, people getting on top of roofs, sniping at ICE agents. You saw Charlie Kirk get sniped. You're seeing all of the 1,000% increase in violence against ICE. You're seeing people want ICE to, demask and show their faces so people can figure out their names and kill them in their homes and kill their family members and attack them. You are seeing the rise of radicalism within the Democratic Party.
Damn, I
people
have to heat up my chicken tenders again. I got so locked in on the debate for a second, my food got kind of cold. I'll do it after.
Omar Fateh, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and Zoran Mamdani proposing socialist policies which are awful, which have left to the starvation of millions of people across multiple different countries. You're seeing the new wave of socialism amongst the youth, which I think is only bad for the country and how we progress forward in a general sense. He hasn't really been able to substantiate how the right wing is more violent. I mean, I showed him the data that obviously it's like more left wingers are violent now than ever. I've obviously showed him the data when it comes to like Democrats being 9 times more likely to celebrate political violence. They can mention January 6th, which is basically a riot at the Capitol if they want to, but $2 billion worth of damages under BLM, which BLM has always been a Marxist-Leninist movement, which they looted from stores, did all that violence. When you saw Charlie Kirk get assassinated, peaceful vigils, all of those things were peaceful. I don't think that we actually didn't get to speak about like Epstein and the Democratic conspiracy with Epstein and all of that. So that's very unfortunate because you have people like
That would have been
Stacey
fun. I
Plaskett.
noticed neither of us really delved into the Epstein stuff. I think I did make a Bubba remark at one point. Epstein debate could be fun too if he if he ever wants to debate again.
who are getting messages from Jeffrey Epstein on how to interrogate Trump's lawyers and stuff. And you also have
You have
Jeff
to
Powell.
do what Trump and Biden did in their debate, where they had like the microphone is muted when it's not your turn to talk. That'll be a good idea. And then I'll say we killed Medicare. What did he say? We beat Medicaid.
Well,
And then we can argue about golf.
Hakeem Jeffries supposedly like wanting to meet up with Epstein for a dinner 4 years after he was convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution and taking campaign money from both. We didn't get to talk about all of those different things, unfortunately.
Bubba.
But I think generally, right. But I think generally the Bubba thing is really silly. Like, come on, it's not even like. But I think generally when it comes to all of these sorts of different things,
I love Bubba is just such a goofy sounding name as well. And you can just anytime a MAGA person is talking, just out of nowhere, no context needed, just say the word Bubba and just look at them and wait and see their reaction. It's fun. It's like a little verbal tick or something.
he's just been proven to be wrong on every aspect. If you're, sitting member of the House of Representatives, you don't have the unilateral right or any sort of like legal precedent to tell service members what they should not or should, oblige with or agree with. That's just silly. He kept continuously mentioning January 6th as if that means anything. When we talked about deportations and ICE, over 1.6 million people self-deported.
That's 2 minutes.
They're given $1,000 to self-deport. Over 400,000 have been deported through removals. Again, common sense policy. Yeah.
Adam?
Sure. So, as I've been saying throughout this entire debate, I oppose any form of radicalism that breaks the law or puts people's lives in danger. I believe in things like rule of law and constitutional rights, which over the course of this conversation, it seems like Matt plays very fast and loose with whether he actually supports things like the First Amendment or due process or protecting law enforcement from threats from political radicals, for example. We can look at statistics, and the same CSIS study that said this was the first year where left-wing violence overtook right-wing violence
Recency.
also said that 30 years before then, it was the other
30
way
years
around.
before.
And the big
Closing
difference between
statements, no
how both
interruptions.
parties engage with political violence is
What is this? The 9th time? The 8th time that Jake has had to just bitch slap Matt and be like, yo, bro, stop talking. Just stop. It's not your turn to talk right now.
before then, it was the other
30
way
years
around.
before.
And the big
Closing
difference between
statements, no
how
interruptions.
both
You
parties
interrupted with Bubba. Yeah, that's... How many times did I interrupt you total in this debate? Once when I said Bubba? Maybe twice? How many times did Jake, the moderator, the right-wing moderator, have to tell you to stop talking and let me finish? Because you were so frantic and so afraid of addressing any of my points that you'd rather filibuster?
parties engage with political violence is that the Democratic Party, at every single turn, all the elected officials, all the people that are actually in power, also said that 30 years before then, it was the other
30
way
years
around.
before.
And the big
Closing
difference between
statements, no
how both
interruptions.
parties engage with political violence is that the Democratic Party, at every single turn, all the elected officials, all the people that are actually in power, unequivocally condemn it, whereas the Republican Party, especially under the leadership of Trump, they endorse political violence, they call for the death and imprisonment of their opponents. Again, Trump said today that these people should be hung. He said prior that Gavin Newsom should be in jail, that J.B. Pritzker should be in jail. Again, he has given a green light to people that want to engage in this sort of illegal political violence by pardoning them and even for unrelated charges later on continuing to pardon them, which sends a message: if you commit political violence for me, I got you, I'll take care of you, I'll pardon you. Also the double standards that were on display throughout this entire conversation, the fact that we are holding Destiny and random people on Twitter and just you guys or the left, whatever this amorphous group is that he keeps referencing, to a higher standard than the president of the United States is ridiculous to me. And then I think what we've actually seen on display here over the course of this conversation is what I know that people like to talk about, TDS. I think Matt here might have Trump devotion syndrome.
Okay, well, thank you very much, guys. Let's get into a few super chats, see what the audience has been saying. Let's get this started. We can definitely get the goal tonight, says Aaron. Optimistic. Miss D says, smash that 50 super goal and 250 likes membership
I will
giveaway.
say, I know some people were complaining like, oh, the comments were like really vile during this and like, why are you on like such a right-wing platform? Me personally, I enjoy being in like the Lion's Den or being on the back foot in a sense, or being on like unfriendly platforms. For me, it's more fun, especially when the super chats come in. Like most of them are like asking me tough questions. Yeah, I just enjoy that vibe, honestly. I thought it was fun. And Jake for, I mean, I probably disagree with Jake on almost everything politically, but in my experience, he has been a relatively fair moderator in the 3 debates I've done with him now. And yeah, it's cool that he was able to set this up, right? Because I texted him last week and I was like, hey man, Matt and I want to debate. Would you be down to moderate us? And to Jake's credit, he was like, sure, I'll be back from tour next week and we can get it set up. So shout out to Jake for hosting and moderating. And to everyone who's like, why'd you go on a right-wing platform? That was very intentional. And I honestly enjoy being in that sort of like adversarial environment.
Malcolm says, must set a good example for the pause like the stream. Thank you guys for that. Aaron says, it isn't just about policy, about if policy can be implemented. People voting for bad policy shows where the people stand. And that
The obvious response to this is like, people don't vote for policy. And this is something I say, by the way, to people on the left as well. No one's voting based on policy. Very, very few people are voting based on policy. I know we'd like to think that like, oh, if someone just runs with the perfect policy platform, they'll win everything. No one's voting based on policy. When they did blind polling between Kamala Harris's platform and Donald Trump's platform, I believe it was like 70% of people preferred Kamala Harris's policy platform to Donald Trump's. But you're voting for charisma. You're voting for what you see as being leadership skills, intelligence, public speaking ability, any other X factor, charisma, or just certain like archetypes or characteristics you might display. I really don't think, and this is why I also sometimes disagree with people that are like, oh, the future of the party is we have to move towards the left, or we have to move towards the center, or we have to stay exactly the same. It's actually none of those things. I mean, if you're voting for a promise of having free things, next you liberals are going to say we should have free public schools and free police officers and free fire. Oh, wait, that stuff is already free and no one cries about it. It's almost like you can have different levels of socialization in an economy based on what markets can handle well and what markets can't handle well. I've never met someone who actually understands economics that believes in this idea of like the invisible hand of the market and the free market. Not really how anything works in real life. Markets can be very inefficient, barring government intervention.
That in and of itself can set precedent.
Right.
The Cut for Five says, Adam, you're getting nuked. Are you okay with this eminent domain on landlords in NY for not fixing something while the mayor puts rents on freeze? Rents
Yeah, so
freeze
again,
is-
I want to clarify, when we're talking about a rent freeze, we're not talking about people not paying rent anymore. We're talking about a freeze in the increase in rent, which has been done before. There's precedent for that. When it comes to eminent domain, I mean, this is
a point that I don't see brought up often. I feel like when people talk about rent freezes, they're conjuring up the image in your head that like Mamdani's going to come in and he's going to say no one has to pay rent anymore. No, what that would mean is that if you live in a rent stabilized unit, instead of increasing your rent by 3%, 2.5%, they just say we're going to keep your rent the same as what it is. That doesn't even necessitate actually that people are going to be losing money here, because sometimes you might have landlords increasing their profit margins by increasing rent by more than the increase in their costs. So I don't really buy this idea that it's like a super danger. I'm actually against rent control. Like it's economically not a sound policy, but this isn't even really rent control in the sense where it's like we're going to lower rents or we're going to tell people to stop paying rent. This is just referring to a very small subsection. I believe it's like under 40% of apartments in New York City that are rent stabilized. I believe most were built in the 70s and 80s. They don't really build rent stabilized units anymore, saying that if you live in these units, we're not going to increase your rent. And while we do that, we're going to increase housing supply. And anyone, right or left, who is honest will tell you that the reason housing is expensive in this country is because of the supply issue. We don't build enough housing. Our zoning laws are fucked. Single family zoning is horrible. Mamdani ran on making higher density housing near bus stops, near like subway entrances, where I think currently zoning laws mandate that there can't be a certain density of residential or apartments near areas of transportation. Mamdani wants to eliminate that policy and say, actually, no, we can build very dense housing even near like train stations or subway stations or bus stations. Hold on. I gotta let my dog out real quick. Hold on. I'll rewind this a little bit. You guys can watch this. I'll be back in like literally 2 seconds.
With this eminent domain on landlords in NY for not fixing something while the mayor puts rents on freeze. Rents
Yeah, so
freeze is
again,
on.
I want to clarify, when we're talking about a rent freeze, we're not talking about people not paying rent anymore. We're talking about a freeze in the increase in rent, which has been done before. There's precedent for that. When it comes to eminent domain, I mean, this is a last resort when you have like neglectful landlords. I'm personally going to come down, maybe this is controversial, against neglectful landlords. I think if you have apartments that you're renting out to people, you should probably do your best to keep them in good condition, and that if you are violating city codes or safety rules, then there is a role for city government to step in.
In 2020, when you guys did over $2 billion.
Sorry, Crusader here says no question
And you know, do the wheeling and dealing of politics, building
of political violence outside JC. Shots fired at Beef Sleazy there.
Rent freeze and rent stabilization units in New York, it costs like $100,000.
apartments that you're renting out to people.
For not fixing something while the mayor puts rents on freeze. Rents
Yeah,
freeze
so
is
again,
on.
I want to.
Also, real quick, Matt said, what did he say? Contradictory policies. You know what's a contradictory policy? Is cutting corporate taxes and then levying tariffs upwards of like 50%. Because the Republican talking point of like if you increase corporate taxes, businesses can't invest in new equipment, they can't pay their employees. It's actually not true, because corporate taxes apply on corporate profits, which are calculated after you've divvied up your expenses on labor and on capital expenditures. The only tax on the production side is a tariff. And we have multiple studies, multiple case studies from Trump's first term and his second term, where when you implement these tariffs, businesses compensate for those increased costs on their imported materials, because again, 1/3 of materials that are imported, 1/3 of materials that are used for production in the U.S., domestic manufacturing, we love it so much, 1/3 of the materials used for domestic manufacturing are imported from other countries. And when they're subject to tariffs, the cost to produce things in America goes up. And how do businesses compensate for that? They fire people. They cut wages, they automate, they produce less, they raise prices. I want to clarify, when we're talking about a rent freeze, we're not talking about people not paying rent anymore. We're talking about a freeze in the increase. Profit affects how you deal with costs. So true, Matt. And in fact, there is reason to believe that raising corporate taxes could actually spur increased investment. Because if I'm a business bringing in a certain amount of revenue and I want that revenue to be exempt from corporate tax, it will be exempt if I spend it on wages, on hiring, on capital expenditures. So yeah, that's true. It's actually a positive incentive structure.
increase in rent, which has been done before. There's precedent for that. When it comes to eminent domain, I mean, this is a last resort when you have like neglectful landlords. I'm personally going to come down, maybe this is controversial, against neglectful landlords. I think if you have apartments that you're renting out to people, you should probably do your best to keep them in good condition, and that if you are violating city codes or safety rules, then there is a role for city government to step in there.
Can I respond to that?
Data doesn't disagree, Matt. Every single economic analysis has looked at the TCJA show that it didn't pay for itself at all. The idea was that if you cut all these taxes, number one, the revenue is actually going to go up because of this thing called the Laffer curve, which has been disproven time and time again, like Kansas with Sam Brownback, George Bush tax cuts, Reagan tax cuts. Supply side trickle-down economics is bullshit. It doesn't work. It's not real. This idea that it's somehow like the data is against my side here. The TCJ is one of the most disastrous pieces of fiscal policy, and the fact that they made it permanent with the big ugly bill just goes to increase our debts, increase our deficits, redistribute money and wealth literally from the bottom to the top. It makes absolutely no sense. When you cut taxes for corporations, they just use it on stock buybacks. Now, I don't have an issue with stock buybacks necessarily, but when we're talking about opportunity cost, those dollars are better used by the government to be spent on infrastructure and on healthcare and on education than to be spent by private corporations, not on increasing wages, not on buying new equipment or material, but on buying back their own stock.
So that real quick, it's really important. So this all comes about incentive structure. Obviously, if you're a landlord, you want to upkeep your property because then you're more likely to have people to come in, obviously, right?
How'd it go? I'm streaming this on YouTube, Cougar Beatrice. If you want to go and rewind and watch there, you can watch the video. We've been doing commentary on this for a minute now, for like 2.5 hours. But I think it went well. It was fun. It was very fun. To give you like the spark notes of it, I'd make an argument, and then Matt would get really frantic and start filibustering and give me 10 different answers to a question I never even asked. Then I'd ask him the question again, and then he would start asking me about, we send the soldiers over the Pacific Ocean, and what about this picture? And I never talked about race. It was sort of like the ramblings of a person who is not present in the conversation, but it was very fun.
The reason why landlords are not upkeeping certain properties because they can't afford to. In certain units in New York, it costs like $100,000 for like renovations. They can't recoup the cost. And you can actually hear what these landlords are saying. They're saying, I cannot recoup the cost. It's better to keep it vacant because I will be under rent freeze or rent stabilization. There are certain buildings where some units are under rent freeze, some aren't.
Guys, let's not bully Matt in the comments. It's my birthday. I'm a generous man. I'm a good faith man. I'm a nice man. Let's everyone give Matt a round of applause for proving to us that even if you speak 70% of the time, sometimes you can't even get across one point. You can fill up the time with yapping. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Matt. You can fill up the time with yapping, but sometimes the substance is a little bit lacking, even if you're, in terms of the countdown, speaking more. So I think that's an impressive feat. Everyone give Matt a round of applause.
And some are in threat of being under rent freeze. So it makes these landlords skeptical. They can't recoup the cost, and this is why they do this. Actually, what's funny is if you're talking about the upkeeping of certain buildings, 68% of rent-stabilized homes in New York have like maintenance issues. Okay, the reason why that is the case, rent frozen. The reason why that is the case is because I have no incentive to repair the damages if I'm not profiting, if I'm already at a loss. All of this is horrible for the housing market. Okay, these landlords aren't trying to like intentionally have vacancies or intentionally like keep like these units in really bad condition. Why? Because that's not like in terms of market like intelligent. You want to keep your unit like presentable.
Matt, if you ever want to debate again,
your tenant.
I would love to debate you on economic policy, just specifically, like put aside other politicians, just like your ideal economic system, my ideal economic system. Oh boy, I would love that. Because you are obsessed with this idea of like the free market, the invisible hand, and everything's going to be great if we just have unregulated capitalism. We used to have that, right? I mean, I don't know if people know this. Before we had like the Labor Relations Board and we had like weekends and we had workers' rights, workers were paid like 10 cents a day. They were forced to work like 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. They were locked inside factories. Even when the factories caught fire, they couldn't escape because they had literally no rights. Before we had things like the FDA and the EPA, you had people just dumping chemicals into fucking rivers and shit. You had people selling produce with parasites in it because there was no actual process to get this stuff checked. And we also did have a financial crisis as a result. So this invisible hand, it's pretty invisible. I actually don't see it doing much.
The reason why they can't do that is because of horrible leftist policy.
There's a reason that every advanced economy has moved away from free markets towards more regulated markets.
Rent freeze or rent stabilization.
Just real quick, I'm not losing any sleep over landlords making less profit. I mean, it's actually necessary for landlords and homeowners to make less profit if you want to address the housing crisis, because if you expand supply, housing will necessarily be worth less and people will make less money. I think that's a good thing.
This is an issue as
No, no,
well. Just broadly speaking, when our economic sort of the culture around our economics and this idea of the American dream, while it's centered around this idea that owning a home has to be a vehicle for wealth creation, it creates a very perverse incentive structure where anyone who already owns a home has no interest in housing prices coming down, right? They will fight tooth and nail. These are NIMBYs, right? They'll fight tooth and nail to keep housing costs as high as possible, to restrict supply as much as possible, right? The last thing they want is building like a high density apartment complex near a suburb. So in reality, the profits of landlords and homeowners should be the last thing we prioritize, because those are some of the main incentives that are preventing us from addressing the housing crisis, which is that housing needs to be cheaper. And that means that it can't be, it's the same with homes and apartments, right? When you increase supply, price goes down. And across the board, I mean, even when you have increases in supply in some cases, like I know in Ann Arbor, in Michigan, even when they increase supply, they'll build like luxury condos and stuff, right? So you need to have incentives for them to build either public housing, affordable housing, or private housing that is actually accessible to working class people. And the answer there probably is bipartisan consensus on this. I know that Trump and Vance talk about it's the immigrants that are raising house prices, which actually is not true. Interesting study I was looking at earlier shows that mass deportations are actually making Americans lose jobs and raising prices on Americans. But the actual thing we need to do here, which is pretty cut and dry, pretty simple, is just deregulate zoning when it comes to housing. Let people build more houses and more apartments in more places, more density, taller apartment complexes, less space between homes. A lot of these zoning laws have artificially restricted supply to such an insane degree where if you look at places, I believe it was Austin, Texas, anytime you see an experiment where they deregulate zoning, they allow more construction of apartments, not only do rents go down, you actually see in some cases that they're competing for tenants. They're literally saying, if you move in here, you get 1 free month of rent, you get this, you get that. It's like it flips the power dynamic between is it the landlords that have the power or is it the buyers that have the power? And I disagree it hurts the climate. I mean, you can have obviously sensible climate regulation. I mean, those aren't mutually exclusive. You can retrofit these apartments and houses with clean sources of energy. You can ensure that the construction process isn't dumping dangerous chemicals anywhere. I don't think this is actually what Ezra Klein talks about in abundance, is that in the name of, and I have plenty of disagreements with Ezra Klein, but in the name of pursuing these things like environmental justice and labor rights, which are extremely important, sometimes we go so far in that direction that we end up stifling the construction of new infrastructure. I mean, this was also an issue with the infrastructure bill under Biden, which is that there were so many processes of getting things approved and getting this person to sign off on that, and it becomes such a chore to just put down one brick on the ground that, number one, by the time it starts, it's extremely over budget, and number two, there are slowdowns that are put in place that aren't actually necessarily beneficial in helping the environment per se. They often cut down loads of trees to build the house. Sure, I'm not even referring to deforestation, right? I'm talking about in a lot of places you have like zoning for single family homes, where it's like this whole area, we're going to take it up with a suburb when it could be instead, available to 5 times more people if it was like high density apartments or even houses that are closer together or duplexes or whatever, right? Broadly speaking, like, and this is one place where right-wing economists and left-wing economists actually agree. You need to build more housing. You need to build more in general, more infrastructure, more housing. I think that's the future for the Democratic Party, by the way. This is why FDR had popularity during the New Deal. Build more stuff, pave the roads. Like I've said this always, whoever fixes the roads, they win. They win the next 3, people don't want anything super ideological or complicated. If you just run for public office and say, we're going to make your schools better, your roads and bridges better, we're going to build more houses to lower housing prices, I think that that's actually a very popular message, especially when people see it in action.
If you expand supply, housing will necessarily
Matt will build it, guys. He's got us covered.
be worth less and people will make less money. I think that's a good thing.
No. But that's not the point. It's not about obviously you want to increase supply. Increasing
Hold
supply.
on. I have an actual genuine question for Matt. How much of what you say do you believe? Don't worry, we won't tell anyone. It's just me and 157 other people here. It's between us. How much of what you say do you believe? Because over the course of this debate, you flip-flopped on your positions like 3 or 4 times. And I also had someone in my comments once telling me that they know someone who knows you and that you allegedly don't. This could be bullshit, to be fair. That you actually don't believe what you say and you just do it for like a kind of like as a grift. So I'm curious. I know you don't believe all of it because when we talked about the video that Democrats made saying like soldiers should refuse unlawful orders, first you told me that they should be put through a military tribunal and given the death penalty. Then you told me maybe not the death penalty, but it should still be illegal. Then you told me it's not illegal. So just in the span of that 10 minutes, you change your position 3 times on whether or not those people broke a law, first of all, and if they did break a law, what the punishment should be, and whether they should go through a court or a military tribunal.
Means incentivizing new units being built, not
With zoning
disincentivizing
reform, like Mamdani has proposed.
by having, deregulation is good. We want
And Mamdani supports
hold on. We want deregulation, but the issue with Mamdani is that he has a bunch of contradictory policy. He talks about deregulation, and he also talks about rent freeze and rent stabilization. That's horrible. He talks about, for example, making things easier for businesses. That's fine. If you want to deregulate a lot of things and make it so businesses don't have to go through a bunch of like complicated tax codes to go into business, I agree with that. But then also don't propose a $30 minimum wage and government-owned grocery stores right next to them when they have a 1 to 2% profit margin in which you can literally kill their business and have them lay off workers or increase prices when you're trying to deal with like affordability. So I agree with certain aspects of.
Can you guys imagine in a few years when Matt finally goes nuclear and he's like, this was all an act. I've been infiltrating the right wing. I got to know the Charlie Kirks and the Ben Shapiros. I got in the inner workings. I pretended to be a right winger. I regurgitated all the talking points. Time to come clean. I don't believe in any of this shit. Long live Joe Biden. Hunter Biden for king. The day's coming. It's coming soon.
Donnie's policies. The issue is
Communist.
a lot of them. The issue, a lot of them are contradictory and communistic.
All right, next one. We've got Beef Sleazy sent 20 and said, here's some change for your medical bills from our fight, Little Snake. That won't be necessary, Beef Sleazy, because I beat you up, so no problem. The Cut says for 5, Adam, do you want to open the borders, and why can't you accept there will be some flaws since this is a multi-million people issue?
I don't want open borders. I want strong border security, and I also want a humane system to address people who are seeking asylum. If they have invalid asylum claims, I think, sure, deport them. If they come in here to commit a crime, if they refuse to present themselves to law enforcement, I think deport them. If someone has been following the asylum process here, or they have withholding of removal or convention against torture, all these different legal statuses that apply to undocumented people, I think that's fine. I want people to be treated humanely, and I want law and order in this country. I think it should also probably be easier to come in here legally, which would reduce the demand for illegal crossings.
Beef Sleazy says, Adam, if ICE agents wear proper gear, identify they are ICE agents with badge numbers, would you still want to see their faces? If yes, why are you?
Yeah, I don't think that seeing the faces of ICE agents has much to do with sexual orientation. That's a strange implication. Check this person's hard drive, but yeah.
All right, Anthony, shots fired at Beef Sleazy there. Anthony AJC says, here to show support, hit the like, fellas. Let's get this goal finished off for our Lord. I don't think we'll get the goal today, guys, but you've done crazy things in the past. Mallow Matt says, expecting Democrats to use careful wording when Trump is our president is crazy work. Have you seen any of his tweets? Bro says whatever he wants.
Biden's strongest soldier pulled up to the Jake Rattlesnake super chats, and in a sea of right-wingers asking me if I'm gay for wanting ICE to not wear masks, they ask the real tough questions that we should be asking. Thank you, Mellow Matt.
I think that one is...
Wait, Matt. This is also Matt on the screen. Could this be Matt's burner account where he embraces his true beliefs and he's a left-winger? Oh my God. I think I'm connecting the dots, guys.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think I did pretty magnificent. I mean, Adam Kahn has been making like continuous videos about me ever since I annihilated him on Jubilee. You know, he's been kind of, a little, jealous of my performance over him there, and it seems that he wanted to call me out for another debate. And listen, I respect him. We had good.
Why do you keep thinking I'm a left-winger? Because Matt, I actually don't believe you believe a lot of the stuff you say. Maybe some of it you do, but certain things it's like so clear that you're triangulating like what does the right-wing internet people want me to say about this, and that's what you end up saying. And then when you're unsure about that, you flip-flop between different positions in the span of like minutes. This point was funny to me that I've made so many videos about him. I made 2 videos because after our Jubilee debate, bro was hopping into my lives and talking shit, but then he wasn't requesting to debate me. And I find it funny when people are like very tough in comments and in live chats, but they're testicular fortitude is lacking, such that they never actually speak up. So, yeah, I did call out what I saw as being cowardly behavior, and you know, in fairness, you did take the debate. So, if there's some credit to be given there, I guess it would be that.
Over him there, and it seems that he wanted to call me out for another debate. And listen, I respect him. You know, we have good conversations, we have good debates. You know, I think he kind of like deeply hates me, but it's all good.
I just think you're a bad faith actor, but that's a different
Bad faith
conversation.
actor. Okay, he thinks I'm a bad faith actor.
Would you guys, if we could line up a boxing match, would that be a
Oh,
possibility?
that would be. Oh my, I would
Let's
love it.
run it. That'd be
Yeah,
so fun.
Adam. Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
Adam, you've
listen.
been training, haven't you? You've been doing a bit of
Yeah.
boxing? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Adam,
And what-
what's your height, by the way? You're like pretty short, aren't you?
5'11" and a half, almost 6, but well,
5'11". Okay, let's set it up. Me versus Adam Khan.
that'd be
A
so fun.
boxing match. Let's go.
All right. I'll see what I can do, boys. Just Gerald says for 10. I dare the
I've been
Democrats to...
saying this for so long now. Do a full boxing card. I think he said he's like 6'1". I'm trying to remember. I didn't get very tall vibes from him when I met him in person. I'm sure he probably is a little bit taller than me, but I'm trying to remember. I feel like it's hard to remember people's heights after you've met them. What was I just about to say? I just totally blanked. Oh yeah, not just a TikTok boxing event, just like a political boxing card, right? I'm trying to think of like who'd be a good main card for that. Like maybe, oh man, Steven Crowder versus Hassan Piker. They seem like similarly built-ish, right? Imagine Steven Crowder versus Hassan Piker, Ben Shapiro versus David Pacman, Destiny versus Nick Fuentes, Adam versus Matt Nuclear, and you could raise money for charity. That'd be cool. Someone should do that. Someone who has money and is interested in politics should organize that. Have an undercard, have a main card, and allow people to settle their political differences with violence, legally, peacefully, and patriotically.
To show Republicans are worse or more dangerous without mentioning Jan 6. I'm so sick of hearing it. But it's their only example. It's all they have. It's so lame. New example for you, Adam.
When if you get slept, though? Matt, that's how you're going to be typing after you get a concussion. When if you get slept, though?
This is like me saying I dare Republicans to show that Democrats are worse or more dangerous without mentioning Charlie Kirk or BLM or Antifa or whatever. I mean, I'm going to bring up
Without
an attempted
mentioning the
coup
violence
on the government, and then again, Trump has made this relevant in 2025 as well by pardoning these people. So he can't let it go.
Funny how he mentions January 6th when like he just and then when it comes to the left, there's like multiple different acts of violence that are worth billions of dollars that have looted and taken from small businesses. Don't forget the rooftop Koreans, guys. Okay, the rooftop Koreans had to get on top of rooftops and shoot at leftists who were trying to like loot their small businesses because Rodney King
Bro
died,
knows
okay?
all the random lore that has nothing to do with anything.
Like
Damn.
why,
He
why is-
says it like anyone. Don't forget those rooftop Korea. What is that? Like, bro is so fixated on these random things. But let's not talk about January 6th. Trump, who cares? It's not like he's the president. Let's talk about the Koreans on the rooftops.
shoot at leftists who were trying to like loot their small businesses because Rodney King died. Okay, like
Damn.
why is that the case with the left? Why is it when
I've never heard of the rooftop Koreans. I'm going to have to plead ignorance on that one.
something happens in terms of someone gets arrested, something happens that you don't like or whatever, you start a riot and you loot from small businesses. Aren't you guys for small businesses? Don't you want to increase the minimum wage, which is actually anti-small business? But you know,
Yep, and I would stand with what Joe Biden said during the 2020 presidential debate, where he said anyone engaging in illegal acts of violence should face criminal prosecution. I would love if Trump and MAGA Republicans could take that same stance publicly. It'd be great.
yeah, but I mean,
to lower
Harris
the
disagrees
temperature.
with that because Harris actually endorsed the organization that was actually bailing out these people. So yeah, during 2020 BLM. So that's something else.
Not true.
10 gifted Rattlesnake TV.
It's not true. I always heard this idea like, oh, Harris helped bail out like the toughest, most hardened criminals ever. Just not true. Like none of these people, to the extent anyone was convicted for violence or like arson or anything, Harris did not release these people. And again, like, I don't know how many times in the 2020 election Biden had to like say like, hey guys, I obviously oppose violence, as I've said the millionth time. And then the right's like, can you believe Biden supports all this violence?
memberships from
Imagine if they held Trump to that same standard.
TD. Thank you very much, TD. I appreciate that. Oh, no, it's Aaron for 5 says, Adam, can you provide a single example of political violence outside J6, especially any in the
Right.
scope of BLM riots, billions
Sure.
worth of damage?
There have been death threats against multiple Democratic politicians.
Oh,
Paul
death
Pelosi's head was bludgeoned in with a hammer. Trump made jokes about it. There's been follow-ups of people, and this isn't technically January 6th, people that were convicted that were later pardoned. This year have went on to threaten FBI agents and threaten law enforcement, saying, oh, you prosecuted me, you investigated me, I'm coming for you. So there's that as well. And then there's also the whole host of, I wouldn't blame Republicans for this necessarily, but like white nationalist violence that has taken place over the last few years.
That's interesting because I mean that doesn't really make much sense. What you gave
Interesting point, libtard. But actually,
there mostly was just threat this, threat that, threat this, and then Nancy Pelosi, the whole Nancy Pelosi situation where, yeah, I mean, he was
Josh
Nancy
Shapiro's
Pelosi's-
house was burned down.
Yeah, but that wasn't done by a conservative. There's no evidence that the person that actually burned down his house was conservative at all. You guys kind of assume that, but that's also something.
oh, like how literally everyone in the Republican Party immediately assumed that Charlie Kirk was pew-pewed by a Democrat. Remember, was it Nancy Mace? They asked Nancy Mace, like I think literally like 30 minutes after Charlie Kirk died, what's your take on this? And she's like, the Democrats have to pay. The Democrats have done this to our country. And then Trump, like later the same day, gave a speech about how like the radical left is killing people. What a unifying man he is.
Baxter Boy sent 5. I've got a quick question for you guys. Now, when you go on these Jubilee shows and everything, and you're in LA together, and you guys are all young people, and you're probably going and partying and stuff. You guys like knock about it? Do you like date the same girls, the right and the left Republicans and Democrats on the?
I don't know where this question came from. I think we were both a little bit caught off guard by this
Jubilee?
question. I don't know
Yeah,
where
no,
this
I
came
think
from.
so.
Is there like little love triangles and everything going on?
You'd have
Like,
to ask the LA people because we're both flying out there, so I don't think we're in tune.
Yeah, we're
with
not from
the
LA,
political
yeah.
scene there.
okay. I don't know how these things work. Like,
I mean,
with
the guy that
all your
I- 'cause it was-
discords and shit.
During the 2v2 roundtable series, the guy that was on my side was obviously George.
What do you say?
The guy that
All
I
your
'cause it-
discords and shit.
Y'all will never catch me in some weird Discord screenshots. I don't know. He brought up earlier the Destiny stuff. Why do people do dumb, illegal, like bad stuff in this space? I don't understand. Like some of these stories that I hear about what influencers do and like the scandals they get involved in is just like, why are you doing that? Bro, go start a family or something, or like I don't know, get a hobby. Like what is this? And I'm not even one to be like oh, like I condemn degenerate behavior or whatever. Like it's a free country. I'm not against people engaging in relations with who they want to engage with as long as it's consensual. But fame does one hell of a thing. I think that's probably a big part of it too, right? A lot of these people are becoming popular. They're getting eyes on them, and for a lot of them, it might be the first time they ever get any kind of female attention or validation, and they have no idea how to even handle that in a responsible way. It's just weird. You aren't hitting up 18-year-old fans in the cities you're visiting? Get with the program, dude. Nah, I'm good. 18's crazy.
During the 2v2 roundtable series, the guy that was on my side was obviously George. Me and him went out to eat and stuff, and we kind of enjoyed LA a little bit after. I mean, before I flew out and stuff, but no, not really with the leftists. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I just was wondering.
I actually don't really agree with that. Like, what's his name? Micah. Anyone here know Micah? Micah Kunkel? He's done a couple of Jubilees as well. We've always been very friendly and very cordial. Like, during shoots, after shoots, we'll stand around and talk for a little bit and hang out. So, I mean, especially after Surrounded episodes, like the Cenk Uygur Surrounded, the circle was like a mix of left-wing and right-wing people, and we were all intermingling, and it was pretty nice, actually. I mean, I feel like most people are normal people if you talk to them face to face. The internet brings something very weird out of people. It makes them like antisocial and hateful in a way that's like not ever how do I super chat? You can on YouTube. I don't think you can on TikTok. I'm live on YouTube as well if you want to super chat. How do you super? I don't know. Is there not a button for it, like a money? Maybe I'm not qualified. Maybe my channel doesn't qualify for super chats yet. I don't know how that works. Besides Ben Shapiro, even Ben Shapiro, like I'll say, as much as he was like a lying weasel in our conversation, he was extremely nice off camera. Like Ben Shapiro actually, in regards to his personal conduct, ignoring his insane, spineless political takes, seems like a nice guy, like a good husband, good dad. I respect those traits. And when we were on set filming for Surrounded, he was actually being really nice to some people. Like I think there was like someone that hadn't gotten a chance to talk yet, and he was like, hey, like, do you want a chance to come up and talk? And he was like making conversation with us. I found that respectable. You know who wasn't like that at all? Candace Owens. The only person that I've done Surrounded with who I like genuinely got bad vibes from off camera was Candace Owens. Cenk Uygur was nice. Shapiro was nice. Lila Rose was nice. Candace just came in a bad mood, extremely defensive, extremely combative. I don't think she was ready to be under that kind of pressure and scrutiny. She was like very flustered by the end of it. And yeah, that was bad vibes with Candace, but everyone else. A lying weasel is a crazy way to talk about the greatest political debater. I've been there, Matt. I know what it's like to be high on that Ben Shapiro Kool-Aid. When I first got involved in politics when I was 14 years old in high school, from like 14 to 18, I got started as a conservative. I was a big Ben Shapiro guy. That was like my number one. And then eventually you learn about economics and reality and how politics actually works and what authoritarianism is and how Ben picks and chooses when he cares about small government. And then you realize, oh, this guy is a fraud.
Aaron says, what about Mamdani's quote that it doesn't matter what can be implemented, it matters that it gets funded? Pretty sus.
Yeah, I think that actually shows that Mamdani, I mean, for all the talk of Mamdani being this crazy, radical, dogmatic person, he said time and time again that
Is this even an actual verbatim quote? That doesn't even make sense. Did Mamdani say this? I'm questioning it because this person spelled Mimadani. But they use these quotation marks and okay.
I try something and it doesn't work, I'll try something else. If we're unable to raise corporate taxes or income taxes, we'll try to secure different streams of revenue. I think that actually shows a flexibility, which is admirable in a public servant. And when it comes to like, it matters that it gets funded. I mean, Mamdani's obviously, like any politician, not going to be able to implement every single thing he wants. He's going to have to prioritize and you know, do the wheeling and dealing of politics, building coalitions, dealing with Albany, dealing with Hochul. And my assumption is, and my hope is that he's going to pursue the policies that are easiest for him to pursue, which I think are some of his best policies.
Well, there's actually an issue with that as well. I mean, he's proposing policies that have already like historically been proven to be false, even here in America. Like we don't have to go to Venezuela, Soviet Union, North Korea, or China to figure out that government-owned grocery stores don't work. We can go to Kansas City. I mean, you already agree with me on this because I'm pretty sure you're an econ major. You know how this sort of stuff works as well. But Kansas City, you know, spent $17 million in city funds for government-owned grocery stores. It's fine to say that like, oh, we'll be flexible. If it doesn't work, we'll close down the government-owned grocery stores in every borough. But these policies have already been tried, and we already know they'll fail. So like, there's no purpose of even like going with them or running on them again. But when you're dealing with an unsophisticated Democratic electorate and young people, and the fact that the majority of people who voted for Zoran Mamdani were either born outside of the country or born outside of New York. He was not very popular amongst native-born New Yorkers for an actual reason, because they actually know how these policies and stuff actually function.
Mallow Matt for 5 says, corporations and billionaires don't even need to defend themselves. They taught working-class Republicans to run their defense instead. Good lapdogs. What would you say about that, Matt?
Yeah, we're not good lapdogs for promoting free market capitalism and what has built this country and made it so wealthy and so prosperous and so great. If you want to live in the Scandinavian nations, go ahead and let's increase, taxes on middle-class people by 30 to 35%, which is a regressive tax, a VAT tax. Do we want to do that? If so, run on that. Okay?
I'm going to hop off, guys, after this video is done. I think we got like 10, 11 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, comments, or concerns in the chat on YouTube or TikTok, let me know. I'll try to respond to those before I hop off.
Not a shilling for corporations. I mean, in Denmark, I'm pretty sure their minimum wage is $0, and they're very much pro-corporations. I don't mind corporations. I want pro-business policies which incentivize people to be hired, not lay off workers, and to have more benefits for their employees, right? The majority of people that are employed in this country are, or what's called not employed, but are insured in this country, are insured through employer insurance. I want people to hold jobs. When Democrats promote policies like raising the minimum wage, which loses thousands of jobs in California and stuff,
Whoa.
those are
Did we just see a based Matt nuclear take? Tariffs are unconstitutional. I disagree with them. I guess, what's that meme where it's like heartbreaking? The worst person you know just made a good point. Does anyone know what meme I'm talking about? This shit, I mean, it's probably going to be inverted because people know what I'm talking about.
Business policy. When you increase the corporate tax rate to a crazy amount, people will leave to different states, because here in the country we have states' rights. Certain states don't have state taxes at all, right? Certain states do, certain states don't. And we're seeing people leaving California.
Speaking of, have you guys seen DeSantis's like unhinged plan to get rid of property taxes? I can't think of a more economically illiterate policy than eliminating property taxes. That is like one of the only ways to collect taxes on a local level.
New York, all of these cities that have more socialist-like policies, and they're going towards Texas and Florida and Tennessee. Why? Because it's free market enterprise. New York's share of millionaires has actually decreased in terms of the entire country. So we're promoting free business policies that are good for workers, good for wages, good for employment.
All those Scandinavian countries actually rank higher than the United States on the Economic Freedom Index. So it turns out you can have a single-payer healthcare system, you can have strong unions, strong environmental protections, and still have a robust marketplace.
Sorry, Crusader here says, no question, just want to support Jake the Rattlesnake, but not too shabby for these youngins. 07 to you, to Crusader, and some.
By the way, Adam, I actually like the fact that you said that, because a lot of people claim that those countries are very are socialist nations, and you saying that they, because you're familiar with the Gini coefficient, correct? Right, exactly. I'm pretty sure they're. I don't know if they're ranked higher because the U.S. is like number 5 in terms of Gini coefficient. If no one knows what the Gini coefficient is, it essentially measures wealth distribution. We also have the highest disposable income, just so everyone knows, in the world also. But yeah, countries in Scandinavia are not very much socialist at all.
Social
They actually-
democracies.
So you can say social democracies because they have like a stronger welfare state and stuff like that, but they also are not very pro-middle class because they have like a taxes on middle class which have increased like 30-35% higher than what we currently have. And
They don't actually complain about that there though, because they get like amazing public services from the government, and they have very strong unions as well, which actually compensates for not having a minimum wage, which is what I support.
I mean,
think
we
stronger
also
unions
have-
are-
we also-
Whoa, this guy on the left is super based. He's saying that union protections and union strengthening is better than raising the minimum wage. True. There's arguments for raising the minimum wage. I mean, everything in public policy has pros and cons, so you can make an argument potentially. I mean, depending on the study, that for whatever negatives come from raising the minimum wage, the positives would outweigh it. But I think probably the best way to strengthen workers in this country is to increase union participation and have stronger unions. Unions are the best way to guarantee workers' rights, equal treatment, good pay, good benefits. And the country has really moved away from unions in recent decades. I mean, I think there's like a pretty strong correlation when you look at like the hollowing out of American manufacturing and this idea of like the death of the working class. There's a couple of things that coincide with that. One is the increase in automation, which is why you see productivity goes up, but wages don't match that, because a lot of the productivity gains are coming from automation and technological advancements. And then you also see wages falling because the union participation rate has like fallen off a cliff since like the mid 20th century until now. And in any healthy economic system, you want to have a balance. And in a lot of cases right now, we have oligopsonies in our labor markets where there's only a handful of employers, and they get to essentially dictate wages, dictate working conditions, holidays, stuff like that. What you want to try to do is more balance out the power that workers have as well to make demands and to be able to negotiate and actually have a leg to stand on when negotiating. Protecting the middle class implies you require and don't mind that a lower class exists. I obviously mind that a lower class exists. I don't know what that means, Flatty. Happy birthday. Thank you. I leave nothing for Americans, everything for Zionist settlers. Okay. More unions. True. Minimum wage should be 0 is crazy.
Also have unions, so that's that.
Yeah, but union
But
participation
unions
rates
can
falling off
also
a cliff,
cause-
which has
unions
coincided
can
with
also
falling
cause
wages as well.
Unions can also cause a lot of issues. So
Blaine P says for 30 for putting up with the tards.
The
in the
unions that can cause a lot of issues are kind of like police unions when they always step in to cover for bad cops. Those are the unions I don't like.
chat tonight. Thank you, Blaine. I needed that. Chris says, thanks everyone. I enjoyed the debate. Thank you very much, Chris. Much appreciated. Double the rent on single mothers, says Argus. Not sure about that.
there's a vote. I didn't even see there was a vote. 90 people voted, and 76% of people said I won. Look at that.
Congrats.
Ah.
This is why I chose
Look
a
at the
right wing.
joy in his face. This is the best day of his life. That a right-wing audience said that a right-wing person won a debate. Bro gave us the Mamdani smile. This pure joy.
Platform for us to debate on. I thought you'd be less hesitant to do the debate then. I'm glad you're
It's
happy.
not less hesitant, dude. We can go on a left wing, one after.
Sure.
There's no right and left in the boxing ring, boys. No right
True.
and left in the boxing
Oh,
ring.
sure. Listen, Adam,
just rights
if
and
you get in the
lefts.
boxing
Blue and
ring,
red,
though,
baby.
I may hurt you if
Jake's wrong. There are rights and lefts in the boxing ring. Got to throw both.
Adam, if we ever get in the boxing ring, though.
I'm shaking. I'm so scared.
How tall are you,
Listen,
Matt?
I'm 6'1".
Okay, so
Can
you
we
guys
be
are
honest
pissing
though?
my heart.
Like the Antifa, I know you're not Antifa, Adam, obviously, but like the left wingers are not very masculine at all. I mean, can we be honest with ourselves? They're not very masculine, not very strong.
Neither are
Yes.
like a lot of right wingers. I mean,
No, we actually
we have
are.
Mr. Piggy as president right now, who I don't think
The
is like the
majority
shining
of
beacon of
Mr.
masculinity.
Piggy, come on, man. The majority of UFC fighters are conservative and right wing, right?
Okay.
There's a reason for that because masculinity and conservatism are obviously correlated.
This is, I mean, somewhat true that the UFC is a pretty right-wing space. I mean, there's some fighters that aren't right-wing. Usually the American ones are right-wing. But man, being a left-leaning UFC fan is tough. It's tough. They glaze Trump constantly. Yeah, not fun. I still watch UFC. I still love UFC, but man, it is so political sometimes for no reason. As much as the right-wingers complain about like, oh, why is the left politicizing our sports?
No, I was super based when Charles Oliveira ignored
Didn't Dana White speak at the RNC?
Donald Trump at that one fight. I don't think all of them are super right wing, but
I mean, generally speaking.
You play, you pay for 5 says magnificent Matt Nuclear, aka Diamond Girl. What's Diamond Girl? Any idea?
Oh, Diamond Girl is a supporter of mine. She joins my TikTok live. She's a very big supporter, so I know her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Blaine says for the goal, 1, 2, 3, and another 50 from Blaine. Thank you very much, Blaine. I appreciate the generous donations, my friend. Much appreciated. Declared Penguino for 5 says from my noodle budget.
For all the people, by the way, in the chat who are in the YouTube chat, for the left wingers in there who are saying I'm not masculine, I did wrestle in high school, and I actually saw clips of me.
Matt, here's another thing. If you're confident in your masculinity, you should not have to defend it against random chatters on YouTube. You shouldn't have to even state that you're masculine. You should be able to embody that and exemplify that in how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself, how you present yourself. Anytime someone goes out of their way to tell you how masculine they are, how good they are at debate, or how awesome they are, how cool they are, anytime someone has to verbally express that constantly, that is a self-soothing behavior.
Actually, wrestling is a
that
combat.
I'm assuming typically stems from a place of insecurity or inadequacy. If you're confident in your masculinity, then if someone else says you're not masculine, you should not care about that because their opinion should not have any bearing on how masculine you are.
Sport where you're grabbing a man, taking him down, and literally controlling him. So the idea
Have you
that
boxed
I'm
before,
like,
Matt?
have I lost in wrestling before?
No, have you boxed before? Like
Not
striking?
specifically boxed necessarily,
Okay.
but I have. I mean, yeah. Actually, you know what would be better than just a boxing match? We should do an
MMA?
MMA fight. MMA. No, we should do an MMA fight. No, just not just hands, everything in there.
Sure.
Adam.
Let me
I get to
learn
be
jiu-jitsu
referee.
and we'll run it.
I
MMA,
get to
let's
be
do it.
referee. All right.
Doesn't matter if it's informal. We have to run it. We have to run it.
I like it. Rallian for 10 says the Jan 6s were led into the Capitol and clearly used by deep state operatives. Trump pardoned them because it is better that 100 guilty go free than one innocent suffer. Maybe that one is pointed at you, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, if Trump wanted to, he could have just said, I'm only pardoning people that were convicted of nonviolent offenses, and people that were convicted of seditious conspiracy against the United States are not going to get pardoned. I know there's been like a lot of right-wing talking points about like, 200 plainclothes FBI agents, they were there in the crowd. They showed up after to like investigate. I mean, there were pipe bombs found there. People showed up with guns. There were plenty of threats worth investigating from the FBI. So I don't really buy this idea like the deep state. Trump, I guess, couldn't stop. Like when he tweeted, someone do something about this. The Biden FBI caused January 6th when I was president.
That might be one of my favorite Trump tweets of all time. Does someone have a link to that, or I guess Truth Social posts, where he's like, someone do something about this as he's president, referring to something that happened during his first term. Does anyone know how I can find this? Biden FBI, Trump Truth Social post. There it is. The Biden FBI placed 274 agents into the crowd on January 6th. If this is so, which it is. What a way with words. Wow. If this is so, which it is, a lot of very good people will be owed big apologies. What a scam. Do something. Again, this is the Trump FBI, who is in place on January 6th. Trump is also president right now. But apparently the FBI was under the control of Joe Biden. Sophisticated criminal mastermind Joe Biden was running the FBI on January 6th before he was inaugurated, before he was even elected through the Electoral College. Do something, someone. Take mind that, but...
Yep. Shelley Anderson said, ask Adam how Biden got 16 million more votes than all Democrats, including Obama.
We had much higher voter participation because, I mean, we expanded vote by mail and people were stuck at home. If you're stuck at home, don't have much to do, you're paying more attention to politics, more likely to vote. I know a lot of people who voted for the first time in 2020, so it makes sense that you had a higher turnout there.
Just Gerald, the last one here, unless somebody else comes in, says, you keep saying threats. What about actions? We can show 25 examples of actual violence from the left for each example of violence from the right.
I take issue with categorizations of left versus right because a lot of these people who you guys would say are like, left Antifa crazy people, they're not exactly Chuck Schumer fans or Hakeem Jeffrey fans. When you're talking about the actual political parties, and the Democratic Party, I think, has been much more steadfast in condemning political violence on both sides, whereas the Republican Party under Trump seems to pick and choose when it's time to condemn that.
Another one comes in here from Hellbat, says, I got my ID renewed this month after going through the process a couple hours, then a temp paper to give time for the renewed ID to arrive by mail. So I think that's saying it's easy to get it done, I guess. Cool. All right, gentlemen. Well, that rounds it up for this. If you guys want to just let everybody know where they can find you, what you got coming up, starting with you, Adam.
Yeah, you can just find me if you look up Adam Khan on TikTok. My account should come up, and then my link tree is in my bio there. That's going to have all my other stuff: Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
Matt?
You guys can find me on TikTok. I do TikTok live debates all the time. You guys can find me on X at Matt Nuclear, 1TX, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, all of it.
All right. I thought it was a good debate, guys. Appreciate you both coming on, and I'll see you guys in the boxing ring.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
MMA ring. Let's get it.
MMA. See you later.
Yeah.
All right.
All righty. What did we think, guys? Good debate. Should get some other ones coming up over the next week or so as well. Over the next 2 weeks, we should have some Wilson debates hopefully coming up. Now, we've got an hour and 10 left to go in the goal. I wonder if we could do a slight grift more. You know? Because we've been away for a little while, haven't caught up with you guys in a while. Maybe just a quick grift here. Who have we got? We've got a bunch of left. We've got Beef Sleazy and Dano and some of the regular crew. Lane Pasashik's in here. Just
Okay,
Gerald's
this
in
is just like Jake talking to his audience. I believe Jake is Australian. I believe he's Australian. I could be wrong about that. Whoa. And he's a liberal, apparently. Liberal, 100% recycled bottle? Does this liberal believe in climate change or something? Wow. Okay. I'm going to hop off now. This was a fun stream. It's fun to get Matt in the chat for a little bit. It was fun to talk about also the thank you, Red, for the birthday wish. The different strategies in debate. I think that was instructive and that was fun. It's always fun to be able to give a behind the scenes or an explanation of my logic behind a debate because, like I say, with any public appearance, whether it's on Jubilee, on YouTube, there are so many different strategies you can take and how you want to approach it, what you want to emphasize, what you don't care to get caught up on. And I like being able to go over this stuff and explain to people my thought process behind things. And also get feedback from people who thought maybe you should have done this different or do this again. Is he a fair moderator? I think Jake is a fair moderator. I think he is a fair moderator. I mean, listen, he called out Matt. I think we counted 9 times for talking too much, for interrupting. So I'm sure he agrees with Matt more than me, but stuff like that, I'm like, you know what, fair play to call that out. I respect that. So shout out to Jake. Shout out to Matt. You know what? It's my birthday. I'm not here to be petty on my birthday. Okay. Shout out to Matt for showing up to the debate. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. And I'd love to debate again on a economic policy because I know he's like a big free market guy. And I've never done like a full-fledged economics debate against someone. I've always done like contemporary politics. Yeah. Participation award to Matt. Exactly. Yeah, just doing a debate, whether it's Matt or anyone, honestly, anyone. I want to start doing debates more often, like one-on-one debates, long-form debates, like 1 hour, 2 hour debates, even if it's not with Jake and it's just on YouTube or whatever, against other creators who are in this space. You should do one against a communist. I'm not interested in that. I really don't make a point of talking to or giving a lot of attention to like the radical left, I guess, because this is not a faction in the United States that has any real political power. Like I see people also ask me like, oh, why do you only call out the far right, but you don't call out like the Hassan Pikers and the communists or whatever? And it's like, because these people have like no actual political power in this country. And I feel like it's weird to do like the both sides thing. Like, oh, I think it's bad when Trump is an authoritarian, and I think it's bad when communists and tankies on Twitter say bad stuff. Those to me are just not equivalent in scale or importance. What if they do eventually, though? Then that's the time to address it. But right now, the ascendant fringe in this country, the ascendant radicalism in this country is the Nick Fuentes radicalism, right? It's the far right. So I'm much more concerned with debating people on the right than people who are to my left. I'll debate with them. I'll discuss with them, but not super productive. And a lot of them are just going to yell at me for like, have you read Marx and have you read Lenin, and don't you know about all these concepts? And they're going to allude to all these terms and not explain what they mean and act like morally superior and like super snobby and uptight about it. Not super fun to debate communists, honestly. Have you read Das Kapital? I believe I did read portions of it as, I'm forgetting which class it was part of. But like throughout college, there were multiple classes where part of our required readings included stuff from Marx, from Engels, Soviet leaders, also people like what's his name, John Locke. I've taken like political psychology classes, political philosophy classes, economics classes. So it's always suspicious to me when someone in a debate is like, have you read this book? If you had read this book, you'd know you're wrong. If you've actually read a book and you understand the arguments in the book, you should be able to make those arguments without referencing the book at all. If you're referencing the book and that's the extent of your argument, I'm going to assume you actually don't know what you're talking about, because The purpose of reading things and obtaining knowledge is to synthesize it and integrate it into your own understanding of things, so then you can use that in later conversation. And when people can't engage on the substance and they allude to, well, this person says you're wrong, this book says you're wrong, I always ask them, okay, what is the book about? Like, explain to me the argument in the book that makes me seem wrong versus just alluding to the book. You good? You seem sad? I didn't know I seemed sad. Was your college econ class libbed out? Yeah, I'd say it's here's the thing, okay. Economics is libbed out because libs are just correct on a lot of economic questions. Right? Like, as I learned about economics, I moved over to becoming a supporter of single-payer healthcare, expanded infrastructure, paid maternity leave. I'm crying. So, I mean, yeah, there's an argument oftentimes like, oh, if you are, if you're in academia or in like higher education, there's all this liberal bias. They never consider that perhaps just through doing the study that you just end up with a center-left perspective on certain things, right? And not necessarily everything, right? Like, a lot of how much algebra was in your econ degree. There was some calculus and some algebra in like econometrics classes and stats classes, but I have a BA. So a lot of the interesting economic stuff to me is not the math stuff. It's more of the analysis and the synthesis. So like the favorite class I ever took was like, my two favorite classes were in my senior year, which were like advanced economics classes. They were like the 400 level classes, which are like the most advanced level of class you can take under that degree was public finance and the economics of crime. Public finance covered how do you craft public policy? How do you measure cost and benefits? What are different types of public policy when it comes to healthcare, infrastructure, education? We learned about like school choice versus like having universal education, the economics of different healthcare systems. Like my final project in my senior year for my public finance class was hold on, I wonder if I pull it up actually. If I'm logged into my UMich account. Hold on. I'm not logging in on. Actually, no, I can log in. Let's just turn that off for a second, and let's just turn that off for a second so I can log in. Is it a crime? Just lead we actually also learned a lot about lead poisoning in the economics of crime class, because the correlation between like the elimination of lead and how that impacted crime rates is pretty interesting. Dean's List or what? No. Oh my god, bro. Hold on. I might not even be able to pull this up. Oh wait, okay. 443. Let's go. I like macro way more than micro. Way more than micro. Am I allowed to show my schoolwork? This was about a public option for like my final project in public finance. No shade to my partners here, but I did all of this, or like the vast majority of it. No shade though. I enjoyed it. And what I actually came away with here was that single payer is better than a public option. There's a lot of inefficiencies in we did like an open thing where like everyone had their poster board up and people could like walk around and go to each poster and you didn't have to present. But yeah, what did I talk about here? Estimated savings over 1 trillion, 700 billion per year. Government ought to implement a public option in the United States. Should be done with caution and meticulous attention to minimizing costs based on the data. Public option is most cost effective when it's made as widely available as possible. While exact numerical estimates are difficult to produce, benefits seem to outweigh costs to a significant extent. Okay. unironically elitist when it comes to education and still come out with low IQ positions. I don't know what that's referring to. I don't know if it's correlation causation fallacy. No, I believe that there's actually neuroscience research that shows that like exposure to lead can affect the development of certain parts of your brains that are associated with like risk taking and impulsivity and like antisocial behavior. YOLO, bro, LMAO. What a substantive argument. You can tell they have nothing to say when their entire argument is just insults, I guess. It's undoubtable, or it's undoubted that healthcare is not something you want to do through the private system. You want to ideally have single payer, at least a public option. You want to consolidate risk pools. You want to have some kind of monopoly power to purchase pharmaceuticals and healthcare services. Imagine if microplastics have similar effects in a decade. I'm so cooked if microplastics are bad. I have a really bad habit of chewing on plastic bottle caps from like water bottles. It's like a really bad, I don't know why I do this shit. I like do it mindlessly and I'm like, wait, what am I doing? So if microplastics are cooking us, then y'all might lose me soon. Who knows? How about game theory? I did not enjoy game theory that much. I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, game theory is interesting. I think actually more so. We also learned game theory in a world politics, geopolitics class. I think game theory is a lot more interesting to learn about in the context of global politics and how different countries are going to engage with each other. When it comes to economics, I'm just like a lot more interested in macroeconomics and trends and like more broadly speaking, like what is the best synthesis of public and private action? Like where do you want to have markets and where do you want to have regulation? Where do you want to have perhaps full socialization or nationalization? I think the United States in some regards is overregulated and other regards underregulated, right? Like our housing market in terms of building and zoning is overregulated, though when it comes to healthcare, for example, we're underregulated, I would say, in regards to the first of all, the fact that we get insurance through employers is fucking stupid, right? Like tying healthcare access to employment, having insanely high deductibles. I mean, there are costs to this, right? You often hear people talk about negative externalities, right? Like, certain things are going to take place in an economic system that are not priced into markets. Like if a company goes and dumps a bunch of toxic chemicals into a lake somewhere, this is going to have what are known as negative externalities, where maybe the people buying from that company and the company itself don't internalize that cost. But when you're looking at the social welfare overall, there is a negative cost associated with that. What I feel like people don't talk about enough is positive externalities. There are things you can do that don't necessarily have a profit attached to them, that are not necessarily valued by the market. They're not priced in by markets. But if you do them, you get massive social benefit. One of these things is healthcare, right? If you have well-educated people, healthcare and education are both things here, right? If you have well-educated people who have access to mental health care and physical health care, they are mentally healthy, physically healthy. They have access to extracurriculars, good community, after-school activities, a solid education. That yields more tax revenue down the line, better employees for businesses, less crime, better family units that are raising like less criminally inclined children, more economically successful children. You see people moving more throughout different, like more class mobility. So I think like our fiscal policy should be tailored to maximize positive externalities, which means dumping a lot of money into infrastructure, a lot of money into healthcare, a lot of money into education, in a smart way though, efficiently. Do you recommend any good like basic intro econ books? We didn't do a lot of textbook stuff. I mean, the nice thing about going to University of Michigan is like we have some of the best professors of economics in the world. So like, a lot of them were just like quoting their own research and like their own theories and shit, which is interesting. Not a lot of books come to mind. Like we did do some readings. Weird because the cities with the most social support have the most crime. So true. And it's just like how shark attacks go up when ice cream consumption goes up. Everyone knows correlation equals causation. Divine rule is so smart, guys. It's almost like cities are more densely populated. and that when there's more interactions between people, there's more incidents of crime, just statistically. Population density seems like a lot more of a causal indicator for crime than do poor people get left to starve to death, or do they get food? Any YouTubers or creators you recommend for that? I liked Econoboy. I know Econoboy is like to my left. I think he ended up becoming a socialist at the end. I'm not a socialist. I'm like, honestly, I need to read more about this. State capitalism doesn't seem so bad to me. Not fully fledged, but not even planned economies, but like having heavy state intervention and nationalization of certain industries seems like it makes sense, right? Like when it comes to banking, for example, I think it probably makes sense to have a public option for banking, because some of the highest profit margins of anything are in the financial industry when it comes to credit cards, debit cards, all that stuff. I think having a public option for banking, I think perhaps just nationalizing energy. I think having a massive public option for housing, including middle class housing as well. Do you think Scandinavian SOCDEM style markets work here? They can work here. They do typically imply higher taxes on the middle class. And actually, in those Scandinavian countries, though, they don't mind that they have to pay more taxes because they genuinely have pretty high trust in institutions, high trust in government, because their government actually gives them something. Is that not how credit unions kind of work in a sense, right? But I'm talking about at scale. I think federally, it's probably a good idea to have a public option for banking, to compete with Chase and actually have a scale to do so. What type of strain theory mode do you think you go in? I actually don't know. What is strain theory mode? Maybe I'm blanking on. Hosts that we need to spend efficiently. The government is great at that. You have brilliant ideas. This is true. I mean, you can say it flippantly. The GAO and inspectors general have an extremely high rate of return. I believe that for every $1 the government spent on the GAO and inspectors general, they brought back $26. $26 for every $1 sounds pretty damn efficient. The IRS, I believe it's $7 for every $1 you spend on the IRS. You get back $7 in return because they can more adequately enforce the tax law and bring in more revenue. I believe that when you compare Medicare to private insurance, they have lower administrative costs. There's a lot of middlemen that are taken out of the picture. So you can flippantly say, oh, yeah, private markets are so efficient. Not necessarily true. Just not the case. I mean, you can have inefficiency and efficiency in the public and private sector. It depends on what you're talking about. I would not support an economic policy like China wholesale. I do like that China builds a lot of housing. I know they have an issue with this idea of like ghost towns or like they build too much housing. But as far as I'm concerned, I would rather have too much housing than too little housing. If we have to pick a problem to have, I'd rather have too many homes than too little homes. So in regards to China's industrial policy and China's public infrastructure, their public transit systems, I am jealous. Their trains, the train that goes through the building, America should be able to have nice stuff, okay? And it creates jobs, right? If we just had a massive $3 trillion infrastructure program, you would create so many jobs. You would generate so much increased tax revenue. You could possibly end up with something that's revenue neutral in the end when you take into account increased corporate tax revenue, increased income tax revenue, and you're also employing people. So I think doing a public works program, building an national transit system. I mean, the dream to me in a utopian society is having some sort of train system that connects all 48 states in the contiguous United States. The federal government operates the lines that connect each state, and then the state and local governments can operate lines within the states. You can have hubs in each state for the capital. For big states, you can have multiple hubs, like maybe in Texas, you have a hub in Austin, in Houston, you know what I mean? In Michigan, maybe you have a hub in Detroit and also in Lansing. And then from those hubs and the lines that connect different states run by the federal government, then you can have smaller branches that go off from those hubs to smaller cities within that state that are more under the purview and understanding of the local and state government. Now, is that expensive? Would that take a long time? Yes. Is it still desirable? I think yes. And it'd be nice to get good infrastructure in this country. It'd be nice to not have potholes everywhere, and to have infrastructure we can be proud of, right? Like, it's kind of embarrassing to see the United States claim excellence while slashing funding for all these programs, while China is building like high-speed rail, and Japan has like maglev trains that are going fucking like Mach 2 or whatever, and they're cutting through buildings and mountains and stuff, and they're connecting the entire country, and like people don't need a car, and the positive spillover effects are just so immeasurable. We need to build more stuff in this. That's what I come down to, honestly. Just build more stuff and give people healthcare. Right. Okay. I think that's enough yapping for today. I appreciate everyone for watching. Do you believe that society should divine rule? Are you sober right now? I never specified. Yeah, I literally specified I'm talking about specific economic programs, not their entire system of government. Do you believe society should pay for better prison reform or rehabilitative programs? Yes, I think so. I think we need to do more research into criminal psychology and neuroscience. I would assume some criminals cannot be rehabilitated. They cannot be reformed. If someone's committing mass unalivings or sex crimes, I don't know that we can just rehabilitate them. I mean, I guess if it's possible, we can try. I really, really doubt it. But when it comes to robberies and things of that sort, property crimes, especially when people are getting involved in criminal lifestyles from a young age, like your proclivity to commit crime as a lifestyle goes up a lot if you get started young, because at a certain point you're like, okay, I have no options above board anymore. Nowhere's going to hire me. No school is going to accept me. I might as well embrace this lifestyle. And I think having more social programs for people, expanding, this is a big thing people don't talk about, expanding access to like extracurriculars. A lot of crime takes place when people just are living in dire socioeconomic straits, and they have a lot of time that is not filled up in a sense, right? Like I've seen actually Destiny make this point, and he's correct about this, that like if you're upper middle class, you go to school, you come back, you have like a prep with your tutor, you have soccer practice, you have tennis practice or whatever, then you have like a book club, or you know what I'm saying? Like there are things that are socially constructive that are baked into your routine, and if we make those more ubiquitous, I think that probably makes things better, right? One thing I'm a huge fan of is there is a certain, we learned about this also in the economics of crime, there's a certain social or like status-based aspect to crime, which applies more to organized crime and gang crime, where it becomes like, if I want to prove my masculinity or my status in this community, I have to engage in certain criminal activity or like show my allegiance to like a certain gang. I think a lot of this energy which exists with especially young men, like the reality is most crime is committed by men between the ages of like, what is it, like 18 to 35, something like that, right? There is a lot of pent up, I don't know, aggression and lack of social status and meaning and like fitting in and stuff. I think like it'd be really cool if public schools offered like extracurriculars in terms of sports, like boxing. Honestly, I think combat sports, when you look at this like epidemic of like young men doing violent shit and like acting unhinged, sometimes I think they would be better served to have an outlet to do that in a safe, legal, socially constructive way that doesn't promulgate antisocial behavior. So I really think that offering people every school, if they just had boxing class, publicly funded, I think people would sign up for that, and I think that would actually reduce a lot of crime. I don't think they want everyone to have the same opportunities. This is the issue. This is the issue. CTE would go crazy. I mean, you can have parents filling out forms and stuff, and honestly, you don't have to have people sparring, right? Like, a lot of boxing is pad work and hitting the bag. Unless these people want to compete, they don't have to spar. They can do light sparring, right? I mean, with headgear and like 16-ounce gloves. And honestly, like this is just like a little bit of my own personal. People are so quick now to be like, oh, we're gonna resolve our. How do I say this? If you're in a situation where people are going to resolve their issues with violence, which they should not, but if you're in that situation, I'd much rather that violence be hand-to-hand combat with some kind of rules of the road than like people getting shot in the head. I think that's cowardly. This is like a certain thing when it comes to like fighting of like I don't know, like having an honor code or some shit. And there's certain aspects of meaning as well that I think people get out, especially competitive sports. So creating more avenues for people to feel community and purpose and push themselves physically and mentally and learn discipline. Probably good stuff. Were you running fades on campus or what? Hell no. I'm very much like, I know how to box. I trained boxing for 2 years now. I paused my training in July or August because I was like traveling a lot. I should probably resume that. But I know how to fight, but I never want to have to be put in that situation where I have to fight. I believe pretty heavily in like a pacifism in day-to-day life. Even if someone comes up to my face and like calls me a slur or something, I don't know that it's a great idea for me to punch that person in the face and then I end up getting arrested for assault. And there's a video on Twitter of like, look how violent the brown people are. I think broadly speaking, like lawless acts of violence on the streets is not good. I think you should probably still know how to fight for self-defense purposes. And in reality, actually, boxing is not what you want to learn if you want to learn how to protect yourself. Jiu-jitsu and wrestling are more universal and easier. Is the guy on top alive? It's just a paused YouTube video. I high-key am too unmotivated. I don't know why. Whole host of reasons. I mean, this is a big epidemic in the country. It's like a lack of... I think, honestly, Gen Z has, like, serious dopamine issues. Myself included, obviously. Where, like, there's, like, a lot of... Especially with social media and TikTok. There's such a culture of instant gratification. And the more you train yourself mentally to have a low tolerance for friction and pain and adversity before you get a reward, the less resolve you're going to have, the less motivated you're going to be. Practicing deprivation in certain regards, like abstaining from things that make you feel good just for the sake of abstaining and developing self-control, I think is probably a good thing. And it's not just TikTok. I think it's the internet. I've one of my hottest takes is that I think it's possible when it's all said and done that the internet was a net negative. I don't know right now that it is a net negative. I think it's great that we have, like, you can communicate all over the world. You can call your family overseas. You can share information. You can read books. You can watch documentaries. But the way that our evolutionary biology has been hacked by these companies that are literally doing brain scans on people, and there's dopamine labs that's learning, like, how do we design our UI in this app to maximize user retention. All of this stuff is troubling to me. And it gets into a very predatory place where it's like supply and demand stops working when the producers can hack your demand function, right? When they can track how long you look at things, what you click, what colors pop more to you, what sorts of sounds and like videos and pictures are catching your attention, and they can develop formulas off of that. They can have dynamic pricing, right? This idea that you can go into a store and for the same product, everyone is seeing a different price based on the company's estimation of their demand for that product. That destroys the market mechanisms of setting prices, right? If I can walk in somewhere and Walmart knows I really need toilet paper, and someone else doesn't really need toilet paper, but they might buy it if it's cheaper. Maybe that person gets it for $2, I get it for $5, exact same good, right? Their capitalism and markets just completely stop working, and it becomes something else. That's not capitalism anymore. Or I guess it's capitalism. It's not markets anymore, right? Those are no longer markets. It's just like psychological warfare. Is that Sneeko? That is not Sneeko. No Nut November. I don't know about that. I think you can also go too far sometimes with the dopamine fasting and stuff. I think like there's always a healthy balance to find with things. Heike thinks my medication make me unmotivated. Here's another thing, right, with medication and stuff. I think everyone in the United States should have easy and free access to a highly qualified psychologist. No matter where you live, how much money you make, what your education is, if you are having mental health issues, you should have easy and free access to a highly qualified psychologist. One way to do that is pay psychologists a lot more. They do a very important job. Same with public school teachers, right? If you want more of something, you have to incentivize it. Pay public school teachers more. Pay psychologists more. Pay social workers more. And make access more ubiquitous. Divine Rule here seems to think government bad, private companies good. And this is the extent of his understanding. Yeah. So many problems would be solved in this country, actually. If you were to ask me what is the biggest issue in the United States right now, I would say it's probably the mental health crisis. I think by far. Physical health is probably number 2, right? Even a lot of the nastiness in our politics, increases in antisocial behavior, people having less social connections, people having less sense of community, all of this stuff is exacerbated when people are not mentally healthy or self-actualized or physically healthy, when they have chronic pain, when they have depression, anxiety, ADHD, OCD, autism, all this stuff. In my mind, this is more important even than the roads and bridges I love so much, even more than single-payer healthcare. The number one crisis in the United States in 2020, in the 21st century, is the mental health crisis, which has been caused and exacerbated by the proliferation of the internet. Single payer would help as well. I agree. Access to healthcare, right? The fact that anyone ever has to say maybe I shouldn't go to the doctor because I don't know if my insurance covers this. I don't know if I've hit my deductible yet. I don't know if I'm going to have to pay partially out of pocket for this medication. I don't know if I can take time off of work to go see a doctor. So I'm going to ignore this chronic pain. Oh, what do you know? 5 years later, it's fucking cancer, right? So much chronic disease and chronic pain and mental health ailments could be prevented if we had better preventative care, better nutrition, right? People gave Michelle Obama shit for like the healthy food program. It wasn't implemented in the best way, but I think encouraging healthy eating, I don't know if this is a right-wing stance. People have said this is a right-wing stance. I don't think it is. I think raising standards for public education is probably a good thing, right? Like, people should be able to do a certain number of push-ups and be able to run for a certain duration of time and have like good cardiovascular health, good core strength, upper body strength. You don't have to be fucking Bradley Martin, right? But like, I think if you graduate high school, you should be able to do 10 push-ups. Like, not on your knees, like the half push-up thing, just 10 push-ups, okay? I've seen arguments against this, that it's like, it's mean to kids or something. I don't get that at all. Like, if someone has like a health issue that stops them from doing that, then that's a separate question. If someone is obese or not getting proper nutrition at home, we should help them. Don't shame them. Give them more attention, help them more with physical health. But I think having basic standards, running a mile, doing 10 push-ups, being able to just do bicep curls with like even with like a 20-pound dumbbell, like a couple sets, right? This should be ubiquitous. And yes, Pete Hegseth should learn to do pull-ups. Pull-ups, yeah. Even pull-ups, yeah, upper body strength, which, and this isn't to talk down on anyone or shame anyone, right? Like, I think some of the aversion to this is like, oh, we're like fat shaming people or we're like bullying people. No, this should be constructive and positive, right? Like this is good for you if you aren't getting access to good food at home. If you're living like a very sedentary lifestyle, then we as a public school staff, as teachers, as gym teachers, doctors should step in and try to help you to be better, to live a longer, healthier, happier life. That's pretty basic to me. Make America healthy again. Physical health is good for your mental health. True. Very true. Very, very, very true. So many mental health issues, not to trivialize anything, but in many cases, mental health issues can be fixed by just, maybe not fixed, but decreased in intensity by just going on a run, literally. And that's not to say if you have like actual clinical depression, it's going to fix you, but mental health issues become a lot less difficult to endure in some cases. I mean, it varies when you just are moving your body around and you're getting your blood pumping. And it's so annoying to me that the right wing has claimed ownership of like health and fitness culture. It's so I hate it so much. Especially when Mr. Piggy is the president. Like, I don't get it, dude. I don't get how Trump said quiet piggy to that one. That has been on my mind. That I will never body shame anyone, okay? But sometimes with these people on the right, you have to speak in a language they understand. And for someone who is literally built like a human pig hybrid to be saying quiet piggy to people is so crazy to me. I don't understand that. And this is the party of Make America Healthy Again. Yeah, for sure. It's only ours because your side rejects it and rather swallow pills. What's wrong with swallowing pills? I mean, if you're working out, maybe taking creatine pills would be great. Protein, pre-workout, those are also pills. I know people on the right have a weird aversion to things that are in a capsule or in a syringe. It's like you never got over your fear of needles when you were 5. Medicine can be good for you. Supplements can be good for you. If you pair medicine and supplements with a active physical lifestyle and adequate mental health care, that's all good stuff. You have to be holistic. Can't pick and choose, right? If you want to eat raw deer testicles drizzled in honey with like a stick of butter on it and live the keto wild liver diet or whatever and die of heart failure when you're 50, you can do that. That's your prerogative. Okay. I think I'm actually going to hop off now. It's almost 2 a.m. Holy fuck. I did not realize the time. I should have hopped off a while ago. I thought you said 10 minutes. So did I. So did I. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for the birthday wishes. Thank you again to Dyson and Kyra, or Kira, one of those, for the birthday gifts on Cash App and PayPal. I appreciate everyone for watching. It is my birthday, yes. Happy 30th birthday. No. I've said before, Unk is a spectrum. I'm not yet on the Unk spectrum, right? Unk begins at 25. And I just turned 24. So I have one more year before you can call me Unk. Free Palestine, sanction Israel based. Yes. Six years older than me is Unk status? Damn. I'm 6 years older than someone who's 18. That's crazy. I feel like I was just 18 like a year ago. That's crazy. I'm getting kind of old actually. That's kind of crazy. I'm like half joking. I know like 20s isn't actually old. 30 is where it's time to start packing it up, right? Because I believe at your physical peak is at like 30 to 35. 24 is not old as fuck, bro. I was born after 9/11. I feel like that's young. Right? If you're born after 9/11, I feel like you're not unk yet. 30 is the new retirement, yeah.